I've never seen Hasan giggle like that before.
The IRA, for example, did a lot to like instill fatigue in the British public. There's nothing like that.
Are you trying to insinuate that there should be a terrorist cell in America?
If you're going to talk to Bernie Sanders again, scream at him in the face.
Yeah, that seems like the stupidest thing in the entire world.
The average Asmongold fan is either a rabid neo-Nazi or the absolute dumbest person you've ever encountered.
I wonder who else's community are those two things.
Who do you think did 9/11?
A little bit here, a little bit there.
What do you mean a little bit here, a little bit there?
Do you
Not
actually
on
want to talk
stream.
about the React stuff? Because it might go bad for you.
Oh,
That's where Ethan Klein gets all the shit he makes up about himself from Israel. They mailed me the skulls.
why are you co-signing this unless you think that Ethan is lying about the human skulls?
Dude, it's just a visit from CPS.
Traumatizing his kids? Who cares?
There's nothing dumber than a slop tuber enjoyer who unironically has an
True,
inflated
dude.
sense of intelligence.
He's just slopping it up, occasionally doing some more seriously toned videos so he could be like, guys, I'm not a slop tuber. I actually do politics. I'm a politic guy. You're a political slop heap. If these three weren't just so unhinged, this would almost be a cute little boys club. All right, let's get this going already. It's a pretty long conversation. I'm curious about it. Apparently Hasan Parker and Van Empanada have a conversation on Noah Sampson's charity stream. I think he's dressed like a cat-made thing as like a reward for raising a certain amount of money. I think they raised a good amount of money, so God bless them. Curious about the conversation. Apparently it's a little crazy. So let's get it going.
What I would only go after Ethan Klein, Hasan. I don't have the
Wow. Good jump scare right off the bat.
beard. It doesn't work anymore.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Streamer, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, I can hear you as well. Perfect.
Hell yeah. What up, dude?
Heck yeah.
Okay.
Hey, don't say bad words.
Perfect. All right.
Hasan
Wait,
Parker.
No more cuss words.
Can't see you, Noah. Is that normal?
Oh, no. I'll
No,
turn
he's the
my...
moderator.
It's going to be webcam. Yeah, I'm like
The moderator? Is this supposed to be like a legit debate?
the moderator.
Okay.
I guess I'm the debate. This is the clash of... This is...
Hasan Parker, I bet you thought that you were safe. Ethan called you
Dude.
out for being scared of me. You know, Ethan
Dude,
was
why-
very
why-
adamant. Why don't you
I can't-
debate that empanada?
I can't believe
Hasan looks relaxed here. Very strange. It looks like relaxed and almost happy. It's so surprising.
I'm in the presence of such a monstrous tanky.
Yeah. My understanding is like Bad Empanada has legitimately denied the Holocaust. Just to be clear, like we're not talking about our normal Hasan Parker orbiter here. We're talking about like the final. This is like the mini boss. You know, if Hasan Parker is Darth Vader from the first Star Wars game we played yesterday, then Bad Empanada is the mini boss that I had to turn the game on easier mode to beat because I didn't know it was the last boss, and I played the whole thing on the hardest difficulty, and then still regretting that one.
Who wants the America Empire to end? This
They're going to
violent
ask you this one at
tanky-
TSA. They're going to ask you about this one at TSA.
This dangerous man. I just can't.
Sorry.
About the dangers of platforming. This dangerous man.
Yeah,
I just came in here to talk to you about the dangers of platforming.
Such a dangerous guy.
People with bad empanadas opinions. I think in order to balance it out, you need to have, just straight Hitlerian Israel defenders on.
Hitlerian. Wow, I've never heard that term before.
I think that's true liberalism. That would be progress. I think.
Like one on
I
each side of
guarantee
me.
you.
Yeah.
Devil
I'm
and
here,
devil
well,
and
I'm here
angel.
as a defender of the Democratic Party, specifically
We know.
Bernie
The defender of the Democratic Party.
S.S. Sanders.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm here to defend the Democratic Party's position because I think that they're working tirelessly around the clock for a ceasefire. And I think
Yeah, might have had a little more headway if if Kamala was president, but we didn't support her enough. Some people didn't support her enough.
people like Bad Empanada don't understand or appreciate that Kamala Harris would have been different in the way she dealt with Israel. Yeah.
Yeah, but you kind of didn't heavily advocate for her to be voted for. You could have probably had a pretty good amount of. You should have been more explicit about it, but okay.
She would have invaded. A coalition of the willing would have been put together, and she would have invaded Tel Aviv by now. That's what I think.
I mean,
Concur?
yeah, that's
Empanada?
precisely what I think you believe. So next time you meet Bernie Sanders, are you going to yell at him?
No, I'm not going to yell
I don't know, man. I feel like Birdie probably knows enough about Hasan at this point to just not associate with him anymore.
at him because I'm not a freak, and I'm not going to yell at.
So
I'm not going to here. If you want to have an honest conversation, a serious conversation, I had an entry point in that conversation with Bernie and AOC as well, but unfortunately they were literally late to their rally to begin with, so we didn't get to talk thoroughly about it.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if they'll give me another interview at this.
I remember back when Hasan was upset. Like they did the Among Us, but then at one point he was like upset with her, so he talked a lot of shit about her online. And I'm surprised she gave him the time of day. But I think that she's just trying to access as many different platforms as or individuals as you possibly can.
At this point, because like I have been very critical of their position on Israel, and I've been talking to other people in their like other people like Faz and numerous
Freddie Fazbear,
others behind the scenes to try to get them to engage in direct action. Aside from the rallies that they're organizing, because I thought that it would be beneficial both politically and also beneficial for bringing about humanity to the politics that they represent. But it would be politically beneficial for them to organize a protest or a rally or do something around the unjustifiable detention of Mahmoud Khalil. And that was actually in that 9-minute conversation that we had. That was my entry point into it. Like I was going to talk to him about this on First Amendment grounds and basically get a better assessment, better understanding of what his position is, and to maybe even talk to him further about like why he calls it, why he consistently brings about the issue of Israel, but like only focuses on Benjamin Netanyahu, or why he doesn't call.
Well, I think that's because the primary bad person in this instance would be Benjamin Netanyahu, right? Like an oppressive governmental force. I mean, that's something that we even have in our country. So I think that we should be at least somewhat sympathetic to the fact that like the actions from elected leaders don't necessarily represent the people, at least not the mainstream amount of people. Yeah, I think it's better to focus on the Israeli government than Israeli people. I think Israel has a right to exist. It's just the government's fucking crazy.
Call it a genocide, because these are, I think, valid questions to ask someone like Bernie Sanders, especially because
does he not call it a genocide?
Brings about the issue of Israel, but like only focuses on Benjamin Netanyahu, or why he doesn't call it a genocide. Because these are, I think, valid questions to ask someone like Bernie Sanders, especially because my expectation of someone like Bernie Sanders is
I'd actually like to know that too, because I like Bernie Sanders a lot. I respect him. I wonder what his rationale for that. Bernie Sanders has not explicitly used the term genocide to describe the situation in Gaza. He's been a vocal critic of Israel's actions in humanitarian. I mean, it's possible he doesn't think it's a genocide. It's also possible that he wants to reserve his language to try to be more appealing to people on the more conservative, like in a more conservative party. Be like, yeah, it's bad, but they don't use the word genocide, so that doesn't seem inflated, even if that is what it is. I don't really know.
Is that he's supposed to be infinitely more knowledgeable on the situation than like the average Democratic Party politician is supposed to be, given his long history of being an out and about socialist, and even sometimes like offering critical support to, with some notable exceptions like Yugoslavia, offering critical support to even revolutionary socialists or even like anti-imperialist militancy throughout his career. I want to like, my expectation from him is someone who has been definitely more, dare I say, radical, even though that doesn't really mean anything in American politics.
Level of truth to that, considering how radicalized right-leaning politics are right now. It does lead to the rise of people like Hasan Parker, because like, yeah, he's radical on the left, but I mean, like, who's in charge of the government right now? Trump's government's very radical right-leaning. So
my expectation from him at this point would be to
I mean, what's like the status quo is right now trying to suspend due process and habeas corpus for really no other reason than to try to get illegals out of the country, which I understand, wanting to take care of the illegal immigrant problem, but it just seems like a drastic step considering we're not exactly in the toughest spot. You know what I mean? Like, it's not destroying our country. We get a lot of free labor from immigrants. Not that we should allow people to come in here illegally. We could go harsher on the border than Biden did, but I don't think it's unreasonable. I don't think it's reasonable to take the drastic steps that he's gone through so far.
Be leading the charge of stopping all aid to Israel and issuing boycotts and divestments and threatening sanctions upon Israel.
Yeah, I mean, that's a nice idea. The problem is that like we can only really be so harsh on Israel as a country, because everything that we every time we engage in anything, it has to kind of be understood that if we push too far, there are other countries. Oh, I thought I'd be able to grab that. Like Russia and China specifically, that would probably be willing to jump into the fray and try to put their influence into a place like Israel, which is a strategic position in the Middle East, and they do have a lot of technological advancements that we can take advantage of. And so if we push a little too far, then all of a sudden what ends up happening, Russia or China potentially sweeps in. They decide to be like, oh, well, we'll back you, we'll support you. I mean, Russia did give them financial support at one point. And then all of a sudden we lose our overall influence, which I think is a bad thing, because compared to these other two countries, I think that we are a better country. We're freer for our own people. You know, I'm not saying that we're perfect or amazing, but like we're kind of the we're kind of like the the best of the worst, I guess you could say.
But he's nowhere near there, and I think that's very disappointing as someone who is a big fan of Bernie Sanders, despite my differences in opinion with Bernie Sanders.
Okay, cool.
I think, as you said very well once, that Zionists should not even be allowed to be the local dog catcher. And Bernie Sanders well eclipses.
Well, just to be clear, that's not what he said. He said, no, Zionists and people who've ever had a positive sentiment about Israel are Nazis and don't even deserve to be a dog catcher. I think that that's different because it's one of those things where the mask comes off, and he's not just talking about far right wing Israelis. He's talking about anybody who's ever existed in Israel. That's the problem. Because if you're just like, oh yeah, I think it's fine that they exist, right? It's like the most progressive country in the Middle East. All of a sudden, like you're a Nazi. It's like, okay, that's crazy. That means everybody. That means everybody inside of Israel is a Nazi, according to him, which is fucking crazy.
This is the point of being a Zionist by any reasonable standard, even your standard, I'm sure. AOC, I'm not exactly sure. She seems to be a lot better than him, but
Yeah, I agree.
They are absolutely grooming her to be something that she probably didn't want to be initially, and it's working. So
what do you mean, president?
That's kind of sad. Sanders in like 2016.
What do you mean, president? I don't understand it. She probably is where she wants to be. I mean, if you're talking about in relation to Israel and Gaza, that's fine, but just understand that she's an American politician, and while I'm sure that's in her mind, it's not going to be the number one thing that she's going to advocate for.
It did seem to be something that was genuinely inconvenient for the party, but they have well and truly tamed him at this point, and I think it's been that way for a while. I think even in 2020, it was already kind of like that, even though he did still run for the nomination. He fell into line very quickly afterwards.
Yeah, I don't think he's. I think you're mistaking a lot of like Bernie's like genuine convictions and how wrong he is with him being a machine politician. Like I
mean, he can be wrong and still help the machine in the end.
Yeah, no.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's going to obviously help the machine in some capacity because you can only push back so much before you lose enough influence. So, like, I'm sure he does support the machine, but like relative to other people, probably not as much. I can appreciate Bernie. I know there's like a lot of people pushing misinformation about how he takes money from like big healthcare companies. He doesn't. He gets money from people who work for healthcare companies. Probably people who get fucked over just as much as your average American. But if they give more than $200, they have to report that, right? And then it gets reported like, oh, you have to report where your job is and et cetera. So it's like just people who just happen to work for it, right? So he takes, I think that he's one of the better, probably one of the best politicians. I think by extension, like, a couple of years, like 5 years ago, I wasn't a big fan of AOC. I thought she was a little too crazy, like left-wise. But in all honesty, as time goes on, like I like her more. I feel like she's made meaningful changes to be a little bit less intense. And then also, I guess so have I. I was kind of cringe on TikTok, but So hey, you know what? You can't. I've changed. She's changed. I like where she is now. I can respect it.
No, he did. He absolutely did. But I also think that Bernie Sanders is just he has this like old labor Zionist framework, I think, that is just utterly ridiculous, and that is something that he hasn't been able to shake away. But given what he has done in terms of offering support, in terms of being unafraid to endorse certain viewpoints, both on the activist front, but also on his also in terms of the people that he endorses, it almost feels like there's a sense of shame coming from him with regards to that contradiction that he recognizes to a certain degree. Maybe it's a little too parasocial, but I mean, I guess we are making analysis about politicians, so I guess that's not all that parasocial, but like, he's the type of person who has these opinions, but also won't get in the way of more radical perspectives. Like he's not, I don't think he uses any amount of time, in the finite amount of time that he has in mainstream political discourse, he doesn't use any moment of that to criticize like Hamas or Hamas defenders or anything like that, and instead focuses mostly on Israel, even if his focus on Israel is not even as radical as, of course, or not even as honest, let's not even say radical, not even as honest as Rashida Tlaib's analysis of the situation or Ilhan Omar's analysis of the situation.
Well, honest in what capacity? In the way that you feel like it should be talked about, or honest in the sense that like that's what he actually does or doesn't believe? Because like maybe he's just being consistent. Maybe he thinks that Israel is more of something that needs to be criticized, but he's not quite on, not quite as left leaning as you are. I mean, who's to say? I don't know. I don't like. I think it's maybe it's a misspeak. I just don't think that it's a productive way to talk about Bernie Sanders. I would say Bernie Sanders is like one of the most, probably the most honest politician I've ever seen. So, I think it's a little bit of a tough call to say it's dishonest, even if it's disagreeable or wrong in your opinion.
Or even, and I can't believe I'm saying this, AOC's analysis of the situation, who called it a genocide far before Bernie Sanders did. And if I'm not mistaken, he still has yet to call it a genocide.
Okay.
Yeah, he hasn't. But I mean, I think you're very, very generous to him. I think people are very generous to American politicians who specifically get into like a position of power, as Sanders has. like as soon as they become like an elected official, like the standards for them just go through the floor. Like you expect almost nothing from them, and it's excuse.
Well, I mean, you have to play the game. Like, it's nice to be a radicalized individual who has like a lot of like aspirations and dreams and ideas of where you want things to be. But at the end of the day, Bernie Sanders wants to be effective. AOC wants to be effective. And if they just sat here and said the exact same things that you did, they would no longer be in office and they would be shunned as a pariah. You know, inside of these online political activist spaces, you know, you're not held to any meaningful standard. A lot of times there's hate rage mobs, which Hasan and Bad Epanada engage with just as much as like other people. And so like they have to be aware of their position. And sometimes in order to make change, you can't be radical even if you want to be. You have to kind of meet the audience where they're at, but then a little bit to more progressively. You can't just be a fucking psychopath. But okay.
Excuse after excuse after excuse. I think Americans, I think I've heard you say this before. I mean, I might be incorrect. I might just be misremembering. But Americans love to say, like love to frame themselves as being like in like an exceptional situation that someone like me simply cannot understand, and therefore our politicians need to be more shit. I don't think it's politicians.
That's a misunderstanding of my analysis. My job is a communicator, as is your job, right? We're trying to make a convincing argument to get people to understand our worldview. And by the way,
I suppose
right, I don't think you and I. The reason why I always will maintain the position that your video essays are brilliant, regardless of your methods.
Well, is because you hate Ethan, right? Like you hated his video essays until you started criticizing Ethan. Let's be real. Just say that part.
Or the way you present yourself online is because I understand that you and I are on this issue and on virtually every other issue on the same side. But as a communicator, especially as a communicator that is in the United States of America, I understand the utter moral depravity of the average American, and I understand their lack of interest in these subjects.
Yeah, honestly, like they're not America.
So, in order to make a more convincing argument,
it's Noah Samson in the game, dude. Are you seeing this guy? Holy fuck!
I always try to message to the room that I'm speaking to, if that makes sense. And I think a part of that is also to grade politicians on a curve as well. This isn't to say that they're like doing fantastic or to defend them, but there are.
It's funny because if Hasan didn't live stream for like 10 hours a day, he would probably seem like a less unhinged individual. Like if you just see him regularly, you're like, oh, this guy makes sense. He's like he talks with a meaningfully, like in this conversation, and so he's actually charming and he's charismatic, and you're like, oh, I think I can agree with a lot of the things that this guy says. But then when you see him start to crash out on his live stream when he engages with Slop all day, as he pretends that he doesn't engage with Slop all day, all of a sudden you go like, wait, this is getting a little strange. This guy's fucking unhinged. Wait a minute, he doesn't actually mean the things that he's saying. Oh my goodness, he'll say horrific things about, you know, different groups of people that he disagrees with. He'll justify Russian oppression while sitting here and condemning Israel for engaging in similar tactics to Russia. It's very interesting. I'll say it's very interesting.
As you've also
maybe that's what he needs to do to be actually like, he's very successful, but I mean like more mainstream successful, is to stop live streaming.
Presented yourself, like there are certain instances where they engage in defensible actions.
He uses arrogance, maybe. I mean, I think that like we know who Hasan is because we see his crash outs. But maybe if he didn't have his crash out moments, maybe we wouldn't see them quite the same.
Like the nuance that exists between
like I know he's being arrogant, but if you didn't know who Hasan was, do you like, you know, you might have a different opinion.
AOC and Bernie Sanders is one that you recognize as well. But if you were to ask the average person that is like against both of these people, like people that look at it and say, well, these are both politicians that exist within a bourgeois capitalist duopoly framework. They're not doing what is necessary in this situation. I apply that nuance across the board. I apply that charitability and nuance across the board to all politicians that I talk to, or all politicians that I analyze in general. Like Chris Van Hollen is a great example of this, right? He's a regular run-of-the-mill Democrat. Do I think he's a good dude? Do I think he's going to bring about like a proletarian revolution? Fuck no. But and within the,
I have no idea who this guy is. I don't remember the guy, but there's a Texas Democrat that I like a lot. I forget what his name is, but he's really good. He's some fucking kind of weird looking white dude. I forget. Oh, it's this guy. Or is he a Republican? No, there's no way. No, James Tallarico. I like him a lot. You've seen some of his stuff. He's always like positively advocating for people. He's pretty great. I like him a lot. Like I would support him doing like a presidential
confines of Kilmar Abrego Garcia's return, or at least like kickstarting the conversation and getting Americans to pay attention to the immigrant detention structure that we have in the United States of America. I think what Senator Chris Van Hollen did, which was to fly to El Salvador and directly demand proof of life for Kilmar Abrego Garcia, was incredibly important. was incredibly important because it drove the media cycle. It led to more Americans finding out about this unjustifiable detention strategy that the administration is offering. So I guess basically what I'm saying is I understand the moral depravity of the average American and adjust my commentary appropriately to that. Just like
moral depravity. We're morally depraved. I think that's kind of ridiculous to assume we're morally depraved because we can't. Not everybody can look into the depths of nuance of supporting terrorist organizations that kill innocent civilians and treat their own people as human shields. I mean, I thought that you could grip that. Like, let's not pretend that like this is like the perfect victim here. Like, there's a lot of charitability you have to engage in to be more supportive of Hamas. So to say that we're morally depraved, you know, I think is a little ironic, especially considering how quick he is to again justify the oppression of you know, Western countries from non-Western countries. He really doesn't care that Russia is, you know, destroying Ukraine. He really doesn't care that there are Uyghur Muslims or there were Uyghur Muslims inside of, you know, camps, re-education camps that were oppressing them inside of China. There's really only like, hey, if the West does something bad, we criticize it. If it's somebody else, we don't really say too much about it. So I think that moral depravity is just kind of rich coming from a guy who's very cognitively dissonant on so many different perspectives.
I understand the lack of interest from the average American politician in addressing any of those issues, and I grade them on a curve.
Here?
Okay, but the problem is...
People, by the way, are saying, no, you got to restart stream because you're at 12 hours, sorry.
Does it cut the end off or the start?
I don't know.
Because if it cuts the start off, which I'm pretty sure it does, this is fine. Restarting the stream will fuck it up a little bit. Maybe not.
I don't know. Everyone is just saying restart. But you're the streamer. I've never streamed on YouTube, so I don't know. I don't know how it works on YouTube.
Fixing the audio.
It streams 12 hours.
Yeah, I've been streaming for...
Maybe Hasan should. I mean, isn't Amazon on like the BDS list or whatever?
For like 24 even.
Amazon owns Twitch.
Yeah,
what the fuck am I supposed to do here?
What the fuck, man?
Right. I do it on Twitch. So Twitch
doesn't look like it wanted to die within like a quarter of a Hasan Piker stream length.
To be fair, I ate hot chips. But...
Oh, you're so white. I mean, I am too, but...
Someone said it cuts the end off.
It cuts the end? Okay, then I'm going to restart. I don't know. Give me 1 minute. Hello, people.
Yeah, you're live again.
We just all agreed to support each other and agree with everything that each of us say always, and we're best friends and we're moving in together and we're roommates.
Yeah, I'm going to the Argentinian prison that you guys are streaming out of.
Jail.
You should just leave the US, by the way. I don't know why you don't just do that. I mean, I'm sure you have like 100 friends that you all love there.
This is actually a good point. Like, you should leave the US. I mean, doesn't the US give Israel endless amounts of money? Wouldn't it make sense to leave the US if you really were critical of them? No?
But you should just leave the US. It makes everything way easier. You can't get sued by Ethan Coin, for example.
Go to Israel.
No, I
True, go to Israel.
Well, I was just talking.
I mean, I would say go to like Canada or something. Like, honestly, I'm not even joking. I don't really see why not.
Talking about this earlier because there was like a prominent liberal academics who study fascism are leaving the United States, and here's why. There was like a New York Times article on it, but it's like I'm stubborn. I'm a very stubborn person, and I feel like I'd rather stick it out and see where it goes rather than to leave the United States of America.
I mean, maybe he thinks it'll give him less pull when it comes to American politics. I suppose that would be his argument.
Well, I used to think that the US actually was probably the best place to be because it's one of the few countries where you basically can't get arrested purely for speech unless you're like threatening someone. But now, no, obviously not.
Yeah, no.
Well, you do. You seem to go toe that line. My understanding is that this guy fucking like ended up getting like a little girl like killed from cyberbullying them. That's my understanding. So yeah, I don't know, man. He seems like not a great guy.
Now it's resembling more and more Israel every day. It's wonderful. My favorite country, the most moral nation. Israel high.
Yeah, so I hear you're a liberal Zionist, Hasan. And I hear
I'm a liberal Zionist. So going back to what we were talking about. The point I was
you said
trying to
a whole
make
thing. I never got the chance to respond.
Yeah, exactly. Like with Chris Van Hollen, do you understand my perspective or like the framework that I operate off of? Like,
you're saying that one individual thing they did was a good thing, basically.
Yeah. I don't shy away from politicians unless they're like insane. You know what I mean? Unless they're unless like Marjorie Taylor Greene, I guess, and I'm gonna look like a fucking clown ass. I don't shy away from giving credit to politicians and offering positive reinforcement to politicians when I feel like they're doing something that I think is appropriate, like moving the needle in the direction, because it's the same framework that I operate with within the Democratic Party, where like these are the available platforms of influence, and I will always go there because as long as our interests align, I have no issue going to those platforms, because at the end of the day, they are giving more legitimacy to myself than vice versa, in my opinion.
I mean, giving you legitimacy. Like, what's the point of that, really? What is the point of them giving you legitimacy if, in the end, you do kind of demonstrate support for them in many cases? That's the thing. I think people see you very much...
I mean, that's kind of the game, is it not? Right?
Much as a Bernie Sanders guy, even though that is sort of contradicted by what you said earlier. Maybe it's erroneous. But people very much see you as like a big Bernie Sanders supporter. I wouldn't say I see you as like a big Bernie Sanders supporter. I think I see you more as someone who maybe doesn't like what he says, but is a little iffy on making that clearer, which I think you sort of did just a second ago. I think you preempted everything I've said about you and you were ready with that. It's cheating.
No, I actually have talked about this quite a bit, even before and after your statements.
I mean, all we're talking about here is that you have to kind of like play the game to some degree. You know, you can't get everything you want. You need to push the needle to the left. You can't just say like unhinged shit about Israel and then expect like unanimous support from everybody.
As a matter of fact, but you know how it is with clips. You probably don't get that from.
I mean, I do watch what you say sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I don't click. I don't go to any place that posts like a clip saying, I don't think this place would even exist. Like Hasan Piker says positive thing about Bernie Sanders. Here's a 20-second clip of it. I don't know. What place would that be?
But I talk for 8 hours a day. It's very hard for you to in any, like, unless you're watching 8 hours a day, you're probably not going to see the exact same thing that I told you just now. I've spoken about probably 25 to 35 times whenever some chatter comes in and annoys me. And then I go on a fucking long and convoluted rant about.
You should stop reading your chat, by the way.
Yeah, that's part of the puzzle. That's part of how.
Well, I think that's part of what he likes to do. I think part of what he does to kill his time on his stream, because he doesn't have anything to talk about. He doesn't have like a constant thing to talk about, is to yell at chatters. I think that's a big part of what he thinks does. I think it's very cathartic for him, even if it makes him look unhinged.
How I do this back and forth, but
I like
it's
just
difficult
right now,
grab.
real quick.
What's up?
Like Banana, you made like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 videos talking about the AOC Bernie interview, and then I don't know how much
3 videos. What the fuck?
You watch of us on talking about it, but like just talking to each other now, clearing that
How many? How did you make 3 videos talking about it? What? That seems unhinged.
up. Do you feel like that clears up anything now that you see that he's kind of?
No, not really, because I think a lot of that, like there was the initial reaction to the interview, and there was like responses to people who want Hasan, responses to people like who want Hasan but were defending sort of like the whole idea of like engaging with the mainstream Democratic Party and like sort of trying to pull people to your side from them and stuff like that. And yeah, that was basically the whole thing there. It wasn't so much like I said something, Hasan said something, and I responded to it. It was more like that. What I would say is that Americans are way too optimistic with their former politicians. And if there is something you should preach, it's that these people are ultimately fucking useless and you're going to have to do shit yourself.
What does that mean? You're gonna blow something up?
Yeah,
So what does that look like?
Here's the thing. I understand.
Mario's brother?
What?
Sorry, go ahead, Hasan.
No, I understand that like the modern Democratic Party is entirely useless. The Democratic Party is well, it's not entirely useless. They can be put to good use on select issues or across the board.
Well, yes, they have to move the needle slightly to the left. That's what they're good for. You kind of have to meet the entirety of society where they're at.
Maybe one day it could, in a totally idealistic world, they could be a functional working labor party. Obviously, we're not there, and we might never get there. And I don't disagree with that. But this is, I just wanted to offer clarity on the framework that I operate off of, because I think that you and I both will recognize that Americans don't have a semblance of class consciousness. And I feel like at this stage, the most important thing you can do is to pull people back from reactionary discourse, pull people back from reactionary ideals. And the best possible way to do that is by constantly reasserting the position over and over again that the Democratic Party has to have a class first politics. And also that, these people that have been targeted as like vulnerable populations, marginalized identities that are presented as your enemy are not actually your enemy at all. It's simply a red herring, a distraction that the reactionary forces uses, and the Democrats are wholly incompetent at dealing with because they don't have this class-first politic.
Okay, first thing here is that the whole reason why you have this idea that you have to you're sort of stuck into working with the Democratic Party, it's not your fault, obviously, because you aren't every single person.
Because you have to. It's not really an idea.
Fucking United States of America. But this is sort of like a self-perpetuating circular logic. And I mean, I'm not blaming you for having, every American has it. It's like, we have to work within the Democratic Party because it's the only thing that's there. And
yeah, kind of. Unfortunate of a 2-party system. Why is he? Is this guy not from originally from America that moved to another country so that he could escape the law? I'm not understanding why he calls people Americans when he is basically an American.
Then you do not do anything, or you don't build an alternative to that.
Whoa.
And you just keep reinforcing the initial premise over and over again. So Americans are stuck in this sort of rut where it seems like it's completely unrealistic to ever challenge the 2-party system, so they don't try. And that's just sort of a self-perpetuating cycle. Because doing something like that takes a long time, takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of people. But this whole Democratic Party upright, people like Bernie Sanders as well, very much reinforce this, even if perhaps at some point he didn't mean to. Perhaps at some point he was really genuinely trying to challenge the status quo, and he only joined the Democratic Party because he thought he had to win the primaries. It's the only possible way.
Well, it probably is the only possible way. I mean, it's nice to be an idealist, but again, what can you really do?
Independent and no chance.
It's just so weird in this conversation. It's just there's so many instances of just sounding so out of touch with how to actually get things done. It's just so weird.
He probably didn't in that moment. But then there's also the fact that
he's not American. Where is he originally from? Doesn't he live in fucking Hitler escape land or something, right?
That logic gets you into this rut where you never ever try to do anything.
Like, isn't he living in a part of the world where a bunch of Nazis went to after World War II to escape being killed?
Else. And there are many other countries where that had very strong two-party systems that in some cases lasted for like hundreds of years. The two-party system in the USA is younger than in some of those countries that broke it. And they very slowly worked from the ground.
He's Australian. Oh, okay.
Up, like starting with local politics, building up to like the state level, building up to like the national level, building alternative structures, using the political capital they got from that, not like immediately running for president, nothing else like the fucking Green Party or something. What a fucking joke that is. Like they do nothing to run for the main office. But what I mean is like, you have to start small. You have to build up from that until you can eventually challenge on the main stage. Now, the issue of this logic from me now is that it's too late. Honestly, I'm not sure that we have time for this sort of thing before the consequences of climate change basically take over the agenda entirely, and whatever political system we're trying to get into in this way just totally breaks down. So, I mean, I guess people should still do it, but what I'm trying to say is...
I mean, the thing is about when it comes to climate change, Americans aren't going to necessarily care too much about that. Obviously, it is bad, but the first people to see the negative impacts of climate change are truly going to be like second and third world countries, because like we have technology to offset some of like the negative impacts of climate change, which are going to be, really like on a personal level, it's going to get either really hot or really cold, depending on what's going on. And we have the ability to adjust the temperature much easier. Like, it's silly, but we have like air conditioners. It sounds like dumb, but it like really is a big thing. So like these other poorer, more vulnerable countries are going to be the first to feel these issues.
Americans have like the circular logic.
Increased like what is it called? Natural disasters is another thing. Again, there are going to be parts of America that are going to experience that, but again, we can offset that with like robust institutions like FEMA. Well, maybe we can.
It very much serves the Democratic Party as well. It is so good for them. And I think that by sort of working with people like Bernie Sanders, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, irrespective of who they are, as individuals, of whether they are genuine or not genuine, and whether they are great people or not, whether they truly believe in some of the shit stuff that they perhaps forced into advocating for just to stay in line with the Democratic Party, all of that doesn't really matter, because ultimately what they do is they serve this purpose where they give people this idea that you have your voice in the party. You have your voice here in the party already. AOC is there for you. Bernie is there for you. They're already fighting for you. You don't have to do that much yourself. Maybe you can go to the protest yourself. Maybe you can,
I guess,
do something like that. But by golly, you did not try to make your own party. You don't try to do something independently. You don't try to like build.
Well, wouldn't they be kind of like the way to go? It's for like some kind of independent thing. I feel like like that, they're the closest you're gonna get. I mean, you kind of have to function within the system. What we're effectively the purest form of this would be to support a third party candidate, and it's just probably not going to happen. There's really no reason to connect yourself from the best opportunity of winning. What you're better off doing is trying to like invade the party in some capacity, and then trying to support laws that would make it like a three-party system and or really what you want to do is support ranked choice voting. Somehow run on the ticket of ranked choice voting, which I think could be sold to Americans more easily than people think. I mean, the sell point is like, hey, instead of voting for who you want to win, you vote for everybody, but you rank them differently. So let's say it's like, 2028, it's Obama, Trump, because they got rid of that, whatever the fuck that would stop you. It's Obama, it's Trump, and it's and Gingle Snort. I don't fucking know. Somebody. Instead of being like, okay, I'm going to vote for Gingle Snort, what you do is you vote for, like, you'd be like, I like Gingle Snort the most, but then, like, I like Obama as the second, pacer. And then Trump's my third. And so people would like the lowest votes win at that point, right?
An apparatus
entirely
independent of the party, not like the DSA, but entirely independent of it, where you actually build it into something that can meaningfully threaten them and the two-party system, and thus meaningfully start putting pressure on your government to actually really do something internationally as well. And Americans have really failed at that more so than any people in the world, which is, I think, like people say, like the US is the belly of the beast, it's hard to do this. I don't think that's true at all. For one, until Trump, the US had the best free speech laws in the entire world, pretty much. You can say basically anything. You could support Hamas. It doesn't matter. Like, that's a great environment for that sort of thing. It's a really good environment for that sort of thing, if anything. Obviously, the electoral college is fucked. That makes it a lot harder.
Like the stream.
But I mean, Americans never even really tried to get to the steps before that, which is like the Senate and
I can't believe Noah Sampson's just sitting there listening to this. He's not even talking or anything. Like, that's so fucking boring. He's not even playing a video game, dude.
Congress, where those things are less bad. So I feel like there is absolutely a failure in the US for whatever reason. Obviously, people, like And fucking Twitter Marxists would tell you that's just the way it is. It's a bourgeois-controlled political system, whatever. But whatever the reason is, the US is the country, and the people of the US have the most power politically as a bloc of anyone in the world to get shit done for people in other countries. But paradoxically, they do nothing. And
by the way, I agree with everything that you said, and it is also a part of my vision. That's why I talked about class consciousness and instilling class consciousness, and also working on building movements outside of the party, and not like community organizing, even though that can be valuable as well, but specifically labor unions and building a network of pressure that could actually that actually creates maybe even down the line a third party. I'm not against this at all. And this is not something that I think in opposition to, with the exception of what you just mentioned, the Green Party, obviously, because I think the Green Party...
I mean, I feel like it makes sense to advocate more for a direct third party creation, like ranked choice voting, than it makes sense to advocate for... I mean, I get like what he's talking about. Like, I don't think it's bad to have labor unions and whatnot. I think some way of trying to, balance the scales is good for workers, obviously. But I'm just saying, I just feel like there's probably better ways to... better ways to function when it comes to trying to advocate for a third party to be more prominent.
Party is they're jokesters who only come around every 4 years, I mean, I think this is yet another point of, it's just another point of like not knowing the full scope of my perspective on this.
Like, I'm not here to argue with you. I'm not here to argue with a clip of you or something. I'm talking to you.
No, exactly. And I'm telling you, like, I agree with you completely. And that's a part of my framework.
In what I was responding to there was what you said about making the Democratic Party more class conscious specifically. I think,
I think that's impossible. It's virtually impossible. That's why I said it would happen only in an idealistic society. But my goal...
I don't think it's impossible. I mean, one of the problems with trying to get people to be class conscious in the United States is that, like, we're kind of there's a huge intelligence gap in the United States, right? Like, there's people are getting dumber and people are getting smarter depending on how robust the services in your state are. If you have like pretty robust, if you have money and you live in a good area, you're going to have a good schooling and you're going to have like a high opportunity to, be intelligent. But if you're dumb, if you don't have that, it's just difficult for people who are smart and people who are not to communicate in a more meaningful capacity.
Goal is to use the platform that I have and expand on it so that I can, once again, move people away from reactionary politics and help them focus on a class first politics. And wherever that goes, if there is a mechanism that can push the Democratic Party into actual submission to class first politics, then that's great. If that doesn't work, and there's an alternative, if there's an alternative third party out there, the only way that they will reach viability if it's backed by a strong labor movement that actually engages in labor militancy. And even then, I'm not entirely confident that like this can happen in the United States of America. But the reason why I speak on my perspective in the way that I do is because I'm speaking to Americans. And unfortunately, you got to make a lot of burger analogies if you want to get Americans on board. You have to give them hamburgers. Americans are either repulsed by what they perceive to be left politics. I'm not even talking about like revolutionary socialism. I'm talking straight up like basic bare minimum social democratic functions that are afforded by every other comparable OECD state is seen as like radical in this country. Socialism in and of itself is seen as a pejorative in this country. That's why people say like Nancy Pelosi's the worst thing imaginable. She's a social.
Well, I think they say more because she makes a lot of money. I don't know. She's like her and her fucking husband like a ton of money, no? Like, do they not? Right? Like, don't they? They're just part of like the political system that doesn't really get shit done. I feel like any politician who does some kind of stock trading, I don't know. It's just fucking. It doesn't look good to me. It just looks suspicious as fuck to me.
Socialist. Like, obviously, that kind of stuff is really stupid, but I think it's indicative of the average American's perspective on this stuff, considering that America won the Cold War and this is the imperial core, and therefore. Most of our working class is just either completely oblivious to class politics in and of itself, and utterly confused by the notion of class consciousness, or they're incredibly angry at even the thought of it. Like they're repulsed by it, they get mad about it, which is why I have to temper my commentary on this front.
Okay.
Well,
I feel like if people watched you say that, I feel like if people watched you call them stupid and say you have to sell them burgers or you have to like advocate, and I understand what he's saying, that might be something that upsets people a little bit. No,
I think you got to be careful with this notion of class politics in the US, and for a completely different reason to what you said as well, because
did I actually learn this about
there is an element to the present system where Americans benefit greatly from doing things to other countries, or they could at least. They in many ways they don't, because Americans are too dumb to even advocate for getting their own fair share from imperialism.
Bro, I really don't think that you guys are doing yourselves any favors with the way that you're talking about people, honestly.
But
I talk about that all the time too. Yeah,
there's two options here, which is like you can.
Hey guys, we really want to reach the average American. How do we change everything? Yeah, they're all pretty stupid and love eating burgers. True, but probably not going to make us feel too good. about whatever change you want to implement.
Can appeal to Americans as in like, I'm going to get you a bigger share. That's Bernie Sanders. I'm going to get you a bigger share of the spoils.
Yeah.
Or you could appeal to Americans in a way where like they perhaps see beyond national lines and understand themselves as part of a broader whole of the world.
I think that's something that's missing in this conversation is the understanding of that the system that we engage in, which is not perfect, is working. And I'm not saying that to maintain the system, but what you have to understand is your average American is very afraid of change because most people are afraid of change. So their thoughts are like, okay, this sucks, but I know what this is. And so I'm more comfortable sitting on this than making a change that could potentially be worse. And that's something fundamentally that I think a lot of average American workers have learned just through working a regular job, right? Have you ever worked with like a real piece of dog shit at your job and then they get fired or they quit and you're like, thank God that guy's gone, and then you get somebody worse? That happens all the time. And so it's one of those things where it's like, you're better off with like the demon you don't know than the demon you do know. Or excuse me, you're better off with the demon you do know than the one that you don't. And so that's kind of how Americans feel. The average American feels about some kind of drastic change in America. So when you sit here and you try to sell people a big thing, like, yes, they're going to say, oh, it's socialism, it's bad. And like, that is ridiculous. But fundamentally, it makes sense where they're coming from. And that's something that you learn just intuitively as a worker that works a regular job. You work a regular job, you understand this intuitively, where I think a lot of people who stream online have been streaming since they were young and never worked like a meaningful job or a career. They just will be like, I don't understand this. What's this perspective? And it's one of those aspects that like makes you seem kind of disconnected from the average American. Like, you don't really get it. You don't really understand where we are coming from.
And I think if you, like what you were talking about with unions, for example, the average American labor union is like, it's basically like I wouldn't even call it a union, like in terms of like,
Brace calls them pig unions, which is not like cop unions, but like corporate unions or unions that are completely servile to the interests of the Democratic Party under the AFL-CIO.
Well, not even just that. Like, unions are themselves, in general, obviously narrowly focused on the interests of their members. So that's why you get things like the American Big Tent labor unions being like, oh, like let's get the Lockheed Martin float at a parade or whatever. A huge victory for the Lockheed Martin employees. 10% raise.
Yeah, you're mixing and matching a couple different things, but yes, I know what you mean. Of course. Yeah.
Well, what I'm saying here is that what you were going on about there was about class politics in the USA. I need to get people on board with this idea that socialism isn't bad. I think you're looking far too much into
the way that you get people on board with the idea that socialism isn't bad is by selling it better. Don't call it socialism, because it's really not necessarily. You know, stop labeling things. Americans don't like labels, guys. Remember, they don't like trans people. Labels scare Americans. Okay, stop labeling it. Just be like, yeah, wait, what if we did like a thing, you know?
Future of
the fuck do I go, by the way? I'm actually getting pissed off.
I'm not even thinking about fucking socialism right now. And people think I'm like a radical communist terrorist. Like, I'm not thinking about any of that shit right now. There's so many more immediate concerns that we have to work with, the systems that we have now. Ultimately, I have no faith in Americans of ever doing anything, unfortunately. Like, if you ask me, what are your solutions? I don't have solutions for you, buddy. We have a limited amount of time before she hits the fan.
Then they're probably not somebody that should be talking about the conversation. You don't have any meaningful solutions. What's the point?
I would have thought previously that something like what is happening in Gaza would cause like a Vietnam level like cultural like schism in the US. It hasn't actually caused it anywhere, not even in Europe, where places
20 years. And also there was direct.
Well, yeah, of course, but I think that's because right now people are living in a tough time. Like, you know, we're living in a tougher time relative now than we were back then, right? Like, the middle class has shrunken drastically over the past 50 years, especially since the Vietnam War. And that's what happens. When you're having a tough time, you care less about other people. It's a very simple and basic thing. And so you can't expect the social atmosphere to care about Gaza in America when they're still worrying about where they get their next paycheck. And now we even have a bigger issue. And the bigger issue is social media, which we didn't have back then. The reason that that's an issue is because there is a two-parter here. Part number one is people are getting treated unfairly. Part number two is that they're much more aware of it when they look at social media. You know, when you get your paycheck and you come home and, you know, you're struggling a little bit, it's not really that bad. You can get through it. But then you go on social media and you look at how well everybody else is doing, and then you should get jealous and frustrated and upset. And you're like, why don't I have this? I deserve this. This person does half the work I do. Why don't I get this? And then all of a sudden, you know, shit hits the fan and you're starting to spiral out of control. And you're like, this is fucking bullshit. Right. And then and then that keeps you contained into your atmosphere. And so, you know, well,
direct involvement with Americans actually going there to fight, which I think is...
That's true. We also don't have the drafts. Yeah, that's probably a good point as well.
The reason why there was a lot more resistance. Americans are inherently very selfish people. And until they're drawn into the fight themselves in a way that is more meaningful with a draft, not just like the poverty draft or not just necessarily like...
that's a good point, yeah.
a bunch of people that want to get a communications degree for free going out there and getting their dicks blown off while defending some fucking poppy field in the Karengal Valley, but like literally a draft. Only then will selfish Americans actually get up to aggressively protest in a militant fashion in a way that would truly harm the overall interests of the American State Department.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. It's the whole thing. It's the whole reason why we're in the place where we're in. The US does not have a rival anymore who needs to compete with that much in terms of geopolitics. China, I mean, I don't know what your stance is on China, but China doesn't do shit. China doesn't want to do shit. China just wants to mind its own.
Well, you know, he's very in support of China, so you're gonna fail off on that one there, buddy.
Yeah, that is a huge problem, really. You know, if China tried to do something meaningful regarding what's happening in Gaza, it would probably happen. Like, they would be able to do something about it very easily.
I talked about this just yesterday. I 100% agree. There was like a fake TikTok of like Americans dropping in aid that actually killed Palestinians, ironically enough. But they were literally recycling the American aid being dropped into Gaza, but this time like saying China was doing it. And they were like, oh my God, how wonderful that China's dropping aid into Gaza. And one, that was fake. China didn't do that. But two, if China wanted to, it's Israel's second largest trading partner. They could literally fucking say, hey, we are going to bring in our military and our NGOs to distribute aid on the Gaza Strip. What is Israel going to do? Say no to that? They can't fucking do that. Any country really.
Well, doesn't that kind of support the idea that if America doesn't support Israel, then it could potentially turn into like China taking over control of that country? It's just Hasan doesn't care about that. But I imagine, you know, China being at the forefront probably would care less about Palestinian people, no?
And that, like we saw with the tariff shit, how quickly Trump folded in the face of actual economic consequences from China. They could do something like that to the US if they wanted to. They could do it to Israel. Obviously, it would come at some sort of cost to themselves, but Trump would fold in 2 fucking seconds if China was like, hey, we're going to sanction Israel, or we're going to put tariffs on American goods or something like that. We're going to make the shit cost more. But China does not do that. And the USSR was in a position, it wasn't in an economic position, but it was in like a military position and a geopolitical position where it could put a ton of pressure on. So now we have a situation in the world today where the US is, it's not totally uncontested, but it is way, way more uncontested than it ever has been before. And we're looking at that in Gaza right now, and I can't tell you what to do about it at all. I can tell you what individuals could do. It would get me banned, so I'm not going to. Yeah. But still, even if we all did that, I don't think it would change that much in the grand scheme of things.
I don't disagree with you on anything. And also, like I said, this is the exact same shit that I say on my stream for the most part. I'll take it one step further as far as like China's lack of interest in undermining American footholds in its own backyard in the Philippines. I feel like if China operated in the same way as like America did, or even the fucking USSR did for that matter, they could just like arm the Philippine Maoists instead of working with the Duterte government as they did to disarm them and to actively work against them. That's a real destabilizing force in the country. And China doesn't even use it. Instead, they're just doing water spraying operations with their Coast Guard while simultaneously trying to set up an ASEAN security partnership where the Philippines are the only fucking party that refuses to sign on. Why do they refuse to sign on? Because they're comfortable being an unsinkable aircraft carrier for the United States of America. So they, like, I'm not, you know, I live in America, you live in Argentina, as far as I know. So obviously I'm not going to sit here and be like, Xi Jinping should do this, but that is my assessment. But clearly whatever they're doing has worked so far, at least in terms of like positioning China as a global hegemonic power. But yes, I do recognize that they're being self-interested to a degree where no one seems to care about doing anything to stop the Nazi Israel government from conducting its live-streamed child holocaust.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately...
I guess it just kind of feels like when you compare Israel to Nazi Germany, it just feels like you're trying to be anti-Semitic a little bit. But I guess, you know, others would just argue like, hey, it's also a pretty big form of oppression. But no offense, Gaza was, you know, well, I mean, maybe up until October 7th wasn't nearly as bad as the Holocaust ever was, just to be clear. Up until October 7th, like, there was a gaining population in Gaza, even if those people were basically, like, you know, forced to stay there. I'm not saying that it was great, but comparing it to the Holocaust, like 6 million Jews being genocided is, in my opinion, a little exaggerated. But you know what? Maybe I'm just ignorant.
It's just materialism in the end. China is extremely good at using the global system that the US set up, so why would they want to challenge it? That's how it is with everything. The Arab states, half of them are US puppets, the other half, they will probably get annihilated if they try to do anything uncoordinated without the US puppet states helping them. In many other cases, like, I feel like Israel has...
Yeah, it's like apparently 55,000 Palestinians were killed as of May 14th, right? 2025. So that's terrible. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying I think that there's probably a little bit of a difference. But you know what, maybe I'm wrong.
It's become something of an inconvenience for its allies at this point. But they're sort of too far in to really do anything about it. It's like, you know, it's been like 50, 60, 70 years of nothing but full support for Israel. So at this point, you know,
there's 2.1 million people living in Gaza. Right. So it's still terrible. I'm just saying I don't think it's quite Holocaust level, but you know what? Maybe whatever. Inviting that comparison just seems like a strange tactic to do.
What are they going to do, especially given that they would have to be, like the US would have to be the one to really pull the plug, and that's not going to fucking do it, is it? So, I mean, it's probably like the bleakest situation that I could imagine right now. Obviously, like Americans theoretically, as a block of people, like average Americans have a decent amount of power to challenge this, but they also themselves have no real reason, no real motivation for doing so, because ultimately, you know, what you said about Vietnam probably rings true. It does,
because it's not that important to people right now, you know?
Does not affect them that much. It affects some of them psychologically, and that is about it. They don't see any material consequences from it. You know, there has not been like a massive adverse reaction that could turn them against it.
It's supposed to like jump.
Like, for example, like the IRA, for example, did a lot to like instill like fatigue in the British public on their government to try and look for some sort of solution to the troubles.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that. There's
Are you trying to insinuate that there should be a terrorist cell in America that tries to influence people to advocate more for Gaza? I don't know. It's a little crazy to me, but okay. All right.
Nothing like it anywhere. Not at all.
Well, there's no situation historically that has existed where the captive population has been this thoroughly, at least in contemporary history that I can think of, where the captive population has been this thoroughly ethnically cleansed in broad daylight without any sort of material support to offer from other countries, right? Like,
is it an ethnic cleansing? I don't know. I just feel like is it? There's 2 million Palestinian people living in Israel proper, like not the West Bank or Gaza. They vote. They have this, you know, the same rights. I'm sure they're treated similarly to the way that we treat black people in America. I'm not sitting here and pretending that they're treated like perfectly equally, but this idea that there's some kind of an ethnic cleansing, it just doesn't really make. I don't know. It doesn't really add up to me. Oh.
Like, you have no Cuban example, you have no USSR example, and the role that they might have played in the ANC's efforts to resist against the apartheid structure in South Africa, and you certainly don't have American congresspersons doing arms trafficking to Hamas in the way that they did to the IRA. You had American conservative politicians of Irish background doing arms shipments to the IRA at a certain point. You could fundraise for the IRA in American bars, right? So very, very different set of circumstances here. And this coming also after the expanded surveillance state in the aftermath of the war on terror, with a shit ton of social conditioning that Americans totally signed off on, in terms of like Muslims and Arabs being worthy of only death and destruction. And they're all, you know, rapist, barbaric hordes. They're all ISIS. This kind of attitude is reflected broadly in American society or in Western society in general. But that's the silver lining that I see, because in spite of all of that, I think there's only so much dead children that the average Americans can look at and go, this is completely unacceptable. Like, this is fucked up. Now, you're not wrong when you say there's not enough mobilization happening. People are not fucking shit up in an effort to make this costly, this undying allegiance to Israel costly. And you're not wrong on that. But I do think that given how much the public sentiment has shifted in such a short period of time, even though it was incredibly costly in terms of the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians at this point, even though the numbers say, what, 63,000? I think
I think it says 50,000, but okay. I don't know where he gets 63,000 from.
Severe undercount.
Wait, but like, where are you getting your information from? Wait, what?
Short period of time. But I do think that given how much the public sentiment has shifted in such a short period of time, even though it was incredibly costly in terms of the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians at this point, even though the numbers say, what, 63,000?
I say 50,000. I don't understand where he's getting hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from. Like, he's even acknowledging that he's saying disinformation. What?
I think that's
Can he like at least quote where he's getting that from?
Severe undercount. There is still, I think that there is still always, like, it's something that I will always push for, regardless of how hopeless I feel.
Okay.
Is to mobilize Americans.
You can try your best. It is absolutely true that in an ideal world, like the number one way to fight this would be to mobilize people in the US, Europe, Australia, Canada, you know, these places which are Israel's primary backers. And, you know, many of us have mobilized. Many people have tried to do stuff, protested and stuff. But clearly, these governments are immune to this sort of pressure at this point. They don't give a shit about it. Like, it's because really almost nothing has really changed. Like, the Israelis are literally under like investigation for genocide at the ICJ, for example. I would say at this point, they are probably actually going to, like, it's going to be ruled against them. They're actually going to be found to have committed genocide in Gaza, and that is a huge fucking deal for a UN court, because they've done nothing to convince the court that they aren't doing that, you know, ever since the case started. But I mean, I might be wrong there, because
well, I mean, again, it's what's happening in Gaza, regardless of whether it's a genocide or anything, is definitely terrible and tragic. But it's hard to say that they're trying to ethnically cleanse people specifically or genocide them when 20% of the or more of the population of Israel is Palestinian outside of Gaza and the West Bank. And it's really tough when you use these like terms, like it's tough to really prove ethnic cleansing and possibly genocide. I don't really know what like the legal standard would be for that. I don't think it needs to be a genocide for it to be bad. I think we can acknowledge that.
Still a UN court, it's still a court that is ultimately run by the US and all of this, even though pretend it isn't. But I mean, a lot of that is going to be in, all these people on the court are like very prominent judges who would not want to sully their name by making an intentionally stupid decision just in the name of politics. So we'll see what happens there. But my point is, like, when you have basically like both of the most important judicial bodies in international law have serious cases against Israel, and you also have like hundreds of thousands of people in the street protesting in almost every single one of the countries that is supporting Israel, in some cases like week after week. It's clear that something has shifted here, and like from how things were 30 to 40 years ago, especially. Yeah. And the number one thing that I can think of is somehow the internet has made it easier to ignore this shit. I can't exactly articulate how exactly, but it's obvious.
I think it's just because people have other things to do, and for like people are going to be, well, I mean, people are simultaneously like more informed and they also care less because they just see so much information. There's probably a level of desensitization, especially with people being so like, I think people are like they're very anxiety ridden now. And a lot of that is all the constant social media information like blasting into their fucking brains. And I think part of it just causes people to shut off when it comes to certain subjects that are really intense.
See the most prominent change in the world aside from the fall of the Soviet Union, which is probably bigger, I forgot where I was going with that, actually. I'm a fucking moron.
Well,
what I was going to say was like, I don't know what I was going to say.
Okay. He was about to say something fucking insane is what he was about to say. Oh my God.
Well, what I was going to say is perception. I recognize all of that. And part of why I try to communicate these issues in the way that I do, even though I say almost the exact same.
These aren't me, by the way. This is like Noah Sampson stream doing this.
Things that you have said so far in this conversation. Not signing off on everything that you say off stream or on social media.
Disagree with.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
We can get to that, but we're having a.
Or maybe it's bad, but not doing it.
Productive conversation right now, but
we yell at each other. I have to speak. I have to take video clips over you, like Ethan Klein did.
Yeah, I'll move it.
Okay.
Move into that in a second, but. The reason why, for example, why did I broach the subject of Israel with Bernie on First Amendment grounds and the unlawful detention and possible deportation of Mohammed Khalil? Because I understand Bernie Sanders' position. I don't agree with it, and I think it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous position to have. It's repulsive.
Well, what do you think Bernie Sanders' position is?
To maintain the idea that Israel has a right to defend itself. 19 months into Israel's.
Have you seen the?
Well, but that's not his position, right? His position is Israel has the right to defend itself, but not to this degree, not disproportionately. That's pretty consistently been his perspective. It's interesting that you're displaying, you're disingenuously displaying it to your audience like that.
The videos of how Bernie talks to pro-Palestine protesters.
Yeah, I have. From like 2000 and there's like one from like
some of them are recent.
There's one that's more recent where people come up to him while he's walking, but he's an old
really
Well, how recent is more recent?
Yeah,
I don't know if I would call it that. I think it's the topic
I think it is?
that he knows he can't talk about.
You know what I think it is? I think it's what Bernie did to the average Democrat and the resentment that the average Democrat feels when Bernie is mentioned, because it shows their hollowed out nature of their politics. Pro-Palestinian protesters do to Bernie. I think he recognizes that deep down inside that those people are right and he's fucking wrong, and it pisses him off. Or
I don't. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Or
what's the most recent incident of them approaching him? When I try to look this up, all I see is Bernie Sanders advocating for Palestine. I don't see protesters approaching him. Where could I find this? And what is it that they're saying that he made that you're arguing he agrees with, but he's angry about? I don't get it.
Or he just genuinely sees them as a hurdle and that he has the right mind on this. But what I will say is this. When you go to those rallies where he has 32,000 people showing up, right, in red states, blue states, all around the country, the people at those rallies are far closer to the truth on the issue of Israel and Palestine than Bernie Sanders himself is, which is why I see that as an opportunity to talk to those people there. I see that as I see Bernie Sanders as simply a person that is capable of bringing all of these people together. And with the exception of American foreign policy, which is very significant for someone like myself, obviously, Bernie,
I don't know what he's talking about.
I see Bernie as a uniting figure that
I'm literally, I Googled it. I looked it up on YouTube. I'm literally not seeing anything where he's getting approached by Palestinians. Like, what are they referring to?
It can be used to build a more robust movement to actually get more Americans that are liberals on board with some of these other ideas. And I think imperialism plays a formative role in that politics, in the politics of the socialist left, of course, because I mean, the argument, the alternative argument to the labor aristocracy, like Americans recognizing their class position, but then also recognizing their class position on an international scale and how much they benefit from the unequal exchange globally. The alternative to that also is that...
Why do you think that we benefit from the unequal exchange globally? What is it? What exactly is he referring to there?
Every dollar spent on global war and the extraction of natural resources and all that endless bounty that doesn't even translate to America's material conditions improving could be a dollar spent directly on fixing the roads, fixing the potholes. A dollar spent on a bomb could be spent on...
It could, but I think that it's very short-sighted to suggest that we shouldn't have any role to play in the world. And honestly, we should, generally speaking, because not us is going to be China or Russia. And so, like, this idea, like, yeah, of course, it sucks. But, like, if we decide to pull out and focus more on our country, what happens? China, Russia influence grows. Those people do not have anywhere close to the same morals that we do. They don't treat people as well. So it would be a loss for us.
Educational material for children, better schools, a better ISP system, more...
We can do all these things without, pulling back on our world influence, just to be absolutely clear. We just choose not to.
Plus welfare state. So this is like it's such an easy flip once you get Americans to that point.
But you don't need to do those things. The suggestion that you would need to cut our world influence, which would cause China and Russia to have more influence so that we could have more robust welfare systems, is just untrue. It's unnecessary. It's not needed at all.
And that's why I, regardless of my disagreements with Bernie Sanders, still hold some respect for him for being able to put this kind of politics in the forefront in a country like the United States of America, where I feel like before his 2016 run, positioning himself against like the establishment Democrats, it seemingly was a rudderless ship heading down the same, I guess, like necro state that we have become, regardless of Bernie.
Necro state? Like you're saying we're dead?
Running. But at least now there is like more leftist organizing in the country, whether it be a more robust PSL movement, DSA, and even
what the fuck?
Even more unionization, even though our labor union participation rate is pretty fucking low.
Okay, let me grant. I don't care to argue like a lot of the stuff that you said, because honestly, I don't think it really matters. But
1 point.
Okay, the left movement in the US is bigger now. Let's say that's the case. You have the PSL and all these other things. It looks really positive, bright for the future. Does it though? Has this changed anything? Has anything meaningfully happened as a result of this? If anything, things have probably gotten worse, I would say. So, maybe me and your idea that the US is the place where something meaningful could happen is completely, utterly, and just totally wrong in reality.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely a more pessimistic attitude, and there are definitely days where I feel that way, but I try not to succumb to that feeling and still push on, knowing full well that, like, look, this movement is still marginal, it's still tiny, but it grows every single day, and that's ultimately a good thing, because who knows where we might be at. And at the end of the day, the least that the American left could do is like try to get concessions and to try to get America to step away to the best of our ability from the global stage when the decline of empire is setting in.
If you want to get concessions, the best thing to do is to immediately, each and every one of you, break with the Democratic Party already now and get to work. You've had decades to do it. It's probably too late, but why not try? Because what you're doing right now isn't doing.
It's just not going to work.
Anything anyway. So
it's just like, it's suggestions like this that make you guys like make him seem so out of touch. Like it's not going to happen. We're not going to just disconnect from the party. It's not going to happen, bud.
What's the difference? You want a great example?
I'm
not saying you're not. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying it doesn't have to be an argument. Everything doesn't have to be a yelling match.
Yeah, I think Bernie probably is the best possible option we had to do that too.
I mean, there was in 2016. I even thought like he might be something special. He might have been, if he had been elected, he might have been different. He had the balls back then to call out obvious shit, like, there was a coup in Bolivia, basic shit like that literally no one else in the US was saying.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And since then, he's just sort of become a shadow of himself. I mean, he's old as well.
Or even running.
How did he become a shadow of himself? He's still pretty popular. He's old as fuck. He's sharp as hell. What are we talking about? It's just so interesting how a lot of this conversation seems to centralize around criticizing Bernie Sanders, the person who's doing the most that he can do to be as meaningfully and positively left as possible. It's just like a constant consumption of the people that are the best advocates for what you want. It's pathetic. Very strange.
As a major party candidate running to
like the Democrats chose to lose rather than let him win. It's just a shame that after that he didn't really do anything. Like, if anything, that experience turned him into more of an establishment guy than he was before, and that's just sad. But I mean, What I was going to say is that look at the Luigi Mangione thing recently. That is an issue that very directly affects many Americans. Many. That guy, I haven't seen polls on him, but I would assume that a majority of people who know who he is and what he did probably have a favorable opinion of him. But it still hasn't resulted in anything. Like, nothing has come of it at all. There was like a week period where like conservatives and liberals met together in parks and talked about how cool Luigi was and like how the healthcare system is really fucked up. And then everyone just went right back to what they were doing before, and nothing.
I think it led to like one insurance company, I forget, like lowering premiums or like canceling an increase in premiums or something.
Nothing has fundamentally changed. Nothing has really fundamentally been inspired by what was an act that I would have thought would inspire that sort of thing in a country where people, or at least at a time, maybe it's not even the US, maybe just the time period that we live in, where people were ripe to actually take risks to try and seek meaningful change. This isn't happening anymore. And it's not just the US where this isn't happening. I mean, I live in Argentina, as you so astutely said. People in Argentina just sort of do the same thing now. They just let shit happen. This is a poor country where people in general have less to lose, and they just sort of let themselves be experimented on like a pack of lab rats. There are people protesting against it. Those people trying to do stuff, but most people are sort of happy to just sit back, relax, and see what's going to happen as someone tries to do to that country the same thing that has already been done to that country 50 times before and never worked in those times either.
I think part of that is also because of the treat economy. Like, Americans are pacified by the bountiful treats that they have at their disposal. So
yeah, I mean, and part of those treats is the internet.
So then wouldn't Hasan be in support of what Trump is doing now?
The media as well.
Here's that too, for sure.
Because the tariffs are like reducing the treats that we have, right?
It's also a treat. But what I was going to say is this, okay? I fear that if the only alternative is socialism or barbarism, right? I fear that without proper political education, without any class consciousness, without any mechanisms of pushback, without any sort of like structural organizing on the labor front, that when all of this crumbles inevitably, and I do think it will, all we will have is a fascist movement, and that's already kind of happening anyway. So that's my big fear, and that's what I try to. That's why I try to do everything in my power to, one, talk to international leftist movements, regardless of how social democratically aligned.
What international leftist movements does he talk to?
They are.
What does he talk about?
Even people like Mélenchon, in an effort to.
I probably said about.
I try to do everything in my power to, one, talk to international.
Wait, what international movements does he talk to?
Leftist movements, regardless of how social democratically aligned they are, even people like Mélenchon, in an effort to try to get people to organize and move in the positive direction, even if change doesn't seem immediate.
Well, I think I'm not specifically accusing you here or anything, but if there's one thing that you could do with your content that might maybe help you use the position that you're in to do something that might actually matter, it is really actually start encouraging people to work outside of the Democratic Party and lead by example as well. Like, if you're going to talk to Bernie Sanders again, scream at him in the face. Scream at him.
Yeah, that seems like the stupidest thing in the entire world. Scream at the guy that's the closest or the best bet to getting some of the things you want to get implemented. That seems like positive activism to you. Oh, okay. Yeah, I wonder why people don't listen to this guy.
Scream. Use that one opportunity. Like, I mean, how many more chances you can have to talk to Bernie Sanders, really, right?
He's very old. He is very old.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think I'll
screaming at him.
Okay, I don't mean like literally scream at him, but I mean get combative.
Yes, you do. You literally just said literally scream at him. What? My God, he's already folding on what he said.
Put on a public spectacle of it.
I think. Well, see, that's what
give him a Kanye West. George Bush doesn't care about black people. Why not?
I think Ash Sarkar had a really productive conversation with Bernie that people use all the time, where she presented some of these questions because she had a longer, like, an opportunity to have a longer conversation with him. If I'm not
have that with you, you're way bigger than her.
Yeah, I think because he's had that conversation once already, he's probably a little bit more worried. Or, I mean, I don't think he would run away from having that conversation with me either. It's just that I guess the planets haven't aligned. But yeah, no, I think that it's important to ask these questions. I don't think it's unproductive. That was never my.
I don't think it's that important to talk to him about Israel specifically because obiously he's steadfast in that.
Well, I did bring up the third party thing.
Would be the third party thing, and
no, I did ask him that.
Did you?
Yeah, that was the other. Those are my two main questions. Was like, what kind of initiatives does he want? The three questions I have for Bernie and for AOC in general, but like especially for Bernie, were do you think that we could build a robust third party movement in this country, and like what are the steps to take to do so? And then the other question was obviously going to be about like what are the direct actions that they want to engage with in terms of tackling the issue of like how this administration is using Israel as a way to undermine the First Amendment, because that is precisely what's happening. Like I am trying to frame it I'm trying to frame these questions or try to get people to ask these questions within the framework of American understanding, like recognizing the selfishness of the average American, recognizing American exceptionalism and American individualism, I think that those are areas that bear fruit. That's something that creates a lot of resentment for average Americans, because like, other than that, they're like, okay, Israel's killing a bunch of Muslims over there. Sure, it seems kind of fucked up, but the way to get Americans, the way to engage Americans on this issue, the best possible way to do that is by, one, talking about tax dollars being spent there, because they're very selfish, and that's something that pisses them off. And two, talk about how this foreign nation has an incredible amount of power over American.
Well, we've seen people on the we've seen people that are more we'll say right leaning, not necessarily care too much. Listen, the right seems to be okay with living more difficultly, and with more difficulty if it means the oppression of, you know, other people. So whether it's Muslims or, you know, trans people, I don't necessarily think that they're gonna be super sold on like, oh man, yeah, let's do this. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that that's a huge selling point. I mean, it might work, but I don't know if it's like the best selling point
in politics, and that the current administration is using defending Israel as a way to erode civil liberties that Americans enjoy. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Oh, okay, if you say so.
I feel like if you appeal to people on the basis of their selfishness, then you're going to have to keep engaging with them on that basis.
Maybe, or you could acknowledge that you kind of need to engage with people based on their selfishness, because times do be tough right now, boy. And then once times are less tough, people might be more into being less selfish.
And,
no, that's just to broach the conversation, to open up the door to...
Okay, but you broach the conversation, right? So it's kind of like you're intentionally approaching it from a position that you yourself don't really believe is the right way to do it. And I think that makes things more difficult for you down the line as well. Or at least maybe not you specifically, like, you know, this is how you engage as a broader movement, like as a intentional strategy among many different people in groups, engaging people in this way. Like, hey, Israel is bad because we spend a ton of money on it and we don't get enough back in return. You know, okay, then what happens if there is another instance of imperialism? Well, yeah, I know that's not what you mean, but...
Well, that is what that's what people mean. That's how you'd have to sell it. We're not getting enough back off of it, right?
That's sort of the message that you're saying to people when you're like, okay, we send these tax dollars to Israel. They could go to Medicare. In the USA, we could have universal healthcare instead of that, or whatever.
That's the common talking point from the right, but they don't seem to give. They'll say things like that, but they don't really seem to care. They'll be like, oh, we should help our own first, and it's like, okay, what if we did healthcare? They're like, oh, we can't do that. So I don't know if that'll necessarily be the best selling point.
Okay, it's that sort of thing. Like, you're appealing to the innate American selfishness that all of them are born with due to their innate Americanness. I agree with that part.
What?
So
wait, what? That's ridiculous. Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. I mean, does this sound like some kind? It's like xenophobic. You know, you want to criticize Americans for being fat, lazy, stupid, hamburger eating people, like whatever. But now saying that Americans are fundamentally like selfish pieces of shit because we're American. We're the most diverse country in the entire world. I don't understand. How can this be an innate thing? That's just like a weird thing to say. It's just a strange, disconnected thing to say when like we have such a mosh posh of different types of people.
Like, you engage with them on that level.
It's just an intentional dehumanization of like American people. It's very weird. He's a weird guy. What a loser.
And I feel like you're starting from a position that makes it a lot more difficult for...
Why would anybody want to listen to people who... So just to be clear, this entire conversation is about a lot of this conversation is about how can we sell Americans on caring more about Gaza. And then you have this weird dude over here sitting here saying that like Americans are biologically inferior individuals, which is crazy because we're so, you know, diverse. And Hasan giving no pushback to that. If people ever saw that, like, do you ever think you'll get through to the average American again? It's just a weird way to dehumanize all of us. It's very strange. Okay.
For you to get through to them from there. And
capitalism fosters selfishness. Okay, I just want to go rewind this.
And I think that makes things more difficult for you down the line as well. Or at least maybe not you specifically, like, you know, this is how you engage as a broader... Israel is bad because we spend a ton of money on it and we don't get what you mean, but that's sort of the message that you're saying to people when you're like, okay, we send these tax dollars to Israel. They could go to Medicare. In the USA, we could have universal healthcare instead of that, or whatever. Okay, it's that sort of thing. Like, you're appealing to the innate American selfishness that all of them are born with due to their innate Americanness.
So just to be clear, saying innate American selfishness, that because they're American, that communicates to me something biological. Maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but that innates biological, that it communicates some kind of level of biological, I don't know. It communicates some kind of like biological reference there, no? Or am I just fucking crazy?
I agree with that part. So, Like you engage with them on that.
Also, I don't think that America is more selfish than a lot of other countries. Well, maybe we are, some of us. Maybe there actually is a level of truth to that. We don't even have like healthcare, so
level. And I feel like you're starting from a position that makes it a lot more difficult for you to get through to them from there.
Maybe we are pretty selfish. I don't know. Maybe maybe I just like fucking swear down on it, or let me not use that term. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I just heard like some kind of like genetic aspect that just felt like strange. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I will say it's difficult to listen to somebody who apparently like fucking harasses children online sit here and talk about how selfish Americans are, because I don't exactly think that he's the, I'd say maybe the right message, wrong messenger, huh?
And get them onto like a right path where they might actually do something meaningful. And this is ultimately why you should give up on Americans and leave.
I'm not going to do that.
Why would you want to give up on the country with the most power in the world?
Who knows what'll happen? Who knows what'll happen? If my former podcast co-host gets his wishes, I'll probably be in fucking jail. I'll probably be under the jail expeditiously. They're
going to be looking for you in the satellite images of Cesar.
Yeah, he's hell bent on sending me to CCOT for sure.
Oh, I thought that would.
But look, even the very fact that like the disgusting ways in which like many people here look at this issue from the framework of drama, like oh, grievances between content creators, like that shit destroys my soul. It's soul destroying.
Dude, he has to stop pretending that he's not a political slop content creator. Like, I think it's fine. Trump has completely changed the trajectory of the way that we talk about things, but Hasan is not a political commentator. He is a political slop consumer and projector. He's
seeing that and seeing all these like right-wing reactionaries join in on the fun as well after spending years and years of like saying anti-Semitic shit about Ethan and calling Gila Klein a horse. They've all now seemingly united.
She's a horse, though.
All of the okay. See, this is what I mean. I don't do that. Okay, this is the.
Maybe you should. Maybe you should be mean.
No, I don't. Well, first of all, I am mean, but not as mean as you are, and I don't think that's productive. Oh, you want to talk about disagreements? We're both communicators, and our goal is to get people on board, right? That's your goal.
My goal is to make money.
Shut the fuck up. Why don't you become transphobic and become like a fucking right winger?
I have a niche. I'm expected to. It's like you have a nice bakery, you bake more bread. You don't branch out. Otherwise, you end up like Elon Musk with 5,000 different companies that all fucking blow.
Okay, but at a time when no one is fucking eating bread and everyone seemingly wants to eat donuts, if you already had the equipment, then you would make donuts. And I think you and I both know that there's a reason why you don't make donuts and you keep baking bread.
I don't know. I mean, I am honest about the things I say, and people for some reason want to see me say them to some degree.
Okay. I find that so funny that Hasan had to do so much legwork there to make this guy like not look like a grifting idiot, because what he just said communicates like, oh, I don't care about what I say. This guy's optically like very stupid. Like whatever. He probably does believe what he says. I have no doubt in that. Like, I believe what I say too. I also like the money. But just Hasan having to catch him in that and be like, hey, dude, you realize that it sounds like you're saying you grift, right? It's really stupid.
So it's like, okay,
not very media trained there, buddy boy.
I already got it. I don't need to branch out. I don't need to start screeching about it.
I think you and I both know where this line of questioning is heading, and that's why you're saying what you're saying.
Where is it heading?
I think, look,
I wasn't thinking that far ahead.
Okay, well, I think you're
we don't think that far ahead.
You're very smart, and I think you're very well read, and I really like a lot of the YouTube videos and the thought and effort that you put into crafting your YouTube essays. I think they're incredibly well sourced,
especially with the ones that are anti-Ethan Klein. Those are my favorite.
And
say thank you first.
But
I forgot Noah was fucking there, dude.
Well, no, there is not even a but. It's just that I think sometimes, as someone who's also in the same in the same sphere as you,
okay. I'm just grinding right now, boy, getting ahead of the curve.
Okay, I think you sometimes get in your own way by presenting yourself a certain way, especially considering that our worldview is something that people, especially in the Western world, are very hostile towards. I think sometimes you get in your own way a little bit with the way you act. You act like a left book guy in a world.
I mean, he's not wrong. Yeah.
Where
can I have an example?
Just now, you made it seem like you didn't care about what you were talking about. That you were just doing it for money. It doesn't exactly help you. Or you'll sit here and say, "Scream at Bernie Sanders." Like, Hasan is correct here. Hasan is obviously more media trained than this guy, which is going to lend credibility to people saying that Hasan is intentionally being deceptive so that he can try to invade different groups of people, even though he isn't necessarily honest about what he actually wants.
So many examples. I think you are, you take a tone sometimes that is perhaps a little too mean for the uninitiated, that most likely shuts them off from actually seeing your commentary. You troll a little too much.
Of those people.
Well, it's also possible that the reason he has any audience in the first place is because he is that mean. Because I don't think that he's the kind of person that's going to necessarily ever be in a more mainstream position, right? Like, he's not. I mean, he's ugly. I'm not even saying that as like a way of trying to be like super mean. I'm just saying he doesn't have like a particularly smooth voice. There's nothing like, there's really nothing there. I mean, not even to be a dick, but he kind of just has like, it's kind of just like he's a little bit more of that Destiny energy, where he's a little bit less, I don't know, conventionally, you know, he's got a little less of the convention, so he has to figure out a different way to go, you know, and so his way to go is to be a little bit more angry and, you know, use a little more violent language. That might be his only strategy.
People are already not open to being.
Whereas, like, you know, I mean, Destiny has its flaws. Obviously, one of the things he does is he's very well researched, usually, because except for when it comes to, you know, the boundaries, I guess. Like, fuck.
Appreciated.
See, I think that's
you have
defeatist.
too much faith.
I think that's defeatist.
Well, I don't think it's defeatist at all, because I think perhaps we can win without them. I think we do not need to appeal to like Burger American, Asmongold viewer, number 8,002 million. Asmongold, by the way, I think he's already
Burger American. I love it.
Is way more indicative of the average American than yours, sadly.
Okay,
but
for sure. Yes,
like
no.
I'm also not American. I'm not really trying to like appeal to a specific audience at all. You know, I boot up my stream or whatever, or I write a script or whatever, and it's just whatever I feel like talking about, really. And this has sort of generated an audience, and I talk about these things out of interest more so than specifically like trying to appeal to, like, say, Westerners and get them to my side or whatever. I think in a lot of cases, like, given the fact that I'm not actually that big of an internet personality, I'm very niche in reality. I think that exposing people to, like, even if it is by accident, like exposing people to like sort of uncompromising, just tell them what I really think about something, and like be about it sometimes, might be.
Oh man, bad boy word. Can't say that on the stream, dude.
More effective than you give it credit for, because ultimately, when everyone else is walking on,
I mean, he's very self-aware. You got to give him that.
Eggshells, maybe having someone who can cut through or is more willing to like just be blunt about it is needed sometimes.
For sure. I don't even think that you and I are in disagreement on any of the major points that you've brought up. I guess maybe the only one would be like the framework of like I work with like liberal Zionists or something, which we can talk about, but let's shelf that for a brief moment. The thing I'm thinking of is like they say, what I'm saying to you is so silly for me to say, because that's exactly what people say to me all the fucking time, right? But I don't think the people that say that to me are
anything you've heard about me, throw it at me. I love it. It's fun for me.
Yeah, no, I
specifics is good. I feel like, because I've talked to him about it before, and I'm like, I heard this thing, and then he's like, well, this is what happened, and I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
Oh, so you're saying that people will say, hey, Hasan said this, and then Hasan's like, no, I didn't, and you're just like, oh, okay, thanks, Dad.
I guess like some of the
worst thing that someone has told you about me.
No, I know like the fucking the pedophile stuff is like fake. I know all that shit. I know that's not real. Like the
not a pedophile.
The tweets.
That's an endangered species these days.
The fake. First of all, pedophiles are not an endangered species. Holy fuck! There was apparently.
I mean, someone who's not a pedophile. I mean.
Oh yeah. Okay. But this is also like somewhat of an unproductive conversation to have from my estimate, from the way I see it.
We're here to fundraise. We're not here to have productive conversations.
No, I know. I don't want to ever come.
I don't know. Maybe I'll have to look into these supposed pedophile accusations. What exactly are those accusations that people are claiming about Bad Empanada? Is there like a source on that? Like, it's a little concerning. Okay.
Come across like I'm just like scolding you. Like, do whatever the fuck you want to do. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care.
You can scold me as much as you want.
No, because I'm not scolding you. I just want to make that clear that because I think a lot of people get parasocial, even in your audience.
There's nothing you can really Google for that.
Or in my audience as well. And that fucking annoys me to no end when people are like, Bad Empanada said this, or I'm sure my fans will come into your chat and be like,
I hate it as well, where it's like, I don't know, like I was streaming the other day and people were like, yo, Hasan's talking about you, and I'm like, who fucking goaded him into doing that?
Yeah, it's just, it's annoying because like, you're not someone that I consider to be an ideological enemy at all. Which is why I don't even think it's like productive to be like, you did this, you did that, because it comes across as scoldy and silly, and then people will use that against you or use that against me in the future as well. But I guess like it's shit. Like, I understand the point that you were making when you were doing the Alexa Flood game on Steam that you were playing. Like, I understand the broader point that you're making.
When you're talking about the game where he was like pretending to kill Ela, that game, what's the broader point that you think he was trying to make? What are you talking about? There's no broader point. That was him weaponizing oppression so that he could feel good about being violent. So people do all the time. They weaponize their moral code to feel good about being violent about another group of people. It doesn't come from a place of advocation. It comes from a place of just this innate desire of human beings to be shit. What are you talking about?
This game was something that my chat wanted me to play a long ass time ago, like far before October 7, because I think it was out, or a different version of that game was out in the past. where it's flipping the script on Call of Duty, right? Because like it's totally fine when you play Call of Duty. Nobody even thinks it's political. They think it's apolitical unless there's a woman operator. But when you flip the script and you give the guns in the hands of like Hamas operatives or Palestinian resistance groups, and all of a sudden it's considered to be completely unacceptable and very dangerous. But like doing the doing the Al-Aqsa flood thing while also like looking for Hila Klein by name specifically, you have to understand.
No, that didn't happen. That part didn't happen. I never mentioned her name.
Secretary.
Let me explain what happened.
That part never happened. I never mentioned her name. Dude, if you can't even be honest with that, why would you want anybody to listen to you? Like, obviously if he didn't mention her name, that's fine, but we knew who he was talking about. So why lie about that? It makes him look so bad.
But they're okay. So Ethan tried, he misconstrued a clip where I was in that game, and the AI in that game is it's either the AI is very good or it's very bad. And by that I mean, I don't know if the designer intended for the opponents to be really stupid or not. So like my first experience in that game is like I walk up to 2 Israeli soldiers right next to them and they don't react. And I said, are these a bunch of Ethan Kleins on an Ozempic binge? Like, as in, are these fucking morons? Are they high on like drugs? And Ethan Klein took that and he's like, he was saying this is me. He was saying this is me and simulating killing me.
Yeah, what? We're talking about Hila Klein. What?
That's the sort of thing that he was referring to in that.
I think you can understand how that could be misconstrued, considering that the entire thing that you're engaging in is already considered like.
I think it was hilarious. You're laughing, don't lie.
Well,
Yeah, he finds it funny, but he also knows that you were saying that about Ela.
I'm just saying that like when you do that, people are going to, so many people that would otherwise like listen to the bountiful information that you are presenting on your normal YouTube essays are going to be like, this is a scary guy, and I don't even know if I can entertain this at all. And
I feel like that's like a hypothetical guy, though. Like you're saying, so many people. I'm like, yeah, maybe some, but like how many?
I think, look, if someone.
I think most people that are aware of what's going on here
is put off by me playing a video game where you kill IDF soldiers, and they think about like they see Ethan Klein saying some shit about me, like, oh, he tried to kill me in the video game or whatever, and they just take it at face value and write me off forever. But they just write me off forever because of that. Like, honestly, I don't think I had any chance of reaching those people ever in the first place.
That's not true.
That sort of person is not going to sit for a bad empanada video essay.
No, you're wrong. You're 100%
and they
wrong
will
about that.
immediately tap out.
Here we go.
You're 100% wrong about that.
I think it's just true. Like, there's a lot of people who I think, like the average Asmongold viewer, for example, that's millions of people. That's a way bigger audience than yours, sadly. Why are you flexing, Noah? Jesus.
I was stretching.
I don't have guns to show off like you. It's not fair.
No, I don't. No, I've been doing push-ups for my stream, so it's okay.
The average Asmongold fan is either a fucking rabid neo-Nazi, as I found out earlier today, or the absolute dumbest person you've ever encountered. That's not what I'm talking about. And I'm not even saying...
That's really interesting, Hasan. I wonder who else's community are those two things.
like, oh, engage in like civility politics. I'm just saying that there's, I think, a broader audience that
you kind of have to engage in like some form of civility politics in order to, get a little bit of a, get some more mainstream attention, no?
Absolutely could inform and potentially even radicalize if you were to soften your approach a little bit more. That's all I'm saying. But then again, that's why I always say, like, look,
Bad Empanada recently, so
and also, I always say, Bad Empanada and I don't disagree on our ultimate goals. We just disagree on methods, and that's it. So I'm just telling you, like, that's. I
think in response to that one specific point, I think when you water down your rhetoric in a way where you were kind of talking to people and advocating for things that you might not actually believe in yourself, just as a way of getting their foot in the door, you are sort of bringing people into wrong ideas and the things that you yourself know are wrong as well, in hopes that maybe later on you'll be able to get rid of them with something that...
It's interesting. That was Ethan's perspective, no? That's what Hasan does, and Hasan denied it. He's like, I don't do that, but now he's in a conversation with Bad Empanada. He's going to give zero pushback to that. This is fucking crazy.
Is right. And maybe that isn't the right way to go about things.
Not necessarily. I think you're... I think you can make a much more coherent and clear point about how, like, I'm not even saying don't play the game at all. I'm simply saying that, like, you're not broken.
The game isn't like actionable on YouTube. You're allowed to play this game. Totally.
No, I understand.
What happened is Ethan
okay.
literally sent an email to his own personal YouTube rep and got the video taken down. That's what happened.
Yeah, he definitely is.
Well, because you were threatening to kill his wife in the game. I think that's definitely inappropriate.
Not the biggest free speech defender.
It's obviously what you meant as well. Everything aside.
As we've found out.
In general, though, I just want to say this, like, on stream, don't be afraid of him, because I can tell you, he has been doing that with every single one of my videos, every single...
I'm not afraid of him at all.
Not you. Just in general, to anyone watching who might...
Well, let's be clear. Hasan was obviously afraid of Ethan. That's why he didn't watch the content nuke. I could have swore I dodged that. Until that's why Hasan didn't watch the content nuke until he did, and then he filibustered it. He watched half of the content nuke, just to be clear. He didn't watch the whole thing, and then he filibustered it. taking like 8 or 9 hours just to watch half of the content nuke. That was intentional. He's obviously afraid of Ethan Klein, or else he would have been more okay with those points being displayed.
Ethan on this. Ethan complains about your videos to his YouTube rep every time. And the only time it's ever worked was that
probably not
one video, and it just got taken down. I didn't. Face
why do you think that video worked?
Because like he made the argument that I was simulating violence against him.
Well, you were, and his wife, so
that was why.
And that's my point.
That was the one case where his YouTube rep was like, okay, we'll give you this one, man.
Like I think you'd be a beneficial voice to have on Twitch or even on other platforms. But there's a reason why you can't get unbanned on Twitch, even though
honestly, I think your attachment to Twitch is erroneous. You should be on YouTube primarily. It's way bigger.
Yeah, but that's a different subject. I mean,
he should. This is a great point from Bad Empanada here, no? I mean, Hasan, it's a great point from Bad Empanada. So apparently both Google and Amazon are two different structures that you're supposed to, like, protest. My thing is that if Hasan was serious, why not use YouTube and Twitch and use those to redirect to your own website that you could stream to that doesn't give Amazon any beneficial anything? It makes him look ridiculous. Like, he's sitting here saying that we need to advocate for a third party when he won't even advocate for creating his own streaming service, which I think would be a good idea. Yeah, I use Amazon and I use Google because I need to get my awareness out there. Excuse me, I use Amazon and I use YouTube to get my awareness out there. But I also have like my own streaming platform where I try to get people to engage in and donate the most through there, because that money will never see Amazon. That money will never see Google. These are two platforms that Hasan uses very heavily, understandably so, but that are on like the protest list. But why not try to create your own structure to be able to reduce the amount of money that goes to these systems that are on this list? It just seems very hypocritical, especially since, again, he can't even not drink certain sodas publicly on stream that are apparently on these lists.
It's also better for free speech. You can say Zionist here.
I know. Well, shouts out to the ADL for that one.
Okay, well, can I just pause here what you were saying to make that?
But to be fair, like they did withstand a fuck ton of pressure, and I wasn't banned. If we're being real,
YouTube can't be pressured like that. That's the difference. YouTube is not vulnerable to that sort of pressure because YouTube is a way more international platform than Twitch is. Way more. It's like they have actual business operations in most countries in the world. They have financial, like their financial departments are more independent in different continents and stuff. So they ask, if the ADL runs a campaign against you for YouTube to do something to you, YouTube will just ignore it. Twitch really can't. Twitch is in a position where they have to.
No, I know, and then they run it up the chain of command too. I know that they pressure Amazon directly. Yeah. It's really gross. Like the shit that
it's really gross. Why? Isn't that what you're trying to do? Pressure different institutions to try to advocate for yourself? Why does it make it gross?
Shit that like Ethan and the sex pest community that he's like aligned with have done in terms of like mass brigading and email campaigns and like literally running it up the executive branch all the way to Amazon is completely and utterly psychotic.
Yeah. It's not really psychotic, man. It's advocation, though.
To the point where border agents are now asking you Ethan Klein talking points.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. That's a byproduct of living in the United States of America. And I am aware of this issue, and I'm YouTube salivates at the prospect of me going there to live stream there. Trust me, I know. So
have they contacted you? Or you probably don't want to talk about it if they did?
Well, I mean, yeah, of course. I talk to you. I have a YouTube rep.
Do it. I have a YouTube rep on YouTube. You'll be way more effective streaming on YouTube. Come on.
I mean, I think the community element of Twitch is
hundreds of views on YouTube instead of just like 50,000 on Twitch.
They take videos views from us though, me and you. Hasan came over.
Okay,
that's true.
Well, yeah, but then Hasan can't watch copyrighted stuff. No, isn't that the problem?
Maybe that's true. Yeah. Okay. Don't come to YouTube.
No.
Yeah.
Don't go to Twitch.
Yeah. You gotta think about that. But where were we? What were we talking about? Oh, just like, we have disagreements here and there. I ultimately don't care what you do. I understand it. I have also a lot of people whose commentary I enjoy that say a lot more insane shit than you do. Even
that's the thing. Like I have this image where I'm like a wanted international criminal, and to be honest, I find it really funny. So I kind of
it's because you have an old left book ass attitude. You're like Mr. Troop Exploder. You know what I mean?
What is
left
like
Troop Exploder?
I've only ever heard that term used by
old comedies on Facebook and Facebook groups would just like post the type of shit that you post.
Well, I mean, do you think that U.S. troops should be a protected class who, like, actually an interesting thing about YouTube rules is you're allowed to call for the deaths of soldiers.
Yeah, you can't do that in Twitch either. Twitch, that's part of the reason why I got banned initially with the 9/11 stuff. It wasn't because I said America deserved 9/11. It's because I shit on Dan Crenshaw, who's a veteran and therefore was a member of a protected class.
Oh,
isn't that crazy? A fucking American congressperson who was advocating to, at the time, continue giving weapons to Saudi Arabia, which that's the other side of this conversation that's so funny. Because that was me yelling at Dan Crenshaw because he was telling Joe Rogan, like, we got to keep giving weapons to fucking Saudi Arabia, actually. Because these guys, these terrorists, they hate us because they hate us. And I was like, bro, these are the guys that did fucking 9/11, and you're advocating to give them weapons that end up in the hands of Al-Qaeda in Yemen, fighting against the fucking Ansar Allah, the Houthis. So it was a mind-boggling situation.
So was that the America did 9/11 context? Was that the America deserved 9/11 context?
Yeah.
Well, there was no context. I mean, obviously, anybody saying like, "Hey, the actions America took led to what happened in 9/11" is not a hot take. He said it as a hot take intentionally for attention. This is something Hasan likes to do.
Yeah, that was the
context.
context.
Sense now. Like you were saying, they caused it because they gave the Saudis the weapons, basically.
No, it was just basic blowback. Like that's what I was saying. Not that Americans deserve to die in the fucking.
You think
Twin
did 9/11?
Towers.
Well, that's obviously you were just trying to have an edgy, spicy take.
Who do you think did 9/11?
A little bit here, a little bit there.
I have a button.
I think it's extremely disrespectful.
What do you mean a little bit here, a little bit there? Wait, what? What do you mean? Who do you think did it? I'm a little confused. I'm a little confused, Hasan. What does that mean? What? A little bit here, a little bit there?
To imply that to imply that Al Qaeda and Osama bin Laden didn't do 9/11. I feel like it's taking a lot of credit away from them in their operation.
Oh, no, I think that. Well, I think it's a joint partnership. I don't think you get to fucking work inside. I don't think you get to literally be a known CIA operative and also.
Damn, that's crazy. He got rid of he countered the JQ with having to countered the JQ by fluffing up terrorist groups. Like, yeah, it wasn't Israel that did 9/11 because, you don't want to take the credit away from those hardworking terrorists. That's the argument he just made there. That's fucking insane.
Get to learn how to fucking fly a plane and tell your flight instructor you don't need to learn how to fucking land the plane. And then also then end up doing 9/11 without a little bit of government oversight or lack thereoof, I guess.
Like when you put it that way, the world like from before is totally unthinkable. Like I would like get black bagged if I tried to enter the US. Probably it's probably been
It's fucking ridiculous.
like that for like the last 5 years.
No,
not that I want to. That's the best thing about it. Is like people make fun of me.
You would get
I think you get arrested if you try to enter the US. It's like, why would I want to enter
You're named No Pals Jesus? What?
into the US? Do you guys think you're like the
That's not how you spell it. Sorry.
place that every single person wants to
I
go
mean, I
to?
live here,
Why would I want to go
and
there?
so does my family now, so it's a
Oh,
little bit
you,
harder.
yeah. I'm talking about me.
Yeah. No, I understand.
People in the US think that.
Are you a
everyone?
Cypriot, by the way?
Are you asking because of Drew Pablo?
Are you a Cypriot Australian?
As far as I know, no.
What is
I
your,
don't know
what's
much
your
about
ethnic
my Greece
background?
family history.
What's your ethnic background?
Greek something? Why are you asking?
What kind of Greek?
Greek Italian.
Oh, what? No. Which islands?
As far as I know, Anatolia and then Athens.
Okay, so you're not Cypriot.
What are you asking?
Like Drew
Yeah,
Pablo?
your people did to us in Anatolia. What did you do?
Am I unlocking epigenetic memories right now?
Yeah, right. I have intergenerational trauma, just like the Israelis. That's why they get to do genocide. So I get to do genocide too, and you're Turkish. So you should be
You
careful.
should come to America.
Yeah, I know the reason why.
What are they gonna have, like a meetup? This is like if these three weren't just so unhinged, this would almost be a cute little boys club here right now. It's so beautiful, incredible.
I say this because like you got two sides of the same coin. You got the Drew Pavlov and you got Ben Empanada.
Drew Pablo is hilarious by accident. That's the problem. He thinks he's funny, like not by accident, and I can't let that stand.
Yeah, no, he's repulsive. He's disgusting.
He's I don't know, you've been over his story.
I see him on Twitter sometimes. I don't really know anything about him. Maybe he's a great guy, or maybe he's a fucking asshole. Who knows? I mean, just because he doesn't like these people doesn't mean that he's a good person. I think that's one thing everybody should maintain in general. Just to be clear, you don't want to necessarily support another group of people just because they agree with you on some things.
On your stream, haven't you? Is it worth going over it again?
What, his dad yelling at him?
The Drew Pablo origin story? No, not that. The Drew Pablo origin story. Like he was like a pathetic. Like he actually contacted me 4 or 5 years ago. Like, hey man, I really like your videos. Blah blah blah. He was trying to frame himself as like a left critic of China during the Hong Kong protest era, and I was actually like I wasn't like against the protest. I was like sort of let them protest. Why not? There's no need to do this. The Chinese system is strong enough to withstand protests. You shouldn't react in this way. Was my sort of criticism of it. And Drew Pablo saw me as like an ally because of that, which disgusts me. And he started DMing me. And then like within a couple of years of that, the anti-China grift, when that's your whole personality, inevitably leads to just the
anti-China grift? What the fuck?
All right, basically. Because where else is that going to go when that's the only facet of your personality? Like the big Western enemy. I'm against that.
Firebomb the Chinese embassy or something?
Well, allegedly.
I don't think that's true. My understanding is he was there for the protest, but he had nothing to do with that. I think. But okay.
Yeah. He was in the UK. I don't know why. He was in the UK for some reason. And
he was there protesting. That's my understanding.
Threat was calling the Chinese embassy from his email, and he got arrested for that. And then I don't know what happened.
Email.
From his email.
How do you get out of that? Damn, the Atlantic Council has incredible connections.
So Drew Pablo is someone who has, to be clear, Drew Pablo is the one who originated the claim that I was arrested for like child rape. Okay, so what I'm going to tell you here is with the amount of charitability that someone like that deserves. Drew Pablo was arrested because he's the one who called in the bomb threat, and he was planning to bomb the Chinese embassy. But the Met Police heroically thwarted his plan. So Drew Pablo is a terrorist.
Okay, so apparently this Drew guy called this guy a pedophile. I don't know if there's any truth to that. And that's why he feels comfortable lying about him attacking the. Okay, gotcha.
Thank you, Met Police.
Two
Didn't even need
points
guns to do it.
Wow, look at how I've never seen Hasan giggle like that before. This is so weird. This is such a bizarre thing. Okay, crazy. All right.
Now I'm there.
Yeah. He would have, they're horrible. They have a horrible track record of stopping pedophilia and sexual assault. But apparently, this one guy was so incompetent in his in his actions that they were able to make short work of it. How did he get away with it? This is what I'm saying. Like,
there's actually there's multiple videos and images of Drew probably actually being arrested that I could easily work with if I was as petty as he.
Oh, that's true. I'm surprised you don't do that. But in any case, I mean, he's not
big enough. Like he's the most ignorable guy in the world. He's
He's gonna nut that we just talked about him. He's
gonna do an entire stream about this. It's gonna be 8 hours long.
Yeah.
Like the last time I heard about Drew Pavlu was a couple of weeks ago. Hey Drew, like he's the sort of streamer who is so inexperienced and like amateur in what he does that he opens random links from his chat and it's just porn all the time. Every stream, it's the same thing.
No way. Like with Mia Khalifa.
Do you watch him that much? What the hell?
Isn't that what happens?
Honestly, I appreciate having him around. It's so funny.
Yeah. Oh,
Tom and Jerry, they call
here's one point of contention. React-gate. The reason why I had a blockade implemented on Bad Empanada videos for the longest time was because you were one of the YouTubers that was like, fuck this guy. This guy is stealing other people's labor. How dare he fucking do this?
Yeah, kind of true.
And maybe I'm misremembering, but I think that's what you said initially. So I was like, I'm never going to watch this fucking dude's videos. Like, I was watching your videos at the time.
Do you actually want to talk about the React-gate stuff? Because it might go bad for you.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about it. Damn, look at that look on his face.
Ooh. No, I think
the issue of React content. When you look at React content, do you think has been a positive? Look at Asmongold. This beast that we have, this dragon. Okay.
Isn't that what this guy does too, or no?
It's a filthy fucking dragon covered in cockroaches and
Stinky
shit.
dragon.
But it's still a dragon. That's because of React content.
I think that's fair for sure. You're not wrong. I think that like it's the lowest form of content for sure, where you just like sit there and you go, yeah, but
I'm not even talking specifically about you.
Well, I mean, that is kind of what Hasan does. What is he talking? He's trying to separate himself from Asmongold. I agree, by the way. That Hasan will just like, actually, a lot of the content that he watches, that's something that Hasan does as well.
You like maybe
and they both will get lost in tangents. I mean, they're both effectively the same thing. They're like fucking Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger from Twins. What are you talking about? They're like the same person.
I think the reason I responded to you on that is because you were arguing with people who use you as an example of it, and the arguments that you were making weren't that great. But when I react to someone, it benefits them. For example, is an argument that I remember you making, which can be true. Okay, sometimes
we have someone here that can speak to it. Not to like throw you in, Noah.
You were at the fault of this. When people react to my videos, what usually happens is I gain hundreds of subscribers. I gain like a few thousand views maybe, and that's really it. And the people who watched, especially like on Twitch, I don't really care.
I mean, yeah, but Hasan is literally platforming you and your insanely dangerous ideas. So at this point, that kind of gives some credibility to what he's talking about.
I don't care if someone reacts on Twitch, but if you react and you actually upload the clip, it should be enough of like a criticism or like so you add enough to it that at least constitutes legal fair use.
Oh, yeah, of course. I agree with that as well. I don't think does Hasan... I mean, listen, not Hasan. I don't watch enough Asmongold, but when I do, he seems to give, I guess in my opinion, enough criticism for it to be considered transformative. I also think that political content's like a little different. I also think that conversations become a little different. News and conversations, in my opinion, are also different. I mean, in general, I tend to make a distinction between like React content or conversational React content and like entertainment React content. I think that these are two different things, generally speaking. Like if you're just like kind of watching a video and if you're just kind of watching a video, I think that there's a difference between trying to add some kind of conversational element to this, which debates are usually much more full of.
Asmongold does not do that, for example. Like maybe you're a bad example of this. Maybe not the best example of this.
Maybe I don't watch enough Asmongold, but I feel like he does increase the length and give enough meaningful commentary. Well, sometimes. Last thing we watched is him talk about like fucking trans people and watch this like unhinged father lie without any criticism, like a fucking nut job.
Actually, stuff. I mean, there's always something to criticize when it's political.
Yeah, I react either mostly to political stuff, or if it's like bullshit content, like there's still...
a lot of the things he does is just watch shit on Twitch. I find it interesting that they make like a meaningful distinction between like Twitch, like just streaming it versus like posting it. But I guess Twitch is different because it doesn't stay around forever. I don't know.
They'll try to make the most of it. But I think here, this is a Noah exclusive, okay? I'm about to say something that I don't think I've ever said on YouTube or in public even.
I got the button.
I think that the initial response, the first ever React game, when people were getting mad at me because like I would have the chair on and while the videos are playing, totally fucking fair and valid. And for the past multiple years, that's not happened on my...
It happened. It's been happening somewhat recently. I don't know what he's talking about.
I guess like there are instances where I get up to pee, but it's usually during a video that's playing that's like from a friend. Or
Okay. I like that he's like, yeah, I haven't been doing that at all. And then he's like, well, I have been doing it, but it's like, it's okay this time.
from news and commentary, and it's only for like 30 seconds to a minute.
Yeah, I mean, the examples that I did see them use would be like there was one, like the initial video that I think started that thing. I don't remember who it was, but you reacted to his video and you just sort of left.
JXE. And then you called the JXE like a Nazi. Hasan told him like a Nazi, like a fucking weirdo.
And it wasn't a political video. It was like a fun video. And I think his point was valid. In that
and I apologize. By the way, that's another thing.
You called him a Nazi. What do you mean you apologize? What?
Literally apologized to that person instantly.
No, he didn't. He called him like a fucking Nazi. From what I remember, he did not apologize instantly.
And then they basically like quintupled down and like did this like 8-hour broadcast with a bunch of like random fucking slop tuber commentary people. And I was like, what the fuck? I think this guy's just like trying to farm drama out of this. But yeah, I mean, that person, actually, I don't know what their preferred pronouns are, but that person was totally valid.
That's not how I remember it, Hasan. We're just rewriting history here. Incredible stuff.
I immediately apologized to them, which got lost in the sauce. And then after I saw the 8-hour back and forth, I was like, oh, this is just like a farmer.
Well, maybe it wasn't.
What? What are you talking about? This is a very dishonest representation of what actually happened. He's literally rewriting history. This guy's a nutcase. So dishonest.
Yeah, maybe that person.
I think that person was a farmer.
I think he was a farmer. I think he was a farmer. I literally just watched his video without any commentary, and then I called him a Nazi. But he's just a farmer. Well, do you think that's possible that maybe like you turned him off because you just watched his content on stream without anything, and it got posted on YouTube? Because there's Hasan fan channels that just do that, and Hasan made no effort to try to get it taken down. Because I think that some of those fan channels are him, or he likes having it because he gets to talk about the stuff on stream, make money, and then other people post it, so he gets the awareness on those streams. Okay.
Shitty people who are on their side. Like you kind of seem like to me like you were on the wrong side of that because of I don't know, you seem really hostile to. Maybe it's because you saw that and I was getting off that, but like you seem pretty hostile to it initially. I don't know. Maybe it sounds like you've thought about it more since then and sort of realized that.
I think there were a bunch of stuff that I did.
They were kind of right, at least initially.
There was a bunch of stuff that I did initially that I changed. I don't do anymore. Like I don't cook food while on stream. Like I order. Like there's a bunch of stuff.
But you weren't cooking food. Your mom was cooking your food. What are you talking? He's just saying things. What's happening here? What the fuck?
That I used to do that I don't.
It's so strange. Like what the things that he's willing to lie about. I don't really understand it. Your mom makes your food. Why don't you just say like, yeah, my mom makes my food. Just admit it. Be a cool guy. Admit that you love your mom, pussy. You know what I mean?
Do anymore. In an effort to like reduce the chair time. The thing that I was frustrated by is that people were just like saying that all I do is just like put the chair on and fuck off. And that was annoying to me because it's like before the Reactgate shit, I was known for being a person who paused all the time and like added way too much information to the fucking video that like people lost the plot of the video. So much so that
well, no, but see, this is the thing, that these two things can exist at one time. Just because like you pause a lot when you do videos that you're going to potentially make segments on your stream doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you also don't just watch random bullshit on your stream so that you can just fill the time up. What are you talking about? He's sitting here like both these things can exist at the same time, and he knows that these two things can exist at the same time. I don't know why. I mean, I do know why he's denying their existence at the same time. It's because he's dishonest. But
casually explained, had like a very famous viral meme about it where he goes, "Thanks for unpausing the video, Hasan," knowing that I was going to react to it, and very quickly that attitude flipped, and everybody basically turned into like, there are still people who think that I just sit there and play YouTube videos and like the fuck off. Like they unironically think like there's just a chair for an hour for like a 15-minute YouTube.
Well, I mean, Hasan is literally the guy who is sitting here complaining about like, how comparing the difficulty of his job to like minimum wage workers. And like that kind of goes into that same mentality of like, yeah, that's why he sits there, and a lot of the videos that he'll watch, he'll just leave on and watch. Yeah, that's what he does. I don't know. Okay. And
YouTube video.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what they all kind of do, right? I mean, weren't they doing this? They were also doing this whole thing where they were just like watching Cake Boss or something. At one point, I don't remember that. The people were just fucking watching Cake Boss on the fucking stream. That's insane.
I'm sure, like in your case,
I'm pretty sure Hasan was one of those people. Very political, by the way.
Right. It's just that in that one specific instance, that guy did have a point.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that negatively polarized you a bit to the point where like you saw me talking about it and you're like, fuck this guy, whatever. But I think fundamentally, a lot of the people who expanded on that, even though some of the like Dark Viper AU, he hates you.
Oh my goodness. Saying these bad words.
He's a huge, but his video series
on
React content, he's right. He's really right about it. Like,
he's a weirder than me. Okay.
Weirder than me.
Oh, That might check out. I don't know.
What's up with the Australians?
Yeah, what's going on down there? What a shithole. But like,
the fucking Maoists are the most
I don't think I've ever seen Dark Viper AU talk. I've always seen him. He's always yelling when he's talking.
insane YouTubers I've ever encountered.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is just like I don't think your content is like the level. Like React content is totally fine as long as the person reacting or criticizing or whatever actually adds like something to the video that is beyond just making a face in the corner like Asmongold does.
Yeah.
And
Again, I think that's more of like an XQC thing. I don't necessarily think Asmongold does that.
then re-uploading the video and getting the money off it. And that's basically the whole message of it. Like Dark Vibe AU has an entire video series where he talks about that. I think he uses you as an example in that too much and unfairly, but I mean, it is what it is. It doesn't really take that far, right?
He compared it to rape.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he did, which is something Hasan doesn't care about. Actually, I don't.
Doesn't much, but ultimately, I don't like when people focus on one little thing about the argument to discredit the entire argument. Because that guy made like 10-hour long video series about it, and everyone just focused on that one little thing. And
It's a
I feel
little
like
bit of a crazy argument, I think.
yeah, it's a crazy argument. It's a crazy argument. It's not. It's, it's a dumb thing, dumb way to make it.
I don't even think rape exists. I'm pretending to be Hasan, by the way.
Ultimately,
Yeah,
he's still ultimately in the broad strokes.
Yeah, I also, like I said, I've taken the notes from all of the people that shit on me for years over that, which is part of the reason why you don't really hear too much about people saying that I'm like reacting unfairly or whatever. I rarely ever react to like an unknown channel anyway nowadays, and it's mostly just like news and commentary that I'm adding additional commentary over.
Well, yeah, that's just because you're able to now, right? Like, I mean, people go through different content cycles. Israel, Palestine is a very long content cycle that fulfills him, and also Trump is back, and Trump being back in office gives you more politics to talk about. It makes politics more entertaining, where it was very boring under Biden. And so, like, if that was different, he would be sitting here watching bullshit. That's why he was watching bullshit, because the type of content he typically does was very low, right? It's just like, it's content cycles. His content cycle is just much longer. So he hasn't. I just want you to be clear. I just want to be clear. He hasn't changed because he's like a good guy, right? He's changed because the content cycle has changed.
But that's just something that I wanted to explain, because I was like, that was the initial reason why there was a blockade on Bad Empanada videos on the broadcast, because I heard you were like,
I mean, I've said that before as well. Like, it's so insignificant. Like, Ethan keeps bringing that up. Like, oh my god, you said you wouldn't watch Bad Empanada, and he did. Like, okay, to be clear, even if you didn't used to watch me for the reason that he tries to claim, like he tries to claim you said I was anti-Semitic or something. Obviously, that never happened. But even if that was the case, it's so insignificant. Like, what a ridiculous talking point. Like, you watch. It's
insignificant to be. Wait, it's insignificant to be anti-Semitic.
A YouTuber who I don't like. How dare you?
Yeah.
But the actual reality of it is, like, it was basically a dumb little discussion about something that compared to the genocide in Gaza doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
And for him to keep bringing it up, it's just so crazy.
I want to bury the hatchet. I want to bury the hatchet with what's his face, the Aussie guy that you were, Dark Viper, and also JXE.
You should invite him on. I mean, he's a smart guy. He's a weirdo, but he's a smart.
I don't know if Dark Viper would allow you to bury the hatchet on that one. He's really big into the whole anti-react thing.
Smart guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Although that would be kind of a big win for Hasan to pull over him. I mean, he might be able to. Dark Viper is a smart guy, but he just is such a whiny fuck.
Probably he's a liberal though, I assume, right? Or maybe like a liberal guy or something.
He's like a radical liberal, I would say. He's like a social democrat.
And like, I hate to say it, but that matters. The way you communicate yourself and present yourself matters a lot.
He mostly just hates dumb right wingers, and I mean that's generally good enough for a YouTuber.
What is he doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, I respect that. That's fine. That's a good entry point into the conversation.
You should get him to watch this and get him to come on your stream, get some content.
Yeah, no, I don't really care about that.
Fundraiser like ours, we just hit 300K.
Oh, fuck my balls.
Just so you're aware.
Doesn't that mean you have to like shave your mustache or something?
Yeah, 300 is, I think. 275 was shaved mustache. 300 is, I don't even remember.
How much is that? I haven't been looking at the stream because
268 was the main one, and then there's two others. One of them's 12,000. One of them's about 20,000. So added together, that's somebody do that. I think it's
Bad Empanada is profitable. They're definitely not here for Hasan. Don't tell me otherwise.
Of course not.
It's a controversial figure, man.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, what do you think about the fact that Ethan Klein made 30 minutes of your debate, like, to be just asking you random?
Guys, look at how woke this game is. See how woke this game is right now? It's called, this male is called the Ninth Sister? What the hell? This is so woke. That's crazy. Or maybe he talks to kids. I don't know. Hey, sisters.
Some questions about me.
Yeah, I mean...
Oh, my lord. I don't know.
Somewhat expected, I guess. I assume that he did not want... I mean, it was very clear that
Somebody credible in the chat said that Bad Empanada is anti-Semitic. He straight up said that Jews aren't oppressed and they need to stop whining about their trauma and talking about anti-Semitism. What? Is that anti-Semitic, dude? Are you serious? What the hell? That's crazy.
They did not want to talk about like the main point of contention, which was that he was doing propaganda at the behest of Israel and also trying to deplatform pro-Palestinian advocates. Which is what he was doing and has been continuing.
If I'm a pro-Palestinian advocate, can I just be a straight up dickhead and get away with it? Is that how it works? I can just act like a real piece of fucking dog shit if I just say like, hey, Palestine good? Like, that's all I have to do? It's awesome. Maybe I'll start supporting Palestine just because Hasan said I could be a real straight up douchebag pile of fucking horseshit as long as I say Palestine. That's pretty crazy.
Continuously doing. It was very interesting that he conceded. What?
A staunch advocate for the Palestinian people.
Yeah, no, stalwart allies. He said. I still haven't even watched the second half. I know you made a reaction video that was like,
how long? Once I'm gone, you should stay on here and do it here.
How long was your? Well, I have to pee and go to sleep, but I'm planning on reheating the second part of it.
I never have to pee or sleep.
But how long was your reaction to YouTube to context nuke?
I don't know if you've watched on your stream. I don't think you watched like the main one that I did, but it was like 4 hours long. And I mean, that's long, but a 4 hour long response to an hour and a half video is extremely short. That's really short.
Yeah, mine on the first hour, because I ended it at like 1 hour, mine was 8 hours long. Because
I mean, it's also because like
you didn't do it.
Because he filibustered it because he was afraid of people seeing Ethan's video. That's why.
I skipped over the personal stuff about you. I assume you have to deal with that. So it makes it way longer.
It's not even just that.
You skipped over the personal stuff. Why?
It was also 8 hours and 51 minutes long. Sorry, 9 hours long. The reason why mine took much longer than yours is also not only did I dismantle a bunch of the silly ahistorical approaches that he made, but I also would come in with like additional context. So I would just like add, because it was a bunch of clips.
Historical context. It was just fucking filibustering. What are you talking about?
That were like 15 seconds long, mysteriously. So I would just like expand the clips a little bit, like go directly to where he got the clip from, expand it a little bit, and show that the context actually was like virtually the exact opposite of the thing that he was presenting.
That's also the average thing with the average anti-U video that I've watched from these right-wingers. And yeah, Ethan's a right-winger, obviously. Like the main way that they argue is they just play a clip of you, and then I watch the clip, it finishes, and they don't actually tell you what's wrong with it.
Yeah,
they just do that over and over again. Ethan did that a lot. Like
what?
Most of the clips they played of you were like 3 seconds long. Obviously, the worst one was like, doesn't matter if rape happened on October 7th, and what you were saying is completely different to what he implied as. And now,
he's changed that perspective many times. So originally he said rapes didn't happen on October 7th. Then he's changed that position once the UN report said that rapes did happen to they weren't systemic rapes. So Hamas didn't officially sanction those rapes. That's what the perspective changed into, right? So those are obviously two different things here. So
like you have fucking. Like Barry Weiss's media outlet writing articles about you saying that and sourcing the Destiny wiki.
Yeah.
Interesting, right?
It is. I mean, I guess it's not that interesting. It just, I think it shows that there is a real devolution of like the Hasbro machine, because like in the previous years, I think that
Ethan's far right for sure.
It would be like real journalists at the New York Times writing that article, and they wouldn't be fucking sourcing it off of like a sex criminals Wikipedia page made by like autistic stalkers online.
Whoa, dude! Hey, just because they're autistic does not mean that they are not valid stalkers, dude. Don't be bigoted.
So I think on that front, I think it's like the only places that have any sort of motion on this stuff is like the New York Post, the Daily Mail, and like Free Press. Like these are Hasbro rags, right? So they don't
waste some money, am I right, guys? Having mail daily. Come on, make it maybe monthly. Fuck poor people.
Don't like that.
They can pay for their mail.
For itself, I think shows that like discourse around this issue has changed quite a bit. As well.
It has. It really has. The only thing is that like
I'm being sarcastic for any autistic stalkers out there. Okay.
I totally agree with you on that. Like I feel like Israel's PR has gotten so bad in just the last year and a half that it's never going to be able to recover. But on the flip side, I have as of yet not seen any.
It's crazy that somebody that thinks that Jews control the world is talking about how their PR got so bad.
Fruit from that fact. It's like people are aware, people know, and nothing has changed.
I understand. I know. The other, what else was I going to say? There was another thing that I was talking about the context nuke, or at least like the debate, the back and forth. Oh, I found it really cowardly that he just like immediately conceded on the main point of contention to be like, oh, it's a genocide. And I know he doesn't.
He said that before.
Doesn't believe that because like it doesn't make sense if he believes that. Then like so you're like, what I was trying to draw home was the argument that I was trying to present is like, okay, so if you fucking believe the genocide, like why are you spending all of your time talking about like my bleach sword that you have decided is the most anti-Semitic thing that anyone could ever do?
I mean, you did do that to be provocative. So I don't. Okay.
Ethan is doing like the internet equivalent of trying to start the proletarian revolution in Britain in 1944. It makes no fucking sense. Like it's that's the sort of thing that you would do if you want the Nazis to win, you know. And all he's doing is talking about how bad pro-Palestine.
Well, I think it's. But the thing is, people don't really understand is Ethan is Jewish. When he sees rising anti-Semitism in America, and people saying that Israel just shouldn't exist and these people should just go back to their own country, which they were ousted from because of persecutions, I think he goes, "Oh man, that's kind of scary." I think it's kind of that. I think it's kind of that simple, actually. To be absolutely honest, it just seems to be like that simple.
Palestine people are like he's a stalwart advocate for the Palestinian people, he thinks there's a genocide, and then all he does is talk about how people who also think there's a genocide and who also conceive of themselves as still advocates of the Palestinian people are all extremely bad. And also, Israel is a great place. I mean,
I think he's talking about the people in Israel are great, but the government sucks. It's kind of like how I would say America, kind of, for the most, maybe. I don't know. People aren't that great. Depends on where you go.
No, he doesn't believe the shit that he says about himself, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay.
And obviously, like, I mean, in an effort to, like, basically present himself as, like, intellectually consistent, I got him to concede that his wife...
I think Ethan Klein, my biggest criticism, well, not even criticisms, I think the thing with Ethan Klein is he's probably really angry at me right now. Because here's the thing, and I haven't done it in a while, but a while back when this whole thing started and people were being very like hateful to Ethan for his pretty basic take, even if he didn't communicate it the best, which is that Israel has the right to exist, but they don't have the right to do whatever they want to Gaza, and it's a genocide what they're doing, which is fair. The people are good, the government's bad. Well, that fractured, things. Ethan can come off as petty, I get that. And he sent me some Teddy Fresh, which was pretty comfortable. He sent me Teddy Fresh, pretty good stuff, and he didn't send me a hat. And so I made a joke about it, and then I thought the joke was funny, so I kept going. And so, like, almost every time I talk about Ethan, I talk about the hat as a joke. You know what I mean? At this point, if I got the hat, I don't even know if I'd wear it, because it would be so funny to get the hat and then just not, acknowledge it. And so what I find, my wife hates the joke. She thinks it's like really rude. She thinks it's shitty because the clothing that they sent us, they sent some to her too, and she really appreciates it. But I think the meme is so funny. I don't think anybody else does. I think the meme is so funny. I don't think anybody else does, though, that I have to keep it going. And so maybe a while back, like, I had messaged Ethan just like randomly about something. It was like information, and he's like, "Oh, okay, cool, thanks, whatever." I'm paraphrasing. After his debate with Hasan, I messaged him again, and I did it for a reason, and I think he knows the reason I did it, because I think he's probably pissed at me. I said, "Hey, great." I think I said something along the lines of like, "Hey, hats off to you, great debate." And I only said it so I could say hats off to you, and that's the only that's the less interaction we've ever had, and I think that's probably. I think my wife is right. I should probably stop doing the meme, but I don't know why. Like, I know it's not helpful, but it's just so funny to me. I find it so funny. It's just so stupid. It's just like, it's a dumb fucking meme. And I like it so much. So
wife was a terrorist. So like
whoa, what?
Basically present himself as like intellectually consistent. I got him to concede that his wife was a terrorist. So
I don't remember that happening, but if you say so.
Like the things that...
That's so insane.
I think ultimately it doesn't matter, though. My point is, as you brought up Asmongold and as you brought up Ethan Klein as well, like, a lot of people don't give a single shred of a shit about real issues and trying to make an impact and go out and protest and go out and apply pressure.
Oh, that's not true. They just care about their issues that are more in their sphere. The Middle East is very far away. Most people just don't really care about what's going on there. The more money you have, the easier it is to open up your surroundings. If I'm being charitable, I'll say that that's what it is, even though I know Hasan just hates the West, and so anything anti-West, he'll support anything anti-West. He doesn't care about oppression, because if he cared about oppression, then he would be like supporting, Ukraine more. But he even says like he doesn't pick a side because he doesn't care.
To their governments, a lot of people don't give a shit about organizing. A lot of people don't even care about learning about the
organizing. What am I, a girl?
Historical relevance of certain militant movements, or understanding like resistance against settler colonial enterprise. And why it's a necessity in an academic context. And even when you try to talk about the nuances of these sorts of things, especially within an 8-hour live stream broadcast, especially when you do also crack jokes along the side, people will just like clip you and to be like there was one thing I saw like
jokes, baby.
From the context where he was like, he said,
I not for nothing, but like, Hasan, you're not funny. Like, you know what I mean? And that's because Jews don't like you anymore, so there's nobody to ghostwrite your jokes. I could say it because I'm Jewish, guys, okay? I could say it.
I had like an 8-hour conversation with Nick Pollum. He doesn't know anything. It was very instructive about like a refresher of like all the things that have happened since October 7. He took a clip of that where I said like, I don't have a problem with Hezbollah. And that conversation was specifically about like with relation to the resistance that Hezbollah is engaged in against Israel. And you can see it in the clip, but he fucking clipped it to be like Hasan Nasrallah and I don't have a problem with Hezbollah. Like, this is really fucked up that he's saying that without even ever providing an argument as to why that's fucked up that I'm saying that. So it's both disingenuous.
I think it's because that guy hates Jews a lot. We saw that. I think Lonerbox exposed that the guy has explicitly said that he doesn't like Jews, not Israel. He specifically does not like Jews. So I think that you know, there's probably something to that as well.
Framing, and it's also
That's the thing.
That's
there's
the
no
thing.
counter to it.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
the
when you
thing.
come from like the default status quo position of these guys are terrorists,
I mean, I find it really interesting because Hasan will be very basic about some of his points and just like boil it down to like the West bad. Oh, I don't know what the fuck just happened there. And so why would you not expect the rest of us to just respond in the opposite direction? If you're just going to say the West bad, then I'll just say the West good. Like, it's if you're going to engage in like very low IQ fucking perspectives, then I'm just going to engage the opposite way. So, okay.
you have the benefit of not having to actually argue for why that is.
Yeah.
They just are. That's
do
the
I
way these
get
people
over there?
operate. And like, I'd love to fucking debate any of these slop tubers, but they don't want to.
Yeah.
Why don't you debate Lonerbox? He would. I guarantee you. Debate my boy Loneybox. I'm sure he would debate you.
I'd relish in that. I've challenged all of them. They're all afraid.
I
They're
think
all
those
Is Lonerbox afraid to talk to this guy? Is that true? I feel like Lonerbox would not be afraid to talk to this guy. He's very well versed. The only thing I would imagine, there's just no way that Lonerbox said he wouldn't talk to this guy. What?
scared.
I think he just wants to talk to Ethan Klein. I don't think that he's offered it to somebody like Lonerbox.
Fuck me now. He won't. He just like he uses me as like the public enemy on his as like the leftist soy woke guy.
I don't even understand how that fucking happened. This is a guy who was like a shit World of Warcraft player, and now he's talking about like deporting
You're talking about Asmongold?
people and how great it is that they get deported. Where did that happen? He lives in like the fucking woods. What does he care?
That is kind of based. That is based. Oh, Lonerbox evaded him twice? Oh, that's funny.
What the fuck is happening?
because he has 50,000 people watching him every day, and all he has to do is click play and go, yeah, based, and that's it.
Do you know about like his history? Like, has he gained viewers from doing this shit? I assume he has.
Yeah,
Because he used to be
has.
like a video game. What the fuck happened?
Yeah, he I think like there's ups and downs in the
Hey
streaming.
guys, I'm trying to get onto that grift here. I'm trying to get onto the video game politic grift. Honestly, I've just been enjoying playing video games while doing content. It's been so fun. This is the most fun I've had. It's actually interesting. I don't have my editor for a couple days. It's her birthday. Everybody say happy birthday, August. But it's been really cool because I haven't really had to do my own intros. I've just been teaching August to do intros, and she's doing pretty well. You know, I do have to do some edits here and there, but she's been doing pretty well, and she's been doing pretty well with the leftover stuff. So I pretty much come on stream, and I can play video games and fucking watch, like, react to content. And then I wake up in the morning usually, and I spend about maybe an hour and a half scheduling and editing the content that, you know, she and reviewing the content she throws at me. And it's been like so much better than streaming for 3 or 4 hours and then working for 3 or 4 hours. Like it's been pretty great, man. So right now I'm like having a really nice time. I'm just coming on, I'm relaxing, I'm talking about more stuff now too. I have, you know what I mean, which I enjoy. It's been pretty cool. I'm like really enjoying it.
Space. But I think like he saw that he was getting a lot more prominence doing this, like a lot more relevance doing this, because he doesn't give a fuck about money. He lives in shit. Like he lives in filth. He lives in his own fucking rock.
Ceiling
Like that's
just
not even.
fell down
I'm
from
not
the
even
axe.
exaggerating when I say this. It's like a fucking
Yeah, I mean,
insane thing.
it is actually weird to have that much money and then not do anything with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
it's
it's like way
crazy.
weirder than fuck.
You know, I saw they're talking about Asmongold, obviously. I saw Hasan say something on Twitter about how Hasan doesn't like Hispanic people. And people were like, no, you're being wrong, you're a liar, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, obviously Asmongold doesn't like Hispanic people, or else he wouldn't have fallen through his own roof, right? Because who's the best roofers? It doesn't make any sense to me. So you get on your shit, bud. You know what I mean? Stop.
I always used to get mad at Berkshire Hathaway, the guy that owns Berkshire
weirder
Hathaway.
than
Oh yeah, Anne Hathaway. Yeah.
Fine suing everyone.
It's what? Is
We're just gonna move on. Okay, that's cool.
weirder than what?
It's weirder than Ethan Klein using his money to just sue everyone.
Oh,
Oh, s-
I guess so.
Yeah, I mean that's also gross in a different way, but I
Sounds
think
kinda dirty
Asmongold
too,
wanted
right?
Why is it gross?
he wanted to sue me as
Sue
well. I
this
think
one.
Asmon did or something. I heard these guys love. They're
Asmon?
such
Gold?
Amerifats. They love immediately hitting the fucking litigation button.
It wouldn't
But-
even hurt you. Like, you would just pay someone to do all the work for you, and ultimately, like, both sides, like,
Yeah.
you know, everyone involved is rich, so it's like it wouldn't do anything to
Gotta
either.
be careful on that one. You gotta be careful to blame it on America and not Jewish people for that one. Thank you, Hasan. Because you know that's where he wanted to go.
What's the fucking point?
Yeah, I think it I have become, unfortunately, like a beacon of what it is to be
I have become meme. Am I right, guys? It's a funny joke. It's a funny joke. Elon Musk. I love Elon Musk. I love Elon Musk. I love China.
left online, all the way from like being pro-democratic party, all the way to like Gary radical revolutionary
there's
socialist
people
policies.
who like have learned that making videos about you gets them more views than normal, and there
Yeah.
are so fucking many of them.
Yeah,
Like, I
and
get
it's a
red
never
flags.
ending.
Well, couldn't you just say that's the reason why you support him? Because you get more views than normal. No.
Many
cycle
of them,
because, like,
those types of videos.
Yeah, and that's literally what it is. And unfortunately,
Okay. Like, obviously, talking about Hasan. Well, it depends. But like, yeah, I'm gonna try to talk about things that get more views. But like, I'm not dishonest when I talk about it. Even in this conversation, I'm not like, oh, Hasan's the worst. Like, I don't think he's a good person. But for the most part, I've been kind of focusing on like the criticizing their arguments and engaging with it. I'm not like, oh my god, I'm not like shitting my pants. I'm probably like less worked up than I should be, maybe, because Hasan is not exactly a good person. But like, yeah, just because you're a popular topic. That's what you wanted. You wanted to be a popular topic. You want people to have like awareness. Like, people are going to talk about you more. I don't do it dishonestly, so like, whatever, man. Same thing. Bad Banana said effectively the same thing. He likes money. I like money, bro. I want money. I like money. It's great. But I don't think it's about what you talk about. I think it's more about like how you talk about it. Obviously, I think that makes sense. I don't sensationalize anything I do,
because the average
only thing sensational about my content is my smile.
person's interest in political affairs is resembling someone with a brain of a walnut. They just they eat that shit. They eat that garbage and they believe it.
Eat that pussy.
Like, how sad. Everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've long lost faith in humanity if it's not obvious. So I'm sadly not super
You are a bit of a nihilist.
Right.
Hey, me when my entire job is on the computer, I've lost faith in humanity. It's so terrible. Okay, crazy. Damn, he drop kicked that guy. You fucking saw that? Was crazy.
By any of this, am I a nihilist? I think
I don't have Disney debt to pay off. I have all my debts are paid except for like my school loans. That's what I got to do. I got to stop going to fucking Disney and pay my loans.
Human race is superior. We should
exactly. Yes, Farmer Willie. Yes, Farmer Willie is not ashamed of the title. It's honest work, dude. It's honest work.
Go to the stars like in Star Trek. The human race is superior to all the other races on Earth, like the dogs, the cats, the dogs. I'm a human supremacist.
Okay.
And you can't say this shit on YouTube. You're gonna get like negative comments from someone.
You're a human supremacist for saying that we're better than dogs. What? What are you talking? Wow, that's edgy, dude. You're a fucking edgelord.
Like anti-species people, and they're gonna be very angry at you.
I don't think anybody really cares about what you're saying at this point.
But
not about this.
Like, I think ultimately the internet and social media has been weaponized by like the whole concept. Like, this is so far away from what you're.
Are you serious, dude? Holy fuck! I've never heard somebody say that.
Talking about, but it's still relevant. Like, I think social media very much, in a way, democratized the dissemination of knowledge, which is why we can see the Gaza genocide, for example. But at the same time, it created like this massive arena that every single person in the world is always constantly using. Not every single person, but most people always constantly using, and it makes it so much easier to reach them with shit that turns them into a horrible person. And that second option is winning out over the first one, ultimately, which is how we get like literal beasts like Asmongold.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That honestly, Hasan, that was the way that you said that was as interested in what he said. Like I agree. Like, that was the perfect response. That is how interesting whatever he just said was.
It's the state of affairs is certainly
open the fucking gate.
Dire, but I think like one of the things that always gives me hope. Like, it's hard being optimistic around you because you have such a dire outlook, which is crazy.
Whoa, he just called you a Debbie Downer, dude. He said you were a huge Debbie Downer. That should be depressing for you, bro? What the hell? You're a really big downer.
People say that about me all the time, but I think solidarity is a fantastic way to reinstill some sense of confidence in yourself and in your fellow man. Like, the conversation I had with Jean-Luc Mélenchon in France was incredible. Like, it's so eye-opening to see someone who I might not fully agree with in terms of his
really plugging that conversation you did
worldview, but like it's like seeing a major politician that was the leader of the Popular Front and was still undermined by Macron, but seeing someone like that have such similar opinions to myself, it really
maybe that's why he lost.
Like, I felt awesome
because your opinions are fucking radical like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles did
about that. Like, it was just it's a demonstration of solidarity, and I think that's something that we shouldn't lose sight of. Maybe it's difficult for you, Bad Banana, because you live in fucking the ashes of the former Peronist Argentina that is now controlled by a fucking literal pedophile anime character dressing psychopath.
We can talk about that as well. That's
and the IMF's very own dog.
I mean, you look at Mélenchon in Latin America, though. There's 20 Mélenchons, so there's that.
No, I know.
Like, Latin America, ultimately, in terms of domestic politics, is fortunate somehow, which is very weird, given that the USA killed all of the good politicians in the 70s and the 80s. That's why we ended up with Lula. I'm not going to elaborate, but
it sounds like what you're saying is like really really bad, and you know that.
Like, Latin America is like,
I think that's probably a lot of it is that a lot of things he says are unknown by most of the people who engage with him. And so they kind of like bypass the dangerousness of some of the things that he says.
It's kind of a beacon in the darkness of the world.
Begging for Lula right
it's also
now,
not very powerful. It's also geopolitically irrelevant. I mean, Milei is an exception. Milei is on the continent. He's largely an exception. He might inspire people like him, but Argentine politics, especially in the last 20, 30 years have not been very comparable to that of other countries in Latin America because the Peronists are so weird. And everything in Argentina is
You just say something, right? So far, this game has been so much better than the first Star Wars game.
dictated by anti-Peronism, which is weird because Peronists aren't that radical, but you would think they are, given the way they talk about them. So that's just very different. But in Latin America, not just from the pink tide, but even now, like the Overton window is very different to in other places, at least in South America. Mexico, not so much. It's certainly not Central America right now. So there's that at least. But Mélenchon, he's obviously, like, in French electoral politics, he's very good compared to the American guys. He's like God. But still, like, even with, it's so weird, right, that even with someone like that in France, like, if he was in power in France, I would have faith. And he's someone who's almost won elections before. He's almost won actual elections. If he was in power, I would believe that he would try to do something for Palestine and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But even with someone like that so close to power in France, they still do so little. So I don't know. I think in a way, like, you think I'm a nihilist. I don't think I'm a nihilist. I think right now I'm a realist. I used to be a lot more optimistic.
Informed Macron even. Like, Macron right now is domestically so fucking unpopular that he has tried to reposition himself as this, like, guy that's going to have an impact on the global stage. And of course, on the one side, he's doing this, like, militant posturing against Russia, saying that he's going to send French troops into Ukraine, stuff like that. But also, even on the Gaza side,
which we know he doesn't find like a positive thing. He's fine with Ukraine getting taken over by Russia because he's just a cool guy.
He has gotten his notes from the Mélenchon side that previously would have been considered radical, but he's like saying he is, I would say, out of all the major leaders in Europe, he's one of the, with the exception of like Spain or Ireland, Macron, surprisingly enough, is one of the more, I guess, radical on the issue of Gaza.
Yeah, he definitely has been. I mean, he's not great still. Like, the French government has been so contradictory.
Yeah.
Like, Macron will say one thing and then his foreign minister will say another. But still, yeah, you're right. Like, that's definitely the third best in Europe on the matter. But yeah, I mean, certainly, like, Mélenchon's ideas have certainly had some level of influence on Macron trying to win back popularity. Especially given that the only reason that, like, he's still there is because he had to make a deal with the devil.
A white powered lightsaber? What the hell?
To avoid losing. Like, what was that, like a year and a half ago now? But like, yeah, I mean, it's just like this, we got this whole thing because it was like I'm a nihilist. I'm not naturally a nihilist. Okay, I have gotten, my outlook has gotten less and less rosy as time. My outlook has gotten less and less rosy as time has gone by.
I don't know how you make a lot of money just kind of chilling in your house and saying horrific shit about people.
If you watch like videos that I made 5 years ago, like I made a video like the world needs Bernard Sanders. What a fucking moron I was. What an idiot.
I don't think you were wrong to make that assessment. I think you were right.
Maybe I wasn't wrong.
At the time, I think it was a necessity.
Maybe I wasn't a moron. Maybe I was right at the time. But now it's like we're here 5 years later and everything's only gotten worse. It's so fucking funny that Trump is the president of the US again. I'm sorry. That's so it's especially funny because it's like,
especially funny because again there was no meaningful advocacy from Hasan for people to vote for Kamala Harris.
Trump now is what they said Trump was last time. He's doing all the shit they were fear mongering he was going to do. Not for me. Last time Trump was like a regular Republican who didn't know how to say the right thing.
Well, no, but okay.
Things properly. Like he was way too unfiltered. Now Trump is what they were saying Trump was before. He's totally disconnected from American politics before. Well, he's not totally disconnected, but he's very different. He's like just not pretending to give a shit about the Constitution and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's on a vengeance arc.
So it's like,
but they still fuck him up though, because like he's been on this tariff tip for since like the 80s. And when he started, in the words of Felix Biederman,
well, I mean, his first run, he just tariffed China. Now he's trying to tariff everybody. This weird show of force.
Molesting the money. He got that boss call from Jamie Dimon, and he backed away. Like I think that played a big role in him not even trying to completely undermine global trade in a way that America had envisioned, which was so stupid. I mean, it was so incredibly stupid of him to do that, especially without like a robust manufacturing base. Like, what the fuck are you thinking? But
yeah, I mean, it's totally it's nonsense.
I mean, how are you going to get a robust manufacturing base? We kind of outsource a lot of that. We're more of a services economy and all that.
Well, even if there is some sort of reason between his like economic strategy, like trade strategy, it's a stupid reason. But I just think things have gotten like bad enough to the point where a little bit of pessimism is certainly warranted. And a lot of my pessimism, I don't say a lot, it comes from climate change because we don't talk about it enough, and it doesn't matter if we talk about it at this point. I made a video on climate change, like honestly, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago at this point? And in that video, at the time that I made that video, it was like, okay, we do something literally right now that is so absurdly radical that it'll never happen, or we're fucked. Obviously that hasn't happened.
Radical, dude.
And then things shit has only gotten worse. That's just like the most pressing, greatest, like most existentially bad example of why one might rationally be a bit pessimistic now. And then, there's Gaza, there is the inaction in the Western world against that relative to previous imperialist wars. Even like, I feel like in a way, at least in Europe, there was even more opposition to Iraq, for example. And it's like, it's hard not to be pessimistic. I think it's kind of realistic to be pessimistic. It's realistic to look at things and be like, man, shit is kind of bleak right now.
Right, but it can only get, the only way to make it get worse or prevent it from getting any worse is to, try.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
sure. I mean, I think things have to get worse just for them to get better, so people like realize how bad things are. I think that's to an extent happening with Why did I do this? I think to an extent this is happening with Trump.
Saying we shouldn't try.
Right, no, you get in there. I'm gonna pee real quick. You can watch my chair for the time being.
Yeah, like things
Wow, he's gonna go pee.
are as bad as they have ever been, but doesn't that feel like an argument? That doesn't feel like an argument against trying, you know? Not that you're necessarily making that.
I mean,
argument,
I absolutely do not. I never ever have and will never tell people to give up.
Wow, Noah comes off as the AB of this crew. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I never will. I feel like there was one argument I made a couple of years ago where, like, I said, I like sort of jokingly said, like, if you're American, just fucking leave, you know, just leave and go try to be Che Guevara somewhere. I mean, I don't actually think that, but you know, sometimes it does feel like you could maybe do more elsewhere if you're American. Particularly now, like, honestly, recently, like, to bring up one recent example of what this is not American, but it's another country that has already long had the sort of repression of free speech that the US is now getting. In Germany, Red Media, this media company that was pro-Palestine, literally got like judicially harassed into shutting down. Because they reported on like multiple journalists, like links to Israel and Zionist outlets and stuff. And as a result of that, like they got reported to the cops, they got sued, all this stuff, to the point where like the founder is now facing like a 3-year prison sentence for literally just like calling out German journalists for supporting like Zionist propaganda. And you know, when that is the sort of environment that we're in right now, and that is also where the US is going. I don't even remember what I was initially talking about. I just really wanted to shoehorn that in there because I forgot to talk about my stream this week.
Pessimism versus optimism, I suppose.
Yeah, like I used to, like, the US used to be so much better on that sort of thing. Now it's, man, what do you even say about this?
Yeah,
but
it brings a lot more context. Like, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, that sort of thing is a great reason to be pessimistic, because like the crackdown on pro-Palestine speech is not just a crackdown on pro-Palestine speech. I feel it's in not everywhere it's happening. It's going to be extended to other things as well.
Yeah, it's an entry point into the conversation, because Israel and Israel advocacy groups are they have a stranglehold. Like, they have very powerful advocacy groups. They have a really powerful influence peddling operation that's very sophisticated.
You're going to get clipped.
Wait, why?
Anti-Semitism.
Well, it's just okay. Yeah,
I know it's just true. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I think that because of that reason, like these are all advocacy organizations that masquerade.
I don't think that advocacy in general is a bad thing. Them having advocacy isn't like a problem necessarily. I think it's fine. Like, other countries have advocacy groups in America too.
As like Jewish advocacy organizations, they act like they are entirely predisposed with.
Well, I mean, the problem with this again is that Hasan has explicitly said that if you have had any positive sentiment about Israel ever, you're a Nazi. So the mask already slipped. So this idea, it's like, oh, they masquerade as just Jew, just for operating in a way that's advocates for Jewish people. And it's like, well, we heard you talk, and you think that Jewish people are all bad, that think Israel has the right to exist. So, like, it kind of, yeah, maybe that's why they will broaden their stroke in their advocacy.
Combating anti-Semitism, and they have a lot of institutional prowess. They have a lot of institutional prominence, and I think Trump recognized that, or at least not Trump necessarily, but the Heritage Foundation, American Enterprise Institute, like the guys that did Project 2025. Also had a write-out for this called Project Esther. The New York Times actually reported on this, surprisingly enough, the other day, which was weird to see. But they detail this. They talk about how the goal is to basically undermine the First Amendment by using the pre-existing liberal.
I'm so sorry. Did Hasan just reference Project 2025 in a positive way? Did he just say that, like, oh, Project 2025 underlined how basically scary and dangerous the propaganda from Israel is? Wait, that's so unhinged. What? You yourself say that, like, any Jewish person that has any positive sentiment towards Israel ever is a Nazi. So I'm not really surprised that he would do this, but holy shit, that was super mask off. What the fuck? Supporting Project 2025 is incredible. That's insane.
Adjacent and firm liberal organizations to make this point of attacking the First Amendment for non-citizens and then potentially citizens alike, and create a new legal precedent.
This dude's fucking referencing Project 2025 in a positive capacity. That's fucking wild. Holy shit.
The point is Israel, but it won't stop there. It will turn into whatever they declare is a terrorist, whatever they declare is like material support for terrorism, and that could be something as stupid as like fucking saying Teslas suck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean.
Did I mishear what he was saying?
Detail this. They talk on points that, or at least not Trump necessarily, but the Heritage disposed with combating anti-Semitism, and the organizations they act like they are entirely predisposed with combating anti-Semitism, and they have a lot of institutional prowess. They have a lot of institutional prominence, and I think Trump recognized that, or at least not Trump necessarily, but the Heritage Foundation, American Enterprise Institute, like the guys that did Project 2025. also had a write-out for this called Project Esther. The New York Times actually reported on this, surprisingly enough, the other day, which was weird to see. But they detail this. They talk about how the goal is to basically undermine the First Amendment by using the pre-existing liberal adjacent and firm liberal organizations to make this point of attacking the First Amendment for non-citizens and then potentially citizens alike, and create a new legal precedent. The starting point is Israel, but it won't stop there. It will turn into whatever they declare is a terrorist, whatever they declare is like material support for terrorism, and that could be something as stupid as like fucking saying Teslas suck. You know?
Okay, maybe I don't even know if it's worth being charitable. Maybe what he's trying to say, I don't know, is what he's trying to say that Project 2025. There are explicit things in Project 2025 that exist to try to swell free speech. I don't know, dude. That's I guess I would need some clarification. That sounds awfully fucking it's that I don't know. There's if I'm misinterpreting that, I don't think it's unreasonable to say maybe some of his audience are misinterpreting that. That sounds really fucking unhinged to me. But maybe I don't know.
You know what I mean?
He's not defending it. Maybe I'm wrong. It's maybe okay. Ryan Beer's in the chat. Okay, it sounds to me like he's saying that Israel is pushing propaganda in America, and Project 2025 is calling out Israel specifically. Maybe I'm misinterpreting something. Am I misinterpreting something? It sounds like he's supporting Project 2025, calling out of the ADL. Maybe I'm just misinterpreting something. I don't know. Maybe I'm misinterpreting something. Oh, maybe I'm misinterpreting that. Maybe I just misinterpreted what he said. It just sounded.
Yeah.
That's not what you heard? Okay. Maybe I just misinterpreted that. All right. Sorry. I just wanted to like explore that out loud. Because there's like, okay. Okay. Yeah, maybe I just misinterpreted that whole thing.
And
whoa.
I honestly, like, just, this is sort of not 100% in response to what you're saying, because I don't disagree with it, but like, you can see, like, I don't.
He's saying Project 25 is supporting Israel. Okay, gotcha. Oh shit!
I don't think Trump cares much about Israel. I think Trump cares about Israel insofar as he sees it as useful to the USA. Not he's not like an ideological Zionist or anything.
No, like Joe Biden was an ideological.
Yeah, I don't think Trump cares about people in the USA being anti-Israel that much, but I think he sees it as a good excuse to like rile his base up against immigrants. Like, we have these immigrants here who are
I think maybe it's like a strategic thing.
pro-terrorist, blah, blah, blah. And also as a way to like sort of demonstrate without actually really doing anything that like, look, we're harder on these pro-Palestinian fucks than the Democrats were. Look, we're actually arresting them. We're questioning them at airports.
What's happening right now?
Wait, hold on.
Oh, no, you fucking loser. Damn.
You're muted.
And this other stuff. That's the
Did Band Empanada just rip Noah Sampson's audio? I'm very confused.
the stuff that you mentioned is a great example of that. Like, you're attacking Tesla, somehow you're attacking the government. I don't even think Elon Musk is part of the government anymore.
Oh,
Hold on one
you're
second.
back, you're back.
Yeah, I can't even hear Noah. Can you hear him?
Wait,
I can hear you now, Noah.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I turned my headphones off and then the whole thing exploded. Keep going.
Okay.
Okay, what
Band Empanada was saying a bunch of anti-Semitic stuff, and I bravely defended Israel.
Yeah, Hasan actually
Yes.
called the ADL, the ADL cop cars on the way to my house. I wouldn't be seen again soon, just like the South African activists who they helped disappear back in the 70s. Look it up.
Yeah, in the 90s, they got prosecuted.
Sorry, what?
Israel.
Yeah, Hasan actually called the ADL, the ADL cop cars on the way to my house. I wouldn't be seen again soon, just like the South African activists who they helped disappear back in the 70s. Look it up.
What? All right, there's no direct link to this. I'm not even going to explore this shit because I feel like we're getting a little JQE here, but okay.
Disappear back in the 70s. Look it up.
Yeah, in the 90s, they got prosecuted for it. In the 90s, they literally got prosecuted for it because they were caught. They were caught spying on.
So they got prosecuted as in like they got convicted, or there was just like an
No, they didn't get caught. There was information saying that they were like engaging in like surveillance because they opposed, I guess, getting rid of the apartheid in South Africa because they were also anti-Semitic or something. Okay.
Investigation.
I think there was an investigation. I remember reading about, but in the 90s they were like outed as directly spying on black protesters. Of course, that's par for the course. That's a double Monty. Both Israel and also apartheid South Africa hate black people. But what was funnier is they were also spying on Jewish student groups that were also against apartheid in South Africa. So the Apartheid Defense League, as I like to call them, was spying on Jewish Americans at the behest of apartheid South Africa. Fantastic stuff.
This is. It's because of the like South Africa-Israel similarity and alliance, they just can't hide it, can they? But yeah, there are a lot of like organizations in Western countries that have like this veneer that makes them like say untouchable sacred cows of.
He's claiming that since Israel was allied with South Africa, the ADL attacked South African protesters. Oh, okay, gotcha. That's a simple. That's a pretty simple explanation. Thank you.
We fight anti-Semitism, and sometimes they do. Sometimes they do actually. Like the ADL does actually have like a, for example, like resources on its website. Like ACCA describe a lot of stuff in regards to anti-Semitism and like just in general Nazi stuff. Like look at this like Nazi symbol or whatever. Okay, useful, great. But that is not the primary function of this organization. The primary function of this organization is the Israel advocacy.
They have to do that so they can do the nefarious Israel advocacy. Because if they
the nefarious Israel advocacy, all right,
were just doing Israel advocacy, they would come across as ridiculous. Like people would be like, "The fuck? Aren't you supposed to be like combating anti-Semitism? What are you doing?" And I think that's or maybe it was initially in its inception. I think it was because of the famous incident.
It was like a guy got lynched or something. So they
exactly. I think in its inception
somehow became this.
Yeah, in its inception, it was like a genuine. I suspect it was a genuine like a genuine way to combat anti-Semitism, and then it very quickly got swept away by Zionist interests. And that's why you had the former president of the ADL shitting on the current president of the ADL recently. And I was like, bro, you guys are, I can't believe that there's like internal conflict within the ADL on this.
Yeah, just in regards to like the contradiction between like the ADL and the anti-hate speech image and then the Israel advocacy. I don't know if you've ever seen the Tucker Carlson clip where he calls him out on that, and he's like, the ADL says that Israel should take measures to maintain the Jewish demographic majority to make sure that Palestinians can't take over. I agree. So why is it that Jonathan Greenblatt, who at the time was the leader of the ADL, why is it that he says that in the US we need to have this flood of migrants to make it so that we are no longer a demographic majority, and then they vote us out? And it's like, Tucker Carlson is a piece of shit, but he's not wrong in that.
He's a fascist talking to another fascist, and he's saying you're being a little hypocritical to the other fascist.
Yeah, it's like, so they have like two faces, clearly. It's like one face is like, we are an anti-hate speech group. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. When it comes to America, doesn't really matter if there are more immigrants. I don't feel threatened by the concept of more immigrants being here or like white people not being the majority, because it doesn't matter. Obviously, as long as we maintain like American culture, which is like, hey, you can do whatever you want as long as you get your shit done, you work hard. Whether you like it or not, as much as Israel might be negative in some capacities, there is a massive amount of anti-Semitism inside of, well, not just the Middle East, but in the Middle East, which is a big reason why Jews fled from Israel to Israel, excuse me. And so, like, it makes sense that they would want to have an ethnic majority right now, considering that. I mean, sorry, if people in America were like, hey, black people want an ethnic majority in like some towns because they feel oppressed in some capacity, I would understand that. That's like the reality. Like, why do you think that, why do you think that there was even the ability to, why do you think that there was even the ability to ever, oppress a bunch of Jewish people like in Europe? Because the entire world did not give a fuck about Jews, and they still don't. There's still a mounting anti-Semitism around the world. It's kind of the reality, so it kind of makes sense why they'd want to have like an ethno-state. I mean, Turkey's an ethno-state too. Let's not pretend there are no other Middle Eastern ethno-states. I'm just saying that it's something to keep in mind. It doesn't make it okay, but I can understand where they're coming from, especially with, again, a ton of anti-Semitism in that country.
Yeah, Black Lives Matter. And then the other face is, but Israel, we're going to do all the shit that we rally against in the USA, in Israel, and we support it 100%. And
you can't say anything in the United States of America against that, or else you will face severe repercussions.
I feel like at least this is one of the reasons why I said that, like, you got to be a little bit harsher, is because this sort of thing, it is actually kind of eroding. Because a lot of the Zionist harassment, not all of it, obviously, because they do actually have institutional power where they can do real shit to you that is not just interpersonal. But a lot of the Zionist harassment and doxing apparatus, only reason it really has its power because of the social pressure. Like, a social media harassment of an employer, and the employer's like, look, they come up to you one day and they're like, look, you're not a bad worker, but I have 200 people sending me messages on Facebook. I don't know what to do about this. I have to fire you.
The Ethan Klein method.
Yeah, and then I think it's absolutely possible for us at the very least to fight against that to the point where it no longer has any power, to just laugh in their fucking face when I try to do that sort of shit, and try to educate other people on like, how like equating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism should not be allowed to work anymore. And a part of that is pushing back.
Defending this. I love it. Hey, at least we're not an anti-Semitic, right? I don't understand like why you have like such a low IQ when it comes to like the way that you interpret information. We're defending ethno-states. I'm saying I understand why it exists. Like, the rise of Zionism is directly associated with the rise in anti-Semitism, right? Like, the rise in Zionism was happening up into World War Two, because there was mounting anti-Semitism. It didn't just happen like, oh yeah, let's just genocide Jews and nobody will care. That was happening. There was a leading up to this point where the entire world, not just the Western world, not just the Eastern world, hated Jews, and so there was a rise in a Zionist tendency to like, hey, we need a state for ourselves because people want us to die, and then they were genocided, and then after that they were given land in Israel. And it's not mental gymnastics. You just have a mental disorder. I'm sorry. If this was about any other marginalized group, you'd be like masturbating. You would be guzzling fucking black cum. I mean, let's just be real. If it was like black people, you'd be like, oh, that makes perfect sense. They're oppressed in America. That makes sense that they would want to have some kind of like isolation to generate their shit together again because of historical oppression. So Jews were being targeted and oppressed for how long? The Zionist tendency was born from that, of like wanting to isolate. They were 6 million of them were genocided. They were given their land back, really, if you want to look at it from a historical context. And then that's not justifying what's happening in Gaza. I'm just saying, like, if you didn't want there to be Zionism, then you shouldn't have hated Jews for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. That's where this comes from. And so we still have anti-Semitic tendencies that are rising in America, rising around the world. And so that's why they are still an ethno-state, even though 2 million Palestinians live in Israel proper. Just to be clear, it's not like a pure ethno-state where those people can't. They exist there. They vote. They participate in government, etc. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying that makes sense as to why that would happen. I'm so sorry that like it upsets you, but like if you want, it's the same argument for why Hamas has risen inside of Gaza. Oppression caused Hamas, a radicalized concept. Oppression of Jews caused Zionism, a radicalized concept of like an ethno-state. It's just applying the same logic in both directions. Right? I'm not saying it's an okay or a good thing, but like I would understand it, especially when people want Jews to be dead. So like if you can't acknowledge that, then I think that you're being intellectually dishonest. So I get why it exists. It shouldn't, but it does. That's why it exists.
Back against what I call Jewish exceptionalism, which sometimes, sadly, you do engage in on your broadcast.
Oh, great! This is a good point of contention. I don't think so.
What does he mean by Jewish exceptionalism?
You disagree with me, or you think you don't engage in it?
I disagree with you.
Okay, so you think like pointing to like specifically Jewish people is like something that's like that we should be doing in the pro-Palestine movement.
I don't think that they should be the primary focus, but I think it's important to do that because Americans are so fucking stupid that they literally need to see like a Jewish person to be like, oh, I guess this isn't like, I guess, yeah, people are stupid when they say this guy is anti-Semitic, because it is a big focus. And also Jewish people that play a role in these protests, in the organization of these protests, also recognize that role that they play as well, because that's an important part of decoupling Zionism from Judaism, which I think should happen because I think it's the truth. I don't think it's like, it doesn't matter to me that like Israel claims is the case, but it's very clear to me, at least from all of the, all the Jewish anti-Zionists that I've read the works of and am very good friends with, that it's not a monolithic force at all. And I think it's not necessarily to shelter the feelings or place the feelings of Jewish Americans ahead of like the death and destruction that Palestinians are facing. But I think when I'm doing this argument, when I'm doing Hasbara, when I'm telling the truth to Americans about the situation, I think it's important for them to also recognize and to decouple Zionism from Judaism, because I think the other scary side of this is that...
Wait, is this Bad Empanada arguing with Hasan that they shouldn't separate Zionism from Judaism? Is that not anti-Semitic?
It's truth to the canary in the coal mine, regardless of the fact that Canary Mission has like bastardized that term, that anti-Semitism is like a primary marker of fascist ideology for the most part in the West. And I worry that the only thing that will come about this is the death and destruction of the Palestinians, and then the resentment towards Israel will not stay towards Israel, but will just simply turn into hating Jewish people and attributing them to the actions of Israel.
Is this not Ethan's exact person? Wait, why? I'm so confused. This is Ethan's like exact point. Why all of a sudden can Hasan articulate this now when he's talking to an extremist that thinks that like Zionism and Judaism should not be separated? But when he's talking to Ethan, who's just like, hey, I'm afraid of a rise in anti-Semitism, he loses the ability to talk like this. It doesn't even make sense. Well, I don't understand. This was Ethan's entire point. What the fuck? Okay.
And there will be no progress there.
All those guys get so big.
Yeah.
It's an active process.
And it's also something that the ADL and all these other like Zionist groups in the United States of America actually benefit from. Like, because I always say this, like there's a reason why they come after me more than they fucking come after Candace Owens. Why don't they come after Candace Owens? She has a massive audience. I'll tell you why they don't come after Candace Owens. What?
Because it's about Israel.
Because of what?
What?
Because it is about Israel.
No, Candace Owens also is anti-Israel, but she's also anti-Semitic.
She's not anti-Israel in the way that they care about.
No, it's because she's anti-Semitic and anti-Israel. So they can always point to Candace Owens and say, you see, this person is anti-Semitic. That's why she doesn't like Israel. Or same with Dan Bilzerian. This person is anti-Semitic. That's why he doesn't like Israel.
It's because you're a prominent left-leaning figure and you're somebody that's trying to be pushed into the atmosphere, whereas Candace Owens is mostly a conspiracy theorist who defends Harvey Weinstein and the rapes that he caused. Then again, you seem to be in a similar capacity in the denial of Jewish rape, but okay.
But someone like myself, who combats against anti-Semitism with regular frequency, am a major threat to groups like the ADL or any kind of Zionist organization, because...
With what frequency does he counter anti-Semitism? What?
Because they can't pin me down as someone who is simply anti-Israel because he's anti-Semitic, and that plays a big role in getting young American Jews to also move away from the...
I mean, ultimately, like, this is all... This, you know, we can't prove either way why they come after you, but I think the reason they come after you is totally different. The reason why they go after Candace Owens, they don't go after Candace Owens so much, is because she's not going to call Israel what it is, because ultimately she's someone who upholds the sort of structure behind what Israel is, which is, you know, like a settler colonial ethno state. She doesn't really give a shit about that. You know, she's an American nationalist. She's that sort of person. She's never going to call out like the superstructure. She's never going to call out what it is at its base. You will. I think that is way more. Sure. That is way more important as to why you are targeted deep down than just this. But you also denounce anti-Semitism thing, because they have no problem hiding that part. Like, they never even talk about that part. Honestly, like,
no,
you would never know the way they talk about it. They say anything about it. Yeah, but I mean, the point that I'm making here is that you are more of a threat to them because of that than it is because of, you know, you also couch your announcements of Israel with announcements of anti-Semitism sometimes. And what you said was.
There's a corollary point with what was being talked about earlier in regards to couching anti-Israel rhetoric for people that, for the average American, in their own material interests, in something that's going to be more digestible by saying, well, it's your money that's going to Israel to bomb these kids. It's like, oh, okay. In the same way that if you bring up the fact that some Jews are against Israel, it's like, oh, okay, that must mean something, right? Even though that's not the center of the conversation, and it shouldn't be. It's a tactical decision, right?
You could respond to them in a different way. If someone says to you, hey, people tell me that pro-Palestine people are anti-Semitic. What is the better response to that? Is it to say, my friend here is Jewish and he's pro-Palestine? What are you talking about? Or is it better to say, well, I'm against, you know, I'm against states like Israel, which is states that are run by one group for one group, regardless of who.
I mean, I'd say the first one is probably easier. It's more intuitive to be like, well, I have a Jewish friend who thinks that like Israel is bad. Wouldn't that be? Is he saying that that's not the case? I feel like that makes sense. Like optically, like it would make sense to be like, well, no, I know a lot of, you know, anti-Zionist Jews that think that that's probably going to ring a lot better than like, well, no, actually, I just don't support an apartheid state. No, it's probably a little easier, depending on who you're talking to, but more conservatives would maybe align more with that. It's a little easier to communicate. But okay, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
That for.
What the fuck?
And this is why I'm against Israel. It's nothing to do with anti-Semitism or Jews or anything like that. And I think fundamentally you should understand that's the problem here.
No, I do that as well.
Nice and quick.
Yeah, you do. But when you also
point to Saudi Arabia,
and my friend told me it's okay, then the implication there is that what if enough of your friend, of people of the group that your friend is a part of, have the opposite opinion? Would that mean that there is, you know, something legitimate?
Well, you would just go with a new talking point, no?
Obviously, you don't think that.
No.
So why?
Well, so just to be clear, you would start with the take of like, oh, you know, I have my Jewish friends are also anti-Zionist, and they'd be like, oh, why? It's like, well, because they support the country. Well, they would say because they don't support like the apartheid state, right? Although generally be like, well, they support the country, they just don't support everything that they do, something along those lines. But I don't know that Hasan necessarily supports the existence of Israel in general. Maybe he's just, you know, I'm not sure he does.
Why do we keep making this argument?
I told you it's only complementary. But the reason why I also make that argument is to
Bedham doesn't care about optics. True. He just he thinks talking about anti-Semitism at all just helps Israel. Yeah, because he hates Jews. True.
Make sure. Because, like, look, the reality is, if I were to, one, I care about anti-Semitism and not spreading it and making sure that, like, people understand that this is an issue.
I just interject here for a second with something that will get me clips on the H3 podcast subreddit. Yeah. I think you care too much about it. Too much.
I don't think so.
Think about, okay, what are Jews in today's Western
I definitely don't think so.
society? They are basically slightly less white people.
they're white. Jews are for the most part firmly a part of the white class.
The like incredible like singular focus on anti-Semitism.
No, he's right. They are a little less white in the perspective that like they are treated like second-class citizens in many instances. That is true. That's why there's a rise in anti-Semitism. So, like, sure.
As the special kind of racism that is above all else.
Like, they are white, but, like, people, well, on the right and left now don't treat them as such necessarily.
Specifically exist.
Generally, being white would make you immune to hatred for your, existence of your whiteness, right? But, we're seeing plenty of, like, rise of anti-Semitism, part of which is supported by Hasan Parker.
To legitimize Israel. Specifically exists.
Hasan doesn't, just to be clear, Hasan doesn't differentiate Zionism and Jews. Hasan differentiates Israel and like Israeli Jews and non-Israeli Jews. Those are two very different things. Those are not the same thing, though. And you kind of need to be like careful about that. Like he doesn't like. That's why he'll say like anybody who's had any positive sentiment towards Israel is like a Nazi. He doesn't separate Zionism and Judaism. Or, excuse me, he doesn't separate being a Jew and being Zionist. He separates being Israeli and being Jewish, and like a non-Israeli versus an Israeli Jew.
This to put a chilling effect on anti-Israel speech. And you are sort of legitimizing that idea by putting such an emphasis on it as well.
No, and here's why. A big part of the advocacy for Israel revolves around constantly tangling it with Judaism. That is what I'm targeting. That is what I'm also trying to dismantle. Because I don't care about just simply saying like I don't give a fuck if I mean there are
the reason why that has so much power is because of this idea of anti-Semitism as some ever-present like singular special kind of racist threat that's always there no matter what the social position that Jews actually do have at the present moment in time is. And what I was trying to say is that like you legitimize that idea when you talk about it so much and you always make sure to like put disclaimers in your speech about it, when ultimately, for one, not only does it not matter that in regards to like whether Israel is right or wrong, whether Jews support it or not, but two, when you sort of play into that terms there, which is that, there's always this endless threat of anti-Semitism in the USA, which is something that they specifically play up so much nowadays, especially because they don't really have another angle to defend Israel, and the best thing they can do is to act like, pro-Palestine people are causing this great anti-Semitism crisis.
It's crazy listening to this guy talk. He like actually makes Hasan seem like a reasonable person. What the fuck?
So when you legitimize the idea, but I'm not saying you do it on purpose or whatever, I'm saying maybe by accident, but like when you sort of play into that yourself by constantly denouncing anti-Semitism, by being a crusader against anti-Semitism singularly. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be against anti-Semitism. I'm against anti-Semitism. I call out actual anti-Semitism way more than most people on the left do, which is worrying. But
who does? You do? What? What are you talking about?
I don't think it's like this super singular issue that we always need to be conscious about. I think it's something.
Well, the optics are obviously very relevant, but you kind of just sat here and said we shouldn't worry about. We know that like anti-Jewish sentiment has gone up pretty drastically after October 7th in America. So I'm not really sure why you'd be like, yeah, we shouldn't really worry about this thing.
That once you learn about it, you can spot it. And we don't need to like always be couching what we're saying in like disclaimers and all this sort of thing to make sure they don't think we're anti-Semitic. Because by doing that, we very much legitimize the Zionist framing of the issue, which is specifically that anti-Semitism is super important. The problem here is not that we are not against anti-Semitism because we are.
Well, it is important. You shouldn't hate a group of people based on the actions of some of them, specifically the government.
The problem is that very idea that anti-Semitism is presently this massive, like, overbearing threat that we all should be super concerned with, because that idea legitimizes Israel, and it's not true.
I do both. And that's the reason why I said I don't agree with what you're saying, is because I don't know if you see this or not, but I spent a great deal of time talking about precisely what you just mentioned, as far as like how this is weaponized or how this is like classified as like a specific form of bigotry that is oftentimes bastardized. You're saying like Jews by and large in the United States of America like are classified as white and are in an exceptionally privileged circumstance in comparison to like the Palestinians, right? That's like, you're saying. So like therefore,
I'm saying in comparison to other Americans, for example, as well,
or even in comparison to other Americans. Sure, fine. I understand. I understand where you're coming from. Having said that, it's still a real bigotry, which is why I think that it's important to make sure that people are not taking their eyes off the ball. And I worry that because Americans are so wired towards bigotry, that the only way to make a convincing argument for them is to literally entertain anti-Semitic conspiracies. And that is why I think it is not a mistake that some of the largest voices that are seemingly anti-Israel in mainstream political discourse, including but not limited to, is the likes of Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens or Dan Bilzerian, all of these people who are basically they're incredibly popular, partially because they don't necessarily care about Palestinians. They don't give a shit about Palestinian emancipation at all. They're just using this as a popular, they're using this as a way to drive home more nefarious discourse about, the ways in which Jews are controlling American media or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I mean, I guess I could appreciate that in this conversation. It's so strange because like this part of the conversation is literally like just the point Ethan was trying to make when their relationship first dissolved. That's his exact point. That's literally it. And I don't understand how Hasan can be this self-aware and aware of like, hey, you know, this narrative can be very dangerous. And then like, is this a change in heart? I don't understand. This is literally just Ethan's perspective when they first broke it off. And so it's so interesting to see how Hasan in this conversation could just be like so kind of normal about the conversation, normal about what they're talking about. Where he's like, yeah, we have to keep anti-Semitism in mind when we talk about these topics, et cetera, et cetera. But still break off the relationship with Ethan however many years ago. I don't know. It just, something seems off here. I don't know if he's being performative here. I mean, we did say, I don't know if he's being performative here or what, or maybe he just came to a realization that Ethan was right in the first place. Okay.
And I think it's wrong too. And I know you agree with me on this, especially on the front like of the whole Israel controls America. Like there is an incredibly sophisticated and very expansive influence peddling operation from Israel into the United States of America that has solidified its like favored client nation state status. But ultimately, America still, if they wanted to, could just as easily make one fucking phone call and stop this in its entirety.
Yeah.
Well, every country has like the ability to advocate. I understand what he's saying. There is like Israel has influence, as just like other countries have influence in America. Like you're allowed to advocate for your country, etc. That part is definitely true. But they don't have like a secret shadowy cabal that controls all the decisions in the world. I mean, if I'm being charitable, that's what Hasan is saying.
And I think people the Israel lobby is allowed to exist more so than anything else.
Yeah, exactly. So you and I both agree on that front. And so I'm not necessarily doing this as a way to say like Jews have this special status in America. Let's only care about them. Their opinions are more important than the opinions of like Palestinian Americans, for example, or anything like that. The reason why I actually, I mean, I never entertained that. That was a big point of fucking contention that actually led to the Leftovers podcast ending. Was I was like, the fuck out of here with the Palestine from the river to the sea. Palestine would be free is anti-Semitic. What are you insane? Like,
well, yeah, that's what it means. It's anti-Jewish dog whistle. Yeah.
That was the major point of contention that me and Ethan had that led to literally this podcast ending. So
the one point of contention is that when Ethan said that people in Israel feel that way, and you couldn't, that's it. And you, that's the one point of contention. You couldn't just be like, listen, Ethan, I disagree. And my audience, I know Ethan doesn't mean well. Stop harassing him, or else I'm going to have to, ban you from the chat. Couldn't just do that. All right, cool.
I have obviously these red lines, but having said that, it's important for me to at least consistently address that for a couple different reasons. One, because there are people, especially in like progressive liberal spaces, that do fall into this propaganda that like, this is a product of like anti-Semitism. And two, I don't want to give any credence to the right-wing anti-Semitic rhetoric that revolves around Israel because it's just wrong. It's a wrong solution, or there won't be any fucking solution whatsoever if their desires are followed on.
I think you have actually, you might not have noticed it, but you have actually sort of become harsher on this recently. Maybe it's because of me, maybe not. No, you definitely have. You definitely have the dog walker comment, the local dog catcher, or whatever it was. That was exceptional from you, and that is progress. You might not see it, but it is. I believe recently you also said something. What was it? I was thinking.
This is incredible. Yeah, that was a really anti-Semitic thing to say, because anybody that has any pro-Israeli fucking tendencies is a fucking Nazi that can't even be a dog walker. I mean, that's pretty crazy. You're getting praised. You're getting praised for being fucking anti-Semitic right now. It's beautiful, incredible stuff. Good job, buddy.
Thinking about it there, but I forgot what it was. But you said something in a similar vein to that regarding like support for Israel or whatever and stuff. And like, no, what you said was, I think it was definitely you. It has to have been you. It was that you outright said that in the context of Israel, Palestine, like Jews are like, white people owning slaves, basically. Not exactly, but like Jews in Israel are in that sort of social position, and that's true. So, like, talking about,
I've been saying that. I've been saying that since day one. I have time and time again mentioned that, like, what Israel has done is far worse than, like, a Jim Crow. Like, what?
Okay, but you're saying what Israel has done. I'm talking about the social position of Jewish.
I don't think that that's true. That's fucking insane. Listen, what's going on in Gaza is not good at all, but worse than fucking Jim Crow. I don't think that that's true. I mean, I suppose after they were attacked, the response has been disproportionate, but beforehand, I would not even close to compare that to fucking slavery. That's fucking preposterous. I don't know, man. I think that that's insane. I think it's insane to compare the two of those things, especially with the understanding the context that Hamas does not care about its own people. That's wild. Hamas wants its own people to die. Like, they don't care. They want to use it as a propaganda point. They don't really give a shit. That's why they don't, like, they hide in civilian infrastructure. But to say that, like, the oppression of black people being forced to come to America, being forced to fuck each other, being forced to breed with each other to create other people, completely stripped of their human rights, et cetera, compared to Gaza, where, you know, people were definitely, it's basically like, yeah, sure, open air prison, but like before October 7th, it's like the population was still growing. They were definitely being treated like more human in Gaza than they were at any point during fucking the Jim Crow era and slavery. That's just fucking insane. What the fuck? That's really crazy. Or maybe he's not, maybe he doesn't mean during slavery. He's just talking about the Jim Crow area. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a tough take because there wasn't there are people in Gaza, like, yes, pre-October 7th, there are people in Gaza that weren't allowed to leave, but then again, 2 million Palestinians live inside of Israel proper. I don't know if this is a comparable take. This seems fucking crazy. Okay.
Israelis.
Yeah, that's another major one. I've time and time again mentioned that, like, what Israel has done is far worse than like a Jim Crow. Like, what?
Okay, but you're saying what Israel
I don't know, man. That seems like a tough take there. That seems a little intense.
has done. I'm talking about the social position of Jewish Israelis.
Yeah, that's another major part of my commentary. Is like, I always talk about how, like, the different the ways in which, like, in the Western world, someone can claim that there's an anti-Semitic attack happening when you have a Jewish person who gets the Star of David painted outside of their house. This happened in France, I think, like, immediately after October 7th. Mm-hmm. But when the Star of David is painted outside of the house of someone in the West Bank, that means something entirely different. This is a way to explain the dynamic of, like, what Judaism looks like in the region and the power position that Jews hold in Israel in particular, but certainly across the board as an expression of American imperialism. Yeah. This is a very important part of my commentary from the jump. I've always talked about this.
Okay, like, well, my point here,
there is no, like, I don't think there's any marginalization of Jews.
I'm sure you agree with. And I think, you know, maybe you think that you've been saying this all along. I don't think you have. I agree to disagree on that. I'm not specifically here just to call you out. You know, I'm not here to, like, hold Hasan Piker to account. I'm not even inclined. But my point here is that in the context of Israel-Palestine, like, talking about anti-Semitism is a fucking joke. It's so worthless. It's pointless. It's like talking about anti-white racism. It is.
I don't know about that, but okay.
All lives matter.
That's literally what I told Ethan.
Yeah.
You know.
When did you tell me, like 4 years ago? I don't know. When I saw you, like, come on, Ethan, don't.
Wait, what? Dude, this is so jarring. We were just listening to Hasan say you have to be sensitive to anti-Semitism to make sure that you don't communicate the wrong message. And now the second this guy gives him pushback, he's like, no, actually, I've been saying I don't care about anti-Semitism at all. That's what I was trying to tell Ethan. This is he's so inconsistent from one point to the next. Oh my God. He can't even keep up the facade long enough to be, like, a reasonable person. He comes off so reasonable and, like, normal in this conversation. And then, like, stuff like this happens. And it's just like, wait, what? That's not even consistent at all with what you just said. This is fucking wild.
Called Jewish voice for peace, the capos. What you should have said there,
that was what
Hasan
I said before that.
Hasan Piker, what you should have said to him in that situation is, Ethan, in this case, the Holocaust victims are the fucking Palestinians. They have capos, not the fucking Israelis. Shut the fuck up, you moron.
Okay.
Well, that's basically what he has been saying, no?
You have to understand something.
He's been calling them like the new Nazis.
You have to understand something. I literally told him verbatim what you just said, not the Holocaust thing, but I should have. You're right, and I have made this comparison on numerous occasions since then. But I literally told him verbatim exactly what you said. I was like, what are you talking about? You're doing, like, all lives matter shit, like a white supremacist, to someone saying Black Lives Matter. Like, why would I listen to what you have to say on this issue? Like, I'm telling you what the Palestinians are saying in this emancipatory slogan, and you, on the other hand, are presenting your feelings on this issue, when, if you are at odds with this message, like, you are a part of the party. You are defending the party that is doing these actions. Mm-hmm. It's the same as listening to someone like a white Christian right-winger say all lives matter to Black people that are saying Black Lives Matter.
If you say so.
That was literally the conversation that we had on October 17th, 2023. So yes, I have been saying this.
Right to the date. Well, I mean, I'm happy to take your word for it.
You can go back and watch it.
No, I'm not going to go and relitigate your clips from 3 years ago. Okay, it's not 3 years ago, but you know what I mean. I'm not here to do that. I mean, I don't even know why I'm here. I'm here to make money for UNRWA so they can give people food so they don't die. That's why I'm.
Oh, okay. I don't think that they're allowed to give money in Israel and in Gaza right now. I think that they're banned right now, so you might want to give it to somebody else. But okay.
Yeah, honestly, So,
but yeah,
I'm glad at least now we seem to agree on that. And I will have my entire harassment Discord server permanently watching your streams to make sure that you stay in line. So be very careful.
Yeah, listen, the Turk does not concern himself with the opinions of the Greek. Okay,
yes, Ottoman.
The Ottoman does not concern himself with this. You are a very powerful janissary, though. I will admit.
You are literally a fucking like living room ornament. Shut the fuck up.
No, I'm
Janissary. My understanding is that's a bad thing. So just to be clear, janissaries were an elite Ottoman military corps that were formed through forcibly recruiting Christian boys from the Balkans and converting them to Islam. So basically, we're using the term janissary, which is basically, a forced military slave. We're using that as like a positive, so that's cool. Okay. Great stuff, man. Good job, Hasan.
I'm the Sultan. Okay, I'm the Sultan here. I'm the Padishah.
For years, okay. Like the first.
You are the nubile boy that my soldiers brought in, and were like, this boy right here, he's going to be a good warrior.
Drew Pavlov's son is going to be the janissary, not mine.
No, he's a terrible janissary.
No, Drew Pavlov recently made a video. He recently made a video where he like it was like a bad empanada denouncement video, and it's just totally like random and it's out of nowhere. But he made a video. It's like bad empanada tried to sue me and I won, and it's like I sent him a legal letter because he was publicly accusing me of like raping children. Okay. And I decided not to go through with it, and I ended up raising money for charity and for UNRWA. So this was like a year ago. And in his video talking about this, Drew Pavlov, he made like a counter accusation against me that what he had accused me of was true. And part of his evidence of this was a tweet where I posted a poll that said, should Drew Pavlov's children be conscripted into janissary duty? And I shit you not, when the time came for him to put evidence on the screen for his allegations against me, that was what he put on the screen. And the best part about it was that was attached to a poll, which was like 99.9% yes. And he edited the poll out of the screenshot as well. And this is specifically relevant to our discussion about.
It's really just so interesting. I feel like Noah out of everybody here might be like the most genuine person. I don't think he knows what he's listening to as he like kind of smiles and giggles with cat ears on. I don't think he realizes how like fucking insane this conversation is at all.
The Ottoman and the Greek. So I thought that was funny.
Well, okay. I think he would make for a horrible janissary. I would never allow him to be.
We would need to get to him very early before Drew destroys his mind.
Yeah. You, on the other hand, you have the gumption and the intensity necessary to be in the fucking front lines.
What do you think about the Armenian genocide? You're Turkish. I hold you collectively responsible.
You know what's really interesting about that?
The Armenians away from Hasan Piker.
So what's really interesting about that is like, first of all, in Turkey, it's not even like in school, like I learned it as though it never happened, or like people were lying about it. And I always thought it was like interesting because like something just didn't add up. You know what I mean? What?
So they just don't talk about it at all?
No, I don't know what it looks like now in like current curriculum, but yeah, when I was growing up and I went to middle school and high school, all the way up into high school in Turkey. It's like kind of embarrassing to kind of admit this, but like System of a Down kind of played a role in me going, maybe there's more to this, like to this narrative, which is such a strange thing to admit now, like, decades later. But yeah, that was my first.
Why did System of a Down have it? Did they talk about it?
First, like introduction into perhaps the overarching narrative that the state was presenting as true was maybe not true. It's really interesting though, because like I've never denied the Armenian genocide, and yet like that's like the number one thing.
It's literally just the first thing they think of when you're Turkish.
Andrew Tate has claimed that I denied the Armenian genocide. He's like, which is weird because he's a fucking horrible monster. But
isn't he like? He's been arrested in like every country in the world.
He came to America and did a rape. Like he squeezed in a fucking rape in America while he was here for like 2 weeks. It's crazy.
Does that actually happen? I mean, I know that he was pressured to get out of here because he's a disgusting fucking sex trafficking rapist. But I didn't know he did.
It is crazy.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it, but I don't know if it's true.
Did he get out? Like, did he escape before?
Yeah, he just like lives in Dubai, I think. I don't know how the fuck that works.
Oof. Yeah, but yeah, like, so what like
maybe Andrew Tate.
What is like the narrative? Literally, like they just don't even mention anything in Turkey regarding the Armenian genocide. It's just totally gone. Or
they say it's a lie. It's similar to Israel, ironically enough, another state that also I think does not recognize
the Armenian voluntarily.
Does not recognize the Armenian genocide. No, the narrative is at the time when I was learning about it was like during World War I. The Armenians, by way of being like Orthodox Christians, I think, were aligning with Russia on the Russian front, with the Russian Empire. And so they were collaborators with the Russian Empire, and therefore they were killing like Turkish villagers, like they were killing their own villagers. So they had to be transferred. It was a population transfer into Syria. And that like along the way of said population transfer, accidents happen, mistakes happen, and some of the Armenians died due to the horrible conditions. But ultimately it wasn't a genocide is what they say. And they claim that it's a population transfer or something. But the other interesting part about this obviously is that like this right here is also part of the reason why I'm so frustrated all the time with like people that believe that the Nakba didn't happen or
well, who doesn't believe that Nakba didn't happen? No one said the Nakba didn't happen. He likes to, like, I know that Hasan's upset that Ethan compared, Jews being forced from surrounding Israeli countries to go to Israel. He said that hey, that was bad, and so is the Nakba, basically. But I mean, nobody's saying the Nakba didn't happen. But Hasan can't recognize that fact that did happen, because if he recognizes that fact, and he has to understand where did Zionism come from? It came from anti-Semitism around the world. And this, in the same way of where did Hamas come from? It came from Palestinian oppression around, the lack of caring, not around the world, but the lack of caring around the world, right? So he can't come to terms with understanding that. He could justify Hamas using their own civilians as human shields, but he can't understand why Zionism, which is basically, to some extent, it's basically just radicalized. It's like Hamas. Probably less bad now because they've had more systemic power, and things tend to calm down when systemic power shifts. But he can't acknowledge he doesn't want to acknowledge that. He doesn't want to acknowledge that anti-Semitism created Zionism, which created the suppression on Gaza at all. He doesn't want to justify it. He wants to make it seem like, Jews are just bad. That's the dog whistle. That there is no justifier for a Jewish state at all. That's the whole problem with the way that we have these conversations about this.
People that deny Israel's ongoing genocide, where it's well, if I can fucking understand after having this beamed to my consciousness from an early age that the Armenian genocide is real, in spite of what all of the things that I trusted, all of the institutions that I trusted telling me that it's not real, then you can fucking figure out that Israel is also a genocidal state, Yeah,
I mean, I think you have to understand as well, a lot of Zionists do not believe the things that they say. That's simply true. A lot of Israelis do not believe the things that they say. In terms of these people are indoctrinated. I think a lot of
they don't believe what they're saying. Wouldn't they be indoctrinated?
It's not that they're indoctrinated. It's that they recognize a system that benefits them, and they will lie to try to legitimize it or maintain it.
Bro, this is just unhinged. That's just an unhinged thing to say. That he's no, Israeli people are fully aware of everything going on. They just lie to themselves and they convince themselves that they're not the bad guy. But it's okay, the government is doing very bad things, but every country engages in propaganda onto their own country. They'll extend that understanding to every other country except for Israel. Okay, that sounds a little interesting. Good job, buddy.
I think Israelis overall know what happened during the Nakba. I think in Turkey it's kind of different because there was not there's not a conflict afterwards that they have to benefit from denying it, so they don't really need to think about it that much.
What?
Whereas in Palestinians are literally still there right now claiming the land from Israelis, so they need to continually reinforce their narrative, not so much as the Turkish do.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I mean,
that's definitely true. You think it's definitely true that Israeli people are just bad for the virtue of their existence?
In America, once a long enough time passes, no one talks about or cares about the indigenous genocide of the Native Americans.
Biden literally went and just apologized to Native Americans, and everyone forgot about it the next day because now they're comfortable talking about it because there's no consequences for talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's my biggest fear is that
well, I mean, okay, gotcha.
This will be relegated.
I don't even know what to say anymore. It's just a lot of the dog whistles, but okay.
To the dustbins of history, and then Israel will do fucking disgusting land acknowledgements 100 years in the future. You know what I mean? I just thinking about that makes me so angry.
I don't know. I don't even know if Zionism.
You're actually angry about that, or you just pretend to be angry?
Do that. I don't know. Zionism seems like a particularly bad settler colonial ideology that might even reach that stage.
Probably not. Yeah, because I hope that there will be a.
Why? What makes Zionism so much worse than any other ism? Why would it never reach that stage? Is there something? Is it about the people who support it? What is it?
A dismantling of Zionism across the board, and then there will be a single solitary secular state.
Yeah, I mean, on its own, Israel will collapse probably. It's probably unsustainable. However, clearly, Israel is presently trying to just get rid of
we all collapse one day, huh?
Palestinians. They're trying to do that. The problem is, Israel is presently trying to just get rid of all Palestinians. They're trying to do that. The problem is for them, they are kind of a small country without basically no geopolitical leverage anymore. Whatever usefulness they used to have in terms of fucking up all fucking around in all the politics of their neighbors, they're kind of beginning to outweigh that in their just blatant and overt genocide.
Okay, so you're saying that they do have usefulness, but they're pushing themselves so far that other countries are going to be forced to be okay, we can't support you even if you're beneficial. This is a different thing that you're saying.
Now everyone can see, and even their own people are having trouble denying. So I don't know. Maybe there is some case of optimism there in that, Israel is not going to be able to carry out their goals as much as...
I mean, I think this is a very Western view on the conflicts. Realistically speaking, as how horrible as this sounds, the Middle East is full of constant, horrific, killings, genocides, and conflicts. And so if you're compared to the Western world, yeah, that makes sense, where it'd be difficult to back, Western back or co-sign what's going on in Israel, absolutely. But there's a lot of horrific shit going on in the Middle East with denial of people's human rights. So I don't know, from a Middle Eastern perspective, I'm not sure how catastrophic this is going to be for them. I don't know.
As they would like to.
Especially all that really matters is if Americans don't really care anymore. which again, conservatives already don't care. And I think with the way that Hasan talks about this conflict, it does make people engage in like empathy fatigue that are more moderate leaning, especially when he will, dog whistle anti-Semitism. I don't know. I think if anything, Israel's probably going to start slowly gaining ground back. I mean, especially since, again, we got Hasan, who wouldn't even say like, hey, you have to vote Kamala, even though she's not perfect for Gaza. She's better than Trump. He couldn't even like do that in an aggressive way. He couldn't even like, he talks about being a boots on the ground journalist, but he can't like heavily advocate. So I don't know, man. You're struggling on that one.
And they might try, like, they might like explode under the weight of trying to, because, Israel is not like the colonial United States, where they could just do this shit with literally zero consequence at all without any help from anyone. It is a country that is totally dependent on the rest of the world to even have a slight chance of existing. And for it to do what it wants to do,
I suppose, but haven't they even been like gaining ground when it comes to like allegiances with Egypt? No?
While
and like other surrounding Middle Eastern countries, like slowly like increasing their trade.
Allies can also somehow sell the idea that they are for a two-state solution, all that sort of stuff. I don't know. It seems untenable, but they're definitely trying anyway.
So. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. I think they have a grand design in the region, and Israel plays an important role in this. And I think that there's going to be more. Israel's going to play a major role in going against Iran as well, because I think the ultimate goal for America is to go and decouple the rest of the world from trading with China, move them to like India or other.
Well, I guess that was happening at a certain point. We kind of dropped that with the fucking, idiot perspective from Trump. But
secondary markets for manufacturing.
I mean, that makes sense that we want to try to decouple people from China. So yeah, we don't want them to get too powerful. America should try to maintain its global presence and dominance. But Trump is making that awfully difficult, huh?
Only so they can more easily go to war with China.
I think Israel has been super important to Middle Eastern strategy for the US in particular. I mean, you can see the result of that right now. The reason the Arab countries don't do anything about Gaza is in large part thanks to the role that Israel played in just totally fucking up regional geopolitics to the point where the US was able to capture their governments. It's
for sure
amazing at that. But then there's also like, even though like there's a normalization between Israel and
oh, okay. I don't know. It's a little bit strange. I feel like it kind of makes sense now that I think I parsed through it. I think that one of the things that Ben Nebenada tries to do is downplay the success of the Israeli government. Not just say, hey, it was bad, but downplay the success of it and be like, oh, it's going to fall sometime at some point. And then Hasan's like, well, no, I think that they're still pretty potentially, dangerous. When it comes to, oppressing other Middle Eastern countries. And he's like, oh, yeah, you're right. It seems like I think it has this whole thing is he just tries to downplay the effectiveness of like Israeli government just to be like, yeah, fuck you, Israel, I guess.
In Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia and
Hasan does love China.
Israel are like going to be rivals at some point because their own interests in the region is kind of conflict. The Saudis want to be the hegemon. Israel also wants to be the hegemon. And at some point that's going to come to a head as well. So the US like aligning with Saudi Arabia also sort of puts, I feel like a time limit in Israel's existence, honestly. Because it doesn't matter. The US can't control Saudi Arabia. They want you to think they can, but they don't. They support it. Saudi Arabia is way more powerful than Israel will ever be. And I think that creates a situation where eventually Israel and the Saudis will get into a spat about something, and that will probably balloon into a conflict between the two. It's just, will the Palestinians be dead before then? I hope not.
I mean, I think if the Saudis were thinking that far ahead, they would already also have a foothold in the resistance to a certain degree, in the resistance against Israel, at least to make sure that there's like decent relations if that time ever comes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're too cucked. The Saudis are cucked to some degree.
Too cucked, okay.
I sound like a serious
too cucked solution, guys.
Political analyst, don't I?
No, they are servile dogs to American interests because primarily they.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're too cucked.
Decent relations.
If that Israel is dogs
far ahead, they would already also have a foothold in the resistance to a certain degree, in the resistance against Israel, at least to make sure that there's like decent relations if that time ever comes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're too cucked. The Saudis are cucked to some degree. I sound like a serious political analyst, don't I?
No, they are servile dogs to American interests because.
Wait, who? Saudi Arabia or Israel?
Primarily, they want to diversify their investment portfolio. They want to get a stronger foothold in Western capital. They want Western capital to come into the country, and they care about those things, and they know that. And also, they like the weapons and possibly get a nuke. And all of those things.
If they wanted a nuke, they would already have it. No one's.
Is he talking about Saudi Arabia or Israel? Because he's a little too prone to calling, Jewish people dogs. I think he's talking about Saudi Arabia, though.
Stopping them.
I think Donald Trump
might already have it. Honestly,
I don't know. I don't know if they already have it or not. But by the end of Trump's presidency, I don't know how long that'll be. They probably will have one.
What do you think the world will look like at the end of Trump's presidency?
Nah, dude, I have no fucking idea. I don't know. He's the great peacekeeper.
Did you see that Dan Saltman? This is totally unrelated. Did you see that Dan Saltman called you out because it's possible that your interview was 50 minutes instead of 2 hours? What do you have to say to that, Hasan?
It comes out.
Yeah, dude, that was really funny because like I think he openly admitted that he's like lying, and it doesn't matter that he's lying. And what matters is like the narrative.
Here. I need to, this is your entertainment. Okay, I'm a CBP officer. I'm Iraqi. Saddam was a lion, and also Saddam was a lion.
Yeah, he was a Baathist.
Every Iraqi I've ever met has told me that Saddam was a lion. And also, so how long was the interview?
Oh, I don't fucking know, dude. I have no idea. He's I think they did a.
I mean, you probably weren't counting.
They did like a timeline assessment, and I think they like added some time to like when the plane landed or something. I don't fucking know. Like, who gives a shit?
I mean, I don't know. Like, it's like Hasan Piker was only interviewed for 30 minutes. Okay, so what? I mean,
I have no idea what they're talking about.
Like in the place where they take the non-citizens.
Yeah, the point of contention there isn't like the length of my interrogation. The point of contention there is the fact that they asked me about like what my loyalty is to Donald Trump or Israel.
People were trying to frame it like this is normal. Like, this is something that happens to you, everyone when you internationally travel. No, when you internationally travel and they ask you questions, like they were comparing this to like, oh, you get asked when you give them your passport. And is this business or pleasure? They think it's the same fucking thing.
Yeah, no,
you were literally pulled aside for like an interview that they usually only give to like foreigners.
Yeah.
To ask about basically whether you're a terrorist.
But also what's funny about it is that like the Department of Homeland Security admitted that it happened. So I don't know why they're like still running this narrative that like this did not happen actually, because like the DHS openly was like, it did happen, but it's routine. He's lying for likes for saying he was
politically. You want to know who did lie about something? You ever hear of Ethan Klein's skulls?
Yeah, that's what the interviewer asked me, and I was too afraid to admit that. Yes, he said, "Hey, it says here that you have a sword that Ethan said was a swastika, but also admitted wasn't a swastika. What do you have to say about this sword? Where did you purchase this sword?"
Well, he purchased it because he thought it was a funny swastika meme. But like, what are we talking about the skulls for? Is he saying that is he trying to say the skulls aren't real?
At least the DHS guy was 10 times smarter than these motherfuckers, and he immediately recognized that Rashid wasn't a Houthi.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on.
You ever hear of Ethan Klein's skulls?
But it's routine. He's lying for likes for saying he was politically
You want to know who
targeted.
did lie about something? You ever hear of Ethan Klein's skulls?
Yeah, that's.
Are they just sitting here saying that the Ethan Klein skulls are fake? Is Hasan having a good little giggle to the idea that human skulls sent to Ethan never happened? Okay.
That's what the interviewer asked me, and I was too afraid to admit that. Yes, he said, "Hey, it says here that you have a sword that Ethan said was a swastika, but also admitted wasn't a swastika. What do you have to say about this sword? Where did you purchase this sword?"
At least the DHS guy was 10 times smarter than these motherfuckers, and he immediately recognized that Rashid wasn't a Houthi.
Yeah, that's why I thought I lucked out with the fucking Iraqi agent.
But I think that someone who works for them would at least know that sort of stuff anyway, even if they want Iraqi, no? Or maybe not.
No, I think the reason why they gave me the Iraqi guy is because I assume I don't know too much about.
They thought you were an Arab.
No, not because I'm an Arab, but the line of questioning was going to pertain to like Middle Eastern stuff, because he asked me if I traveled to the Gulf and shit too. So I think they have like different agents that are more knowledgeable on certain issues. So they were like, oh, like we'll give the Iraqi guy to question this dude.
Yeah,
because I was coming back from France. I wasn't coming.
Oh, okay. Now I remember what they're talking about. They're talking about Hasan Parker got like detained supposedly. That's what they're talking about.
Back from the fucking Gulf. Like I was coming back from a family vacation from France. But that was the other reason why that was suspicious. Why are you asking me about Israel Palestine? I'm just traveling back from France with my family. Interesting.
I mean, they just saw an opportunity to like potentially get you. That's really all there is to it.
Yeah.
Like if you had said the wrong thing.
I think that they just investigated you because, you know, you have terrorists on your stream, people who you think are terrorists. I think my favorite thing in the world about that whole thing where Hasan supposedly got stopped at the airport is that he said to us that they said to him that there's no way that like Rashid al-Haddad, right? That was his name, right? There's no way that he could have been a Houthi because that's not a Houthi, that's a Sunni last name. And I was sitting here and I'm like, okay, why wouldn't Hasan know that? And so my thing is he always postures himself as like this Middle Eastern expert, but then like when it comes down to it, he doesn't really seem to know what the fuck he's talking about. He didn't know that. You'd think he would have known that. It seems strange to me.
I don't even know, like, how
seems like a kind of a self.
Would they arrest you though? Even if you had said, "Yeah, I love Hamas," it's the USA. Like, there's no way that would fucking fly in the court. So, what was their plan? That's the scary part.
See, that's the problem. So, I talked to a couple journalists about this, including Jeremy Scahill, and I think the thing that they're trying to do now is, and they have done this in like previous court cases where they claim that like offering legal counsel to someone of a known terrorist organization is considered material support, and that's an expansion on what previously used to be considered material support, because speech in the past was not considered material support, but they say this is like speech, but also services at the same time.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I would agree with that. I'm not going to sit here and say like a strong opinion on it, but it kind of makes sense because, you know, especially now that we're Jesus Christ, it does make sense to be like, hey, a service can still be some kind of support, right? Like it's not like a thing, but it's still like a support, you know what I mean? Some potential legal services. Although Hasan could just argue like, hey, I have no actual education. So it doesn't really matter what I say. That's what a really good argument that he can make.
So I think what this administration is trying to do is basically muddy the line between material support and speech in an effort to claim that, like, if you actually interview a member of Hamas, Hezbollah, or like the Houthis, you're doing material support, which I think is really fucked up. And I did not want to be the precedent-setting court case in that regard. So
potentially, yeah. I mean, if you're allowing them like the ability to engage in like propaganda pieces, sure. You know, well, sure.
Yeah.
And luckily I had not at the time interviewed.
And I mean,
someone,
there was no legal basis for that anyway, because the Houthis won a terrorist group on the list yet when you did that. So it doesn't sound like a very sound case.
That's not my fear. Yeah, I think. Well, I'm worried because in general, I'm worried that like there are so many fucking journalists. Like Jeremy is not in America right now, but like, what's up? Is he going to come back to America? And they're going to fucking make him a precedent-setting.
They're basically doing like European sort of laws in the US now.
But no, not even in Europe. You can still, as a journalist, interview members of terror groups.
Oh, yes, there is that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And say like,
yeah, but like, there's a difference between just interviewing them and giving them like a puff piece, which is the argument that they're going to make there, that you were puff piecing that kid. Which seemed to be the case. What the fuck? How did that hit me instantly?
I like Hamas though. You're getting in big trouble for that.
Yeah, I know. That's why fucking Kneecap had to apologize. And
did you see
that?
By the way,
so bad.
Yeah, like that. Oh my god, they were begging. They were on their fucking knees, man. Please don't arrest us.
Well, they really fucked them over, dude. They really fucked them over. Like they scoured through thousands of hours of concert footage to find one time where they said like up Hamas, up Hezbollah, to be like, you're going to fucking prison, which is so psychotic. And I totally understand why in that situation be like, oh, that's crazy. We're not doing that. We didn't do that. You misunderstood us. We meant up yours.
What I was going to say to you is I heard this from random people in my chat, so it might not be true, but I heard you say like bad empanada doesn't know what can happen to us in the US when you speak out against Israel because he's in Argentina. You know, do you know what happens to you in Argentina when you speak out against Israel? You think we don't have an ADL? We do. It's called DAIA. Okay, I don't know what happens.
I mean, whatever. Doesn't make sense. Then like a bunch of fucking Nazis flee to Argentina, so it kind of makes sense for them to be like, oh shit, we might have to get some of that. Might have to be a little bit extra protectorate on some of that hate speech against Jews.
Don't know the Argentine hate speech laws. Didn't they fucking disappear like an insane number of Jewish people in Argentina?
Yeah. Oh, they disappeared Jewish people. Like this was like the U.S. back dictatorship that did it, and they took like a bunch of Jewish people, and the ones who got released, like who were tested, gave testimonies. They were asking us if Israel wants to colonize Argentina, because there's like this conspiracy theory in Argentina, because like Herzl and that Zionist movement initially thought about Argentina as like a possible place for the Jewish colony, and because of that, there's a conspiracy theory in Argentina.
I could swear that Argentina is where like the Nazi colony was. No. Yeah, a ton of Nazis and Nazi sympathizers fled to Argentina. How does this conspiracy theory about Jews trying to colonize it come from? Where does that come from?
That Israel still wants to take over a part of Argentina. So the dictatorship, geniuses they were, kidnapped a bunch of random Jews and would ask them, like, electrocute their ballsack and be like, what do you want in Patagonia? What do you people want in Patagonia? So that's a fun little tidbit for you.
Yeah.
I think
aside from that, though,
I think it was the Ottoman Sultan that initially, when asked for,
I'm not understanding, like, what's the point of you saying that? Like, what is the point of that?
By Theodore Herzl to purchase Israel, historic Palestine. He said, "Fuck off. That's not going to happen. Go to Argentina or something."
Oh, I mean, I know what he says. I mean, historically it was Israel, right? Like, just to be clear, if we're gonna do like a history books game, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm not saying that I'm just saying.
I think that was the initial.
About it. And then but like in the end, like Herzl, at least I don't know what the rest of them thought. I haven't like read the minutes of their meetings and stuff. But like Herzl decided on Israel because he thought it would like unleash nationalist sentiments better than a random place. So
yeah, but there was also
because they used to be there. It's like they're God's chosen, they're chosen people, their land for their chosen people or whatever, right? So
what was the other? There was another place in Africa. There was another
Uganda, yeah,
Uganda. And the irony is they were like, we can't do Uganda because like the natives will kill us if we do Uganda. That was one of the big reasons why they didn't want to do Uganda, from what I understand.
Yeah, they thought they were too combative, probably.
Yeah.
But what I was getting at, like at the beginning of this little segment here, is like so in Argentina, guess what the legal definition of anti-Semitism is under hate speech laws? Guess what definition they use? IHRA. You know it.
IHRA? Is it IHRA?
Yeah. Yep. It's like comparing Israel to the Nazis is anti-Semitic.
Yeah, it probably should, because again, the Nazis fled there. So
saying that Israel is racist is anti-Semitic. This is the legal definition of anti-Semitism under Argentina.
What happens to you when you say stuff?
I don't know. Why haven't they reported me? Why? Where are they? I'm here. Come at me. But
probably because they don't care that much, because that's where all the Nazis fled to. So
they mostly go after like politicians, as far as I know. Like, so about 6 months ago, there was a politician who said like Israel is Nazi Germany, Israel is racist. He literally just said that sort of thing. And our ADL,
okay,
yeah, our ADL took him to court, and he got sentenced to a 6-month suspended prison sentence.
Fuck.
What?
So yeah.
So what's gonna happen if they come after you? You're gonna go to jail?
Maybe then I'll actually stream from jail.
Yeah, no, motherfucker, you're gonna be like, "Am Israel high, sir? I'm so sorry."
Yes, sir. I'm so sorry, sir. Yeah. Please don't come after me, Mr. Simulate.
Just like me at the fucking the DHS when they were like, "Do you like Hamas? Do you think it's a resistance group?" And I just kept repeating, Hamas is a recognized terrorist group by the U.S. State Department. That's what I just kept repeating over and over again after every question. I was like, the Houthis are recognized as a terrorist group by the U.S. State Department. And then whenever they kept asking me about Israel, my opinions on Israel, I was like, I am on the side of peace.
You sounded like fucking Ahmed Fouad al-Khatib for a while there.
Yeah. I'm on the side of peace. Or the other guy's like Luai Ahmed or whatever. There's a Yemeni version of
the one who they were posted like fucking Ethan Klein quoted him.
Yeah. He was like, Hasan,
I'm a staunch advocate of the Palestinian people. Here's this paid token Arab who happens to agree with every single Zionist talking point.
Dude, paid token Arab from the Atlantic Council. Like, here is the guy that works for the fucking Atlantic Council. Like, are you kidding me?
The Yemeni one as well, or is he talking about?
No, I think that I don't know what the Yemeni one does. I didn't even look at him. He's hotter than the Palestinian.
This one's so much harder to kill.
Token, I'll be honest.
The Palestinian token guy. Oh my god, he's. I don't know if I have a video on where I cover him, but his story, it's incredibly sad, and then it's also pathetic because he lost like 20 family members in Gaza during the war.
Yeah,
and he weaponizes that.
Damn, I don't even have 20 family members. That's crazy.
To do pro-Israel propaganda. He's like, I don't blame Israel for this. I blame Hamas. Blah 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 blah. Oh my god, it's so pathetic and disgusting.
I mean, again,
Hamas has no value for their own people, so they hide like military infrastructure under civilians so that they can, so they can say like, oh, look, they're killing civilians. I'm not saying that makes that it doesn't exonerate Israel, the Israeli government, just to be absolutely clear, it doesn't exonerate them from what they're doing. It's just that neither group seems to have any value for Palestinian life there.
No one will touch.
I initially thought he could be saved, but I was wrong. Son of Hamas is just a joke.
I mean, he's a Mossad operative, isn't he?
No. His story is way funnier. Okay, he wasn't a Mossad operative. He was a Shin Bet operative.
Oh yeah, Shin Bet.
I don't know if any of this is true, by the way. This is probably all just like disinformation.
In the West Bank, and he ended up like he had to leave the West Bank for his own safety, obviously because he was a Shin Bet operative, and the Israelis did not help him. The Israelis did not let him enter Israel because he's a Palestinian. He's still a Palestinian, so he had to go to the US and beg for refugee status. He was initially denied refugee status until the Israelis like shipped over a bunch of former Shin Bet members to testify that he was a great servant to Israel, and then they gave him refugee status. So, like, he worked for Israel. He sold his soul. He sold his soul for Israel. And he still was not allowed in Israel. He had to go to the US.
Is he now allowed in Israel at least?
I don't think he's ever been to Israel, as far as I know.
No,
he went straight from Palestine to the US.
No, that motherfucker.
I'm not sure, but
bro, no way. He must be because like, dude, I feel like I've seen him on Israeli television.
He lives in the US. He usually is like on video link and stuff, but he speaks like he does the tour. The speaking tour in US universities is how he makes his money, most of it. And he might have visited Israel, but he's not allowed to live there.
Bro, he's such a nasty little fucking freak, dude. I hate him. He is the worst of the worst. Like he's. The thing, at least he's so
bad that like he's so bad and obvious that he's easy to ignore. I feel because it's like
do they realize that Palestinian people live in Israel? No, I don't think that they have ever acknowledged that like over 20% of the population is Palestinian.
Most people will discount him out of hand unless they're already Zionist.
Well, also because half of the people are going to be like, "You're Muslim. I don't care about you." So there's that too. Yeah. But no, it's my favorite. My favorite Zionist is like Rabbi Shmuley because I think he's basically creating anti-Zionists everywhere he goes. Like you could have motherfuckers who are like, listen, I went to Jewish camp. Like I grew up loving Israel. And then the one time that they stand next to Rabbi Shmuley, they're like, I'm done. I'm over. We have to dismantle.
I don't know anything about him. I mean, I've mostly heard him because I've seen anti-Semites talk about how much they hate him. So you're anti-Semitic by association. I'm sorry.
No.
Probably, yeah.
I think that he is not he's gross, but I don't think he's like, he doesn't anger me. I think it's like funny is what I'm saying.
He went on Piers Morgan and said on October 7th there was 400 bloody breasts that were cut off of women.
Yeah, and they played soccer. Like they said they chopped off Jewish women's breasts and played soccer with them.
400 of them as well.
Man, that's where Ethan Klein gets all the shit that he makes up about himself from Israel. It's like they mail me the skulls, they cut off the boobs. It's the same sort of shit.
Okay. Why are we so convinced that why are we so convinced that the human skulls are fake, Hasan? Why are you co-signing this unless you think that Ethan is lying about the human skulls? That's interesting. Okay.
What, any of that?
There's like no weight to these attacks.
See, that's the other thing. Like, I don't give a
just find it interesting that he's so, I mean, I don't know. He seems rather quick to brush off. Hasan has made zero argument against the concept that the skulls are fake. He doesn't disagree with it. It's fucking strange. He gives no pushback to this guy every time he keeps bringing up that the skulls were not real. It's very interesting.
A fuck about the drama stuff that happens to Ethan at all. So like, that was also really weird when he was like trying to fucking pin the shit on me, and I was like, "Did you ever get evidence that like someone called CPS?" And he was like, "No."
That's another thing. Like, I have not seen him provide any evidence that it even happened. And we're talking about the CPS shit. They're going to be so angry about it. I don't know. I'm not going to take anything this guy says at face value. He doesn't deserve that, given the shit that he says about other people, and given the fact that he just makes shit up all the time. But
I
like,
just don't understand how this is like pinned on whoever the fuck he
seems like you think that he just makes everything up, so you'll never agree when anything real happens.
seemingly is beefing with. You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, he's someone who was backed into a corner. I feel like he knows deep down that he can't, he's defending something that is indefensible. And when you're in that situation, you scream victim, and that's what he's been doing. Even if the CPS call did happen, like creating a victim narrative out of that is insane.
Even if it happened, didn't you try to take credit for it? What are you talking about? This guy sounds unhinged.
Like a little checkup on your kids for a day or two. Like, give me a fucking break, dude. He's treated like he was raided by SEAL Team 6 and the concubine guy took his kids to be like his janissary or something. The concubine guy, if you don't know, is the guy the SEAL Team 6 is the one who killed Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
I'm going to pretend they are. But one of them,
they are.
Like a bunch of twinks on Twitter that without social media.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about Mick Booyah.
That's my reference, yeah. So he's treating it like that guy came in with SEAL Team 6 and kidnapped these kids to be his fucking concubine or something, okay? That is the narrative that Ethan Klein is going with here. It sounds like he got swatted, basically. And, dude, it's just a visit from CPS. Should someone...
Hasan is like, yeah, not a big deal. CPS thing, yeah, he just exaggerates that. It's ridiculous. Traumatizing his kids, who cares? Just getting swatted. This is ridiculous. Dude, Hasan is such a creep.
Someone have called him on you? Like a random viewer? No, you shouldn't give a fuck about this guy and his kids enough to do that. But like he's treating it like he's been victimized in a fucking absurd way, and it's not what happened at all. And he's been doing this more and more and more. He's a victim of harassment. Everyone's harassing him. People call Hila a terrorist. There's no discussion of whether by his own definition she merits that label or not. Which is, by the way, how I got involved in this in the first place, because I saw what he was saying about Rashid, and it fucking offended me that he sees a like Arab teenager when by his own logic his wife fits that definition that he was using. So,
Yeah. Okay, but you guys said he wasn't terrorist. I'm confused.
A little bit before you
silly little visit from CPS. I heard that they bring candy when they visit. Did you guys know that?
Luckily, this fucking CPS agent certified. CPS or not CPS. Sorry, Customs and Border Patrol. CBP agent certified. Rashid Al Haddad vindicated. The American government's official position is that Rashid Al Haddad is not a Houthi. Okay, I think we can put the
if you say so
bed these claims because
he just tricked you into thinking it's about the fact that he had a Sunni last name and you're an expert on Middle Eastern affairs. He somehow tricked you as well. It's kind of embarrassing for you there, bud.
I would otherwise be in jail right now, I guess, and be a precedent-setting legal case that undermines free press and free speech in this goddamn country.
I love how they're sitting here talking about how Ethan just exaggerates every claim that he makes, like in CPS wasn't a big deal, and then he just plays victim, and then we have Hasan sitting here playing victim, acting like he would have been fucking arrested in this supposed like him supposedly getting stopped. But okay. Incredible. Wow.
Yeah, I mean... And then are the Houthis terrorists aside from by that definition? You don't come in because they might arrest you. In my opinion, they are not. Because
I told him that. I did tell him that. I was like, I think.
Oh, you shouldn't have done that. That's a bad idea.
No, I know. I told him. I did like the softest approach. I was like, I'm of the mindset of the Brookings Institute when they wrote a report in 2020 that Donald Trump's assessment on his way out of the administration to declare the Houthis a terrorist organization was actually quite problematic because it actually rendered aid. It stopped the rendering of aid, and it actually had zero impact on the Houthis because they had no financial incentives tied outside of.
I don't think any of this is true, to be honest. Listening to him talk about it, I don't believe him at all when he says that he got stopped. I don't believe this at all. I just think I think he's full of shit.
I told him that.
Yeah. And I mean, the entire reason that people are calling them terrorists is because of the blockade. If they weren't doing the blockade, none of these people would even be talking about them. Like, I don't know enough about what the Houthis have done aside from that to say that they haven't committed terrorist attacks or not. But that specific instance is not terrorist attacks. That specific action that they're taking isn't terrorist attacks. And people just harp on that. Like, if this guy was actually a Houthi, if he had actually helped to hijack ships, good on him.
Yeah, this is the thing, like, that I tried to explain to everyone that doesn't listen, because I think that they care more about, like, a gotcha in their minds, but I was like, I don't care if he's a fucking Houthi, dude. I thought he was before I interviewed him. He has no reason to fucking lie to me. He said he's not a Houthi, and then we moved on to other shit. Like, but even if he was a fucking Houthi, it's not going to stop me from interviewing him. And I've stressed this so many fucking times, and people literally don't...
Nobody has an issue with you interviewing him. It's the fact that you didn't give him any, like, critical interviewing at all. That's the issue people have with it.
They're like, nah, we got you, bro. You admitted he was a Houthi, and then you lied, and you said he wasn't because you're scared. And it's like... No, I'm not. I think it's my constitutionally protected right as an American citizen to actually fucking conduct an interview with a member of the Ansar Allah administration if I fucking want to. Okay? I will have a Al-Houthi family member if I want to. Like, what the fuck are we talking about?
I saw some of the Slop tubers set up the argument that you shouldn't have done that by saying, like, well...
Slop tubers.
Well, Osama bin Laden was interviewed, and that's not necessarily something that, shouldn't be allowed to happen. But... in Hasan's case, it's actually different for actually no reason at all, just because.
No, the reason is because
I've never seen anybody make that argument. Then again, I'm not a big fan of all the other Slop tubers. Well, not that I'm not a big fan. I'm just not very in close relation. I think that the actual going argument is like you didn't ask him any critical questions at all. You asked him about anime. Like you didn't ask him anything about like anything. That's it. And when he was like, "Oh, the people that we captured, they think we're so cool," and Hasan's like, "Yeah, this is fucking awesome, dude." And he just started like literally fucking jerking himself off in front. That's what. That's my interpretation. Start jacking off all over the place.
They say Hasan glazed them. He asked them about fucking
yeah,
One
that
Piece
was
and
it.
shit.
Yeah, that's what you did do. Oh, fuck my mom's balls. What the hell?
You talked
That's
about
what it is.
anime.
Where they're so stupid. It's like, yeah,
they
I
didn't
did.
talk about anime with Osama.
I asked a 19-year-old Yemeni teenager who, even if he was a part of the fucking Houthi movement, I would not consider to be like an enemy of America, or even if he was an enemy of America, fucking good. We deserve to have a lot of these fucking enemies.
Whoa, what the hell?
Like, what the fuck are we talking about? What are they supposed to love us? Like, we did a fucking man-made blockade that created massive famine in the goddamn country, and we weren't even brave enough to do it ourselves. We let the fucking Saudis do it with our goddamn weapons and our fucking air force and our munitions. It was Boeing rockets that blew up the goddamn school bus in fucking Sanaa and shit. And oh my god, I can't believe they're walking over the Israeli and the American flag. Like, suck my dick, dude. They can do whatever the fuck they want with the American flag and the Israeli flag. I wipe my ass with the American flag.
Damn.
Fuck this.
Hell
This
yeah.
guy's cool as
Do you?
hell.
You might get arrested for that soon.
I know, but it's
Okay.
like, I mean,
Well, no, probably never, but okay.
this is the shit I do say all the time, and then people will clip it and be like, look, he's so radical and he's so scary. And it's like, yeah, let's not.
I just think you're kind of like edgy and boring. Like, honestly, that's pretty much all Hasan is. He's just an edgy, boring dude.
Investigate why people would be so resentful about America. Let's just simply talk about how Hasan only says America bad. You know?
Well, that is pretty much all he does say is America bad. He's been pretty clear about that.
Next
Yeah, I
time
mean,
someone yells at you
Again, he doesn't give a fuck about what's going on in Russia. So,
about that,
In
and they
most of
clip you,
these
you should be
or
like,
excuse me, in Ukraine. Let me not say the wrong thing.
It's true.
hey, send them to me and tell them to debate me. Not because I want to like be your champion or something, but because I need people to debate because I destroy them and they're all scared, and I need someone to send them to me. So could
I
you?
don't think it's people are scared. I think people don't really have an interest. I mean, this guy seems to have no problem with the lying constantly. So like, that's not something that anybody like most people aren't equipped to deal with somebody that like likes to lie a lot. So hey, listen, man, if you want to debate, go for like Loner Box or something. He's somebody that's like super educated on all the shit that you're going to lie about. So just debate that guy. There's really no reason to do a debate with this guy. Right? I'm not gonna. He's not gonna sit there and have a conversation with you. He's gonna sit here and he's going to debate. I mean, in this conversation, he was literally saying we shouldn't care about anti-Semitism. Why the fuck? Why is this somebody that you would want to even bother trying to contend with?
You think about that?
Okay, I'll ask them to debate you in the
I would be
future.
the biggest fucking debate, bro, but I can't fucking find people to debate. Like the people who debate me, like random Reddit commenters who like send me emails and they're like, "Hey man,
Oh, maybe you should worry about optics more.
I'm an Ethan Klein fan, and I wanted to talk about this thing that you said." And it's like I respect that you're willing to debate me, but I prefer to speak to someone who's like a YouTuber or a Twitch streamer or something rather than a random guy.
It's not gonna happen. The only reason why they do it to me is because one, I have a lot. Like, no disrespect to you, but you are in the filth all the time. So like, it's very hard to tackle your image in that way. Like, it doesn't matter if they clip you out of context. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
and then
looking
also on top of
that,
that,
be like this.
not only that, but also like you're what was I gonna say? I'm forgetting. It's fucking so late. Holy shit! I've been live since 11. I'm on my 10th hour right now.
Poor baby.
I've been live since
Yeah.
yesterday at 4 p.m.
Yeah, I've only been live for like 4 hours, and I'll probably get off soon. Because I mean, I don't have to stream all day and then pretend that it's hard.
Get ready.
They'll never do it because like they don't care about anything. They just like want to drive home a fucking narrative.
It's just
That's
this one
it.
guy.
I mean, I get views. I actually like people when they put me in the title, they actually get views, which is surprising. So
I don't think
they
it's surprising.
might entice them. I mean, I'm not that well known.
Nope.
Okay, the mic. You guys are muted. One sec.
Damn, he's muting
Oh,
him.
shit.
A
I fucked up.
mutiny.
One sec.
Wait, shouldn't have fucking healed there.
Oh no, they're laughing.
Fuck. Oh, I wonder if I have like the dual sabers.
They're sharing so many laughs anti-Semitically.
Wonder if it's like, oh, it kind of is better. Fuck. Just have to adjust to the playstyle.
Hold on, you guys are muted. Just letting you know.
Damn, though, you're fucking your shit up, buddy.
Saying Ethan Klein debate me.
Damn.
Okay, you're back. Ethan Klein to make me. He said
Hello.
that you got challenged.
Yeah, I was saying, Ethan Klein, debate me, Ethan Klein. Don't be a pussy. You can confront me. You can ask me why I called CPS. Did I call CPS? Let's find out, Ethan. You can ask me why I sent the skulls. Ethan, let's do it. Let's
Debate
go. Ethan.
See, that's what I mean. Like, I'm not interested in any of these conversations. I
This
don't.
is activism. This is revolution.
That's what I mean. I don't really care about this stuff at all. I mean, it's a good entry point for you potentially to get
I
Ethan.
think it was a good comparison earlier in the stream when I said he's kind of like Destiny. I'm not trying to insult that. Well, maybe I am, but not really. I don't think Destiny is quite as unhinged as this guy in any capacity, but there's like a similarity there. Like, to be honest with you.
And to talk to you, but I don't think he's going to do it. Like I was saying, they're going to chop this up. They're going to chop this up in a way where it's like they'll chop it so much that it'll come across like I said I called CPS or something. Like right now, at this very moment, they're going to cut it like 2-second clip. and his fucking audience is so stupid that they will believe it. That's what pisses me off about everything. Like, sure, we talk about politics, we talk about the pessimism that we feel, but goddamn, there's nothing dumber than a fucking slop tuber enjoyer who unironically has an inflated sense of fucking intelligence from watching some of the dumbest people on the planet try to talk about complex political issues. There's nothing that breaks my brain.
I personally just say Wes good, as opposed to others who take the very nuanced stance of saying Wes bad. Incredible, you know.
More than like having to fucking entertain a guy who can't even string 3 fucking sentences together, being like trying to repeat the talking points that they got from the likes of Ethan fucking Klein, who a couple years prior they would have openly recognized is a dumbass who is only predisposed with goofs and fucking gaffes.
Damn, I guess Ethan really grew up a lot then in those years, huh? Ethan, you're such a smart guy. You learned so much in your adulthood. It's fucking crazy. What am I supposed to do?
Ethan Klein's like original, like the way he gets the talking points in the first place is from like a game of telephone from his 5 staff members in ChatGPT. So and then by the time he gets to be able to
and Stalkman and fucking Sex Pest and Boner Box. Like I think it's those guys that are giving him talking points.
Boner Box.
So you could tell like in the debate with you when he started talking over you, he was actively asking ChatGPT for talking points and he would just read them verbatim, and he had never actually read them before. He was just going over them in that moment, especially during the part about like the Jewish expulsions. Holy shit, that was the most obvious ChatGPT moment I've ever seen in my life.
Why was it ChatGPT? The Jewish expulsions were real. What?
I think it was ChatGPT. I suspect it was Boner Box that gave him like he clip chimped Avi Shlaim, dude. That was so fucking devastating. I was like this is such a disservice to hundreds of thousands of people that are gonna fucking watch this. And
well, why? That guy. Sorry, I'm white. I can't pronounce things. He was basically just acknowledging that one of the reasons that the Jews were the biggest reason that the Jews were kicked out of their surrounding Arab countries was because of anti-Semitism, not because the bombs went off. Several of which, I think 3 of the 5 of which are actually done by like potentially Israeli forces at the time, I think. But the overwhelming majority of the reason was because there was systemic oppression pushing Jews out of the surrounding Arabic countries. I forget which country they were specifically referring to, but
believe you, like you are deluding hundreds of thousands of people. It makes me so
such
mad.
a fucking shit show as well. Like literally just talking over you, reading like an entire thing that someone else sent him while you're still speaking. Like, oh, holy fuck. That would be my debate with him. But the thing is, I would like scream back at him.
I find this like kind of funny and almost ironic because they're sitting here saying like, oh, Ethan just gets all of his talking points from like Loner Box and shit. Meanwhile, Hasan refused to watch Ethan's content he got about him for 4 months, but he would just watch Bad Empanada counter like 5 minutes of Ethan's video for like an hour. And it's like, oh, so you're criticizing Ethan for taking talking points from someone else, but that's exactly what you're doing, no?
I would scream louder and I would win, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's not how that works. If I had screamed at any given moment in that over the course of 5 hours and 40 minutes, that would be the only thing that they plastered. Because the conversation that I had with Ethan Pryor, where he like cried at the end of it because people were being mean to him, was literally only remembered by all of these fucking debate pornographers who only care about the blood sport, except for that one conversation that me and Ethan had 2 fucking years ago at this point, where Ethan Klein left crying. At that point, they said, Hasan, you're so mean. And that was the only narrative because they recognized that there was no fucking argument that Ethan could present that looked good. So they literally just hyper-focused on how fucking mean I was when I told him I was entertaining him with kitty gloves. And it's mind-boggling how quickly these fucking debate pedophiles will switch off. At one point, they fucking love the blood sport. But as soon
Bro, you're talking to somebody who's literally fucking gooning to the thought of debating everybody that he possibly can for attention, and you're sitting here talking about debate pedophiles? I don't know. He looks so stupid in this conversation. It's ridiculous.
As soon as it's like no longer fashionable to love the blood sport because their side in the conversation is like losing the conversation, then the debate pedophiles turn around and hit the optics point to be like, I can't believe how sad he made his podcast co-host.
Yeah, like the first people give a shit about that. And I mean, it's also
I don't like it when Ethan cries. It makes me so sad, dude. It makes me so sad.
Like, I hope you've learned since then that these people do not deserve you being nice to them. These people either directly support or tacitly support child murder, mass child murder. That's ultimately what it is. This is the main point of contention.
What am I, a conservative that doesn't like healthcare?
Be mean to them. If they feel bad, if they feel harassed, honestly, great. I don't give a fuck.
That's crazy, man. This guy's a good guy. You could tell that he says this because like he's a good person, not because he just likes to engage in whatever form of violence he feels is acceptable. That's what I like so much about this guy. He's just such a genuine guy. Incredible.
Fuck each and every one of them. We need to be mean to these guys. We need to be assholes. They deserve it. They really do deserve it.
I think that there's no winning over the fucking slop tuber audiences. They're
too parasocial.
They have a stranglehold. They have a stranglehold on
guys. I just need you guys to understand something. This whole slop tuber audience thing. I know you guys are probably sitting here and you know, because let's be fucking real here. You know, we're slopping it up here. I know that you guys are probably sitting here being like, oh, I'm offended. He's discrediting my existence. I'm a slop tuber, but I'm smart. Okay, well, that's debatable. We're all very dumb, but we're so dumb we think we're smart, and that's what counts. And what we need to do is we need to embrace it. Don't let Hasan be like, "Oh, you're just a slop tuber." Yeah, I am, bitch. But so are you. So are you, Hasan. You're also a slop tuber. That's exactly what you are. You do political slop. Okay? You're a political slop tuber. That's what it is. Okay? Trump is a slop tuber as well. That guy's a fucking moron. That's all it is. Why do you think Hasan's platform took off in 2020? Because Trump is such an easy W. Because he's so fucking stupid, dude. He's so fucking dumb. And then everything he talks about, it's all slop. That's why he keeps engaging with people. He keeps engaging with them while being like, I'm not one of them. Yes, you are. Or else you'd ignore us. Okay? That's what it comes down to. Okay? Guys. How do you think that this is really good? Did Israel cheat in Eurovision 2025? Guys, that's not slop. This is a live stream Holocaust. Joe Biden has cancer? Wait, that's not slop. Is that not slop? What? The Oxford Q&A, probably not slop. But a lot of this is slop. AI is breaking people's brains. It's like maybe a 50-50, 70-30, where most of this is just sloppy poppy over here. He's just slopping it up, occasionally doing some more seriously toned videos so he could be like, guys, I'm not a slop tuber. I actually do politics. I'm a politic guy. You're a political slop heap. What are you talking about? That's what it boils down to. Okay, stop pretending otherwise. Stop it. Stop it.
So much on the dumb guy contingency. And I think there was a
guy. Like the same people who used to like screech about
Saved by the Bell reference?
Some people crying about anti-Semitism are now doing that because suddenly Ethan Klein is their friend.
Yeah.
What?
I know. It's fucking. It's so ridiculous. I mean,
I've always kind of. Well, you know, there's times where the only time I really I was pretty. It's so funny because like back in the day, like I remember I remember seeing like a video, like a Turkey Tom was talking about it, because I would like react to Turkey Tom videos every once in a while, and I'd be like critical of Ethan. I'd be like, oh, these are kind of stupid talking points. You know what I mean? I'm not calling Turkey Tom stupid or anything. He did disappear though. Cringe, am I right? Anyway, and they would complain because I'd be like more pro Ethan. The only time I became like anti Ethan was really in like the Hasan Parker like area, when I really like, you know, I realized Hasan was a piece of shit when he justified Russia invading Ukraine. And then after that, like I started seeing more and more of how of a disingenuous fuck he was. And that's when I started being more critical of Ethan. You know? So, you know, you can't even say that I was like this big anti-Ethan Klein guy. Okay? I was pretty Uncle Ethan Klein, honestly.
And the people themselves, they say anti-Semitic shit. They say actually anti-Semitic shit. And then they turn around and they're like, wow, these guys are being big anti-Semites.
True. What do they say? Like, what's some of the stuff? What is it? Nicholas eats Oreos? That's what he calls them? What anti-Semitic stuff does Nicholas eats Oreos? Nicky D's, I call him. Mr. Lips. Really, what his name is Mr. Rhetoric. That's actually what we're going to start doing. We're going to start calling him Mr. Rhetoric. We're going to start doing that. We're going to have to do a video talking about Mr. Rhetoric soon, just so that we could start popularizing that name. I think I really want that one to take off. Mr. Rhetoric.
I'm fucking so annoying. Anyway, I got to go to bed. I'm so tired.
Me too, dude. I'm farting. Wait, what?
All right, thank you guys.
Do you have someone else? No problem. It's finally great to talk to Hasan Piker, the perfidious Ottoman. The Ottoman Hasan Piker has been confronted by Bad Empanada, wanted international criminal. Multiple counts of crimes committed by Bad Empanada, platformed by Hasan Piker. Hasan Piker, anti-Semite, platformed Bad Empanada on his stream.
Agrees with everything.
Someone get that to the New York Post, please. Thank you.
Yeah. The New York Times.
He agrees with everything that I say.
The New York Times. Get it to CNN.
Do you condemn him? No, he says.
Do you condemn Bad Empanada?
That's so funny. That's going to be the next question. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks for coming on.
I've had people stopped at the border of the U.S. and asked about their association with me. So next time it might happen.
Wow.
For real?
Okay. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
I want to put it past them. They asked me about my Twitch ban, so. All right.
Wow.
Next.
The optics looking pretty good for you guys then, huh?
Peace,
Sabra hummus. Bye.
Bye. Sabra hummus.
Yeah. Sabra hummus, I guess. I don't know where Sabra hummus comes from, though, because Jewish people usually get circumcised, and I know that's where all my hummus is. I'm just kidding. I'm also circumcised.